Our boy finds himself standing on cracked stone, realizing with a grimace that he's back in this strange place again. He's on a floating island of rubble, a desolate landscape drifting through an endless, hazy twilight. Surrounded by Western-style ruins, he notes the complete absence of any life, a true dead world. But then, his eyes catch a flicker of light in the distance, a single point of focus in the vast emptiness. A silhouette with glowing red eyes emerges from the abyss, and Jinwoo is dumbfounded to see it's a person. A colossal, muscular figure with wild blonde hair lands before him, radiating an insane amount of pressure. The giant smirks, his glowing eyes fixed on Jinwoo, telling him that he's been waiting for him at the edge of the abyss. The sheer intensity of the vision causes our boy's eyes to snap open. He wakes up with a jolt, gasping for air and drenched in a cold sweat in his own bed. Catching his breath, he realizes with dread that it was that same weird, unsettling dream all over again. A voice cuts through the morning haze, yelling for Sora to get up or he'll be late. As he gets ready, the dream haunts him. He feels a strange connection to that figure from the abyss. Wiping the steam from the mirror, he stares at his own reflection, trying to make sense of the vision. He just laughs it off while brushing his teeth, figuring he's just been studying too hard lately. But as he rinses, a reflection of a ripped, shirtless man suddenly appears behind him. Turns out it's just his dad, who playfully messes with his hair for oversleeping. Sora, completely grossed out by his dad's lack of clothes, grabs some mouthwash to get away. His dad just keeps yapping, promising to buy a huge house for him and his brother Riku once he's rich. Our boy is completely over it, muttering that he's been hearing that same old story for 5 years now. His dad just laughs, saying their life got way more interesting after he joined the self-defense force. Sora rinses his mouth, his mind drifting to his older brother. It's been 3 years since he joined the force, and Sora plans to follow in his footsteps soon. He joins his parents for breakfast, knowing he'll have to say goodbye to this simple life eventually. He thinks about his dad, a bit of a goofball but reliable deep down, and his mom, who looks tough as nails but loves her family more than anything. She gives him a hug, and for a moment, he wishes things could just stay like this forever. But just as he savors the peace, the entire building begins to violently shake. He always knew his world would end someday, a strange premonition he couldn't shake. But he never, ever expected it to end with a colossal, world-shattering tower erupting from the city. Elsewhere, Jinwoo stares out his window, utterly dumbfounded by the impossible sight before him. Back then, our boy had no idea this colossal tower would completely rewrite the fate of humanity. But as he stared, he felt a chilling certainty that this impossible structure was tied to his dreams. The very same dream that had haunted his nights, a dark premonition of the chaos to come. He remembers his older brother trying to calm the family, saying he'd be back soon after following orders from the self-defense force. But even over the phone, his promise sounded weak, a desperate attempt to sound brave. After that night, the line went dead, and they never heard from his brother again. The family could only huddle together, watching news reports that naively told them everything would be fine if they just stayed home. But the reality was a nightmare, as a terrified reporter announced 20 of these towers had erupted all over the globe. Then, just as suddenly, all broadcasts cut to static, plunging the world into an eerie silence. The only thing left was a looped emergency message urging people to evacuate to shelters, a grim soundtrack to the end of the world. Before leaving, his mom clung to a sliver of hope, writing a letter for his brother in case he ever came back. With heavy hearts and heavier packs, the family began their trek through the eerily quiet city streets. Our boy felt a chilling premonition, as if the world itself was screaming that something was terribly wrong. He then caught sight of military vehicles rolling past, the first sign of any official presence. But looking into the soldier's eyes, Jinwoo saw no hope, only the hollow gaze of a man who had already lost. The military trucks were covered in deep, monstrous-looking claw marks, proof they'd been fighting a losing battle. A rotten stench hung in the air, a smell of death that followed the vehicles like a plague. His dad could only murmur in disbelief, wondering what in the hell was happening to their world. They finally reached their destination, a gymnasium hastily converted into a temporary shelter. Inside was a sea of refugees, a silent, grim crowd that had completely given up on hope. The air in the shelter was thick with despair. It felt like everyone was just waiting on a death sentence. His mom calls him over to where they found a small space, but even in the silence, tension is brewing. Because when society collapses, there are always trash-tier troublemakers who crawl out of the woodwork. One such thug eyes a small kid who's just trying to eat a piece of bread. Suddenly, the man snatches the food away, screaming that the kid stole his bread. The terrified boy can only stammer that he didn't steal anything. But the thug isn't listening, insisting everyone was given one piece and that the kid must have eaten his share. Without warning, he smashes his fist right into the kid's face. The other refugees just watch, too defeated or scared to even think about intervening. The thug just scoffs, holding the kid down with a smug look, clearly enjoying the power trip. With a twisted grin, the thug says he's just borrowing the bread from the now full kid. He then declares the bread is his, until the kid dies, which he figures won't be long. The poor kid can only cry, knowing he's too weak to fight back in this hellscape. But just then, a hand clamps down on the thug's shoulder. Jinwoo's dad has seen enough. The thug just smirks, telling the geezer to mind his own damn business. With ice in his veins, our boy's dad simply orders him to give the bread back. Enraged, the thug throws a wild punch, screaming for the old man to shut up, but he's way too slow. A vicious kick from Jinwoo's dad slams right into his gut. The trash-tier bully is completely knocked out, laid flat on the cold concrete floor. Jinwoo's dad calmly hands the bread back to the stunned kid as the thug seethes in defeat. Jinwoo's dad doesn't even flinch, his eyes burning with cold fury. The thug clutches his gut, seething with humiliation after being one-shotted. He gets to his feet, spits on the ground, and warns the old man to remember his face. Jinwoo watches with wide eyes, calling out to his dad in concern, but his father just calmly tells him not to worry, promising he'll keep an eye on that piece of work. The thug storms off, swearing to himself that he'll never forget this, even if it kills him. Suddenly, Jinwoo freezes, his expression turning to one of pure shock and dread. A name from his past surfaces in his mind. Kagawa Eiji. He remembers all too well. This was the bastard who enjoyed tormenting him back in the day. Turns out, the thug and his old bully are cut from the same trash-tier cloth. Before Jinwoo can process his thoughts, a soldier bursts in, shouting that there's an emergency call. He yells for everyone to evacuate immediately to a high-mobility vehicle behind the shelter. A man in a suit, clearly feeling important, steps forward and coldly asks for a reason. The flustered soldier can only stammer that the details are confidential, and he can't say more. This answer clearly isn't good enough for the suit, whose patience has officially run out. He explodes with rage, kicking the soldier and screaming about being locked up for 2 days with no explanation. Another vicious kick lands as he demands to know what his taxes are even for if this is the treatment they get. The soldier is left completely stunned as the crowd's anger begins to boil over. Suddenly, pure terror takes over the soldier's face as he shoves the man back, screaming that they are coming. Jinwoo wastes no time, grabbing his confused parents and urging them to hurry, sensing a familiar dread. Our boy Jinwoo looks back, a chilling premonition washing over him. The shelter door begins to buckle, as the soldier on the ground screams for everyone to get to the cars. With a massive crash, the door is obliterated, revealing a horde of armored monsters ready for a slaughter. Leading the charge is a hulking, tusked beast whose very presence screams end boss. Jinwoo is completely frozen, his mind struggling to even comprehend what the hell he's looking at. Absolute pandemonium erupts as the refugees scatter, screaming for their lives from the monstrous invaders. In the chaos, Jinwoo hears his parents calling his name, trying to keep him close. But it's a full-blown stampede now, with people trampling each other just to get away. Realizing he's slowing them down, Jinwoo screams for his parents to go on without him. Hes immediately swallowed by the tide of panicked bodies, his hands reaching out as Hes separated from his family. The chaos snaps Jinwoo back to another memory, a desperate evacuation where he tried to save a girl named Sora. But the people already on the truck are screaming that it's full, telling him to get lost. Our boy grits his teeth, realizing he can't make it on with her. He lets go, shouting to Sora that he'll find another truck to get on. He sprints to the next vehicle, only to find it's also packed with grim-faced refugees. Damn it, that one's full too. He's running out of options and time. Spotting the last truck in the convoy, he makes a desperate leap for it. He barely grabs on before 2 other guys start kicking his hands, trying to send him falling. His fingers slip, the rough metal scraping his skin as his grip gives way. But just as Hes about to fall, a stranger's hand grabs his, pulling him up to safety. His savior smirks, mockingly asking if our boy was about to say thank you. Jinwoo's blood runs cold as he looks up, his eyes wide with shock and horror. Turns out, the guy who saved him is none other than Eiji Kagawa, his trash-tier high school bully. With a vicious grin, Eiji shoves him off the truck, telling him to die in his dad's place. Jinwoo hits the ground hard as the other refugees swarm him, kicking him without a second thought. He tries to block the blows, but it's a pointless struggle against the merciless crowd. Curled up on the cold asphalt, his only thought is that he doesn't want to die like this. He desperately cries out in his mind for someone, anyone, to please help him. But then, a pair of glowing, ethereal feet land softly right in front of him. A spectral figure, the same giant from his dream, suddenly appears, shielding him from the mob. Jinwoo is dumbfounded, realizing this is the same being from his dreams. The entity's voice echoes in his mind, promising to wait for him at the end of the abyss. As the vision fades, our boy is left lying on the ground, utterly confused by the cryptic message. Suddenly, he snaps awake, gasping for air and questioning if that entire brutal experience was just a nightmare. But before he can even process where he is, a crude stone hammer comes swinging right for his head. He instinctively throws up an arm to block, his mind reeling from the sudden attack. The attacker is revealed to be a vicious-looking goblin, its eyes glowing with malice. Our boy scrambles backward in pure terror, wondering where his parents are and why he's all alone with these monsters. Looking around, he sees a desolate wasteland and wonders if he's dead, or if this is some kind of hell. The hammer smashes into his shoulder, and the searing pain confirms this is no dream, this is his new, horrifying reality. He connects the dots, this is all because of the monsters that appeared that day. Our boy scrambles backward, desperately wondering why he's the only one being targeted. The goblin lunges forward, a blur of green skin and malice, ready to tear him apart. As he runs for his life, his mind flashes back to the day the world ended, when that colossal tower pierced the sky. He remembers the face of the scumbag who threw him from the truck, and the mysterious stranger who saved him. The memories collide with his current nightmare, the chaos, the monsters, and the overwhelming terror. But this time, fear is replaced by a burning rage, as a strange power awakens within his eyes. With a primal scream, he pivots and unleashes a devastating punch, channeling all his hatred into the blow. He collapses to his knees, bloody and exhausted, but somehow, he actually survived the encounter. Looking at the corpse, he realizes it looks just like a video game monster, complete with strange runes on its chest. But as he tries to catch his breath, he realizes he's surrounded by the claws of other dead monsters. Suddenly, a strange, shimmering purple crystal begins to materialize from the goblin's corpse. Our boy can only stare, completely dumbfounded by this impossible sight. It looks like some kind of mana stone, sticking right out of the monster's chest where the runes used to be. Before he can even react, the crystal pulls itself free and hovers ominously in the air right in front of him. The damn thing suddenly shoots forward like a bullet, heading straight for his chest. It phases directly into his body, and he grits his teeth, expecting the worst. But instead of pain, he feels the gash on his face miraculously heal in an instant. A wave of purple energy washes over him, and he realizes he feels stronger, much stronger than before. A crazy thought hits him as he picks up a weapon. If he kills monsters, can he level up just like in a game? With a new sense of purpose, our boy decides to scout the island to make sure he's not about to get jumped. He surveys the desolate ruins, a landscape of pure destruction as far as the eye can see. After a full sweep of the area, he comes to a grim conclusion. Turns out, that goblin was the only monster here. The rest of the island is completely empty. His eyes then lock onto the only feature that stands out. A floating island with a staircase leading down into the clouds, his only possible way out. Using the monster's hammer like a pickaxe, he carefully makes his way down the cliffside. He reaches the start of the path, a set of floating stairs leading into a foggy abyss. A cold sweat runs down his back. Every instinct is screaming that this is a trap. But with no other choice, he takes a deep breath and starts his descent down the treacherous path. His mind flashes to video games, thinking this is the perfect spot for an ambush. But he knows damn well there's no respawn button if he falls. He admits to himself he's too terrified to test if this is all just some twisted game. After what feels like an eternity, he finally makes it to solid ground, realizing the stairs led to a massive structure. Our boy cautiously peeks around the corner, hammer held tight, ready for anything. He moves deeper into the stone corridor, his senses on high alert in the oppressive darkness. Suddenly, a torch on the wall bursts into flame, lighting up the path ahead. The light reveals a massive chamber with a single, ominous stone tablet standing in the center. He touches the strain. The letters are alien, their meaning floods directly into his mind. The inscription reveals he's in the abyss and must gather all the fragments of the inscriber to earn his freedom. A grin spreads across his face as he realizes there's a clear path forward, a way to escape this nightmare. With his objective set, our boy is fired up and ready to take on this challenge head-on. Thinking back, he realizes that first monster was trashed here, and a surge of confidence hits him he can actually make it out of here alive. With renewed resolve, he shoves open the massive stone doors, bracing himself for whatever lies on the next floor. As he progresses, our boy starts to piece together the brutal rules of this so-called abyss. He recalls the first floor, a small room with a single goblin monster marked with the number 1. Then the second floor was twice as large, guarded by 2 wolf-like beasts, with one holding the key marked 2. He figured out that these glowing fragments are the keys to the next level, and they're only found inside these numbered monsters. The system is simple but ruthless. The higher the floor, the stronger the monsters become. But a grim realization dawns on him: the real challenge isn't just the strength, it's finding the key monster. Because with each ascent, the area of the floor doubles, creating a vast and deadly hunting ground. And to make things a living hell, the number of monsters quadruples, forcing him to carve through an entire army for one single key. But our boy wasn't just taking it. With every agonizing battle, he was getting stronger too. He became a force of nature, shattering the very ground as he carved his way through the abyss. The higher he climbed, the more insane the number of monsters became, an endless sea of enemies. He even ran into an old nightmare on the 12th floor, the very same beast that attacked the shelter. But the monster that once seemed invincible was now just another corpse left in his wake. The grind was relentless. The more monsters he faced, the more numb he became to the slaughter. The system notifications became a blur as the monster count climbed from thousands into the millions. Some keyholders were colossal titans, so massive they blotted out the sky. Finding the target often felt impossible, like searching for a single grain of sand in a desert of death. Other times, the key monster was buried deep within a horde, forcing him to butcher an entire army to get to it. Some keyholders were a pain, hiding deep inside caves like cowards, but the most annoying ones were a special kind of trash. They were the ones he found only after butchering every single monster on the floor. But no matter the trick, the result was always the same. He'd find the target and utterly annihilate it without a second thought. He just kept moving forward, one bloody floor at a time, and on the 42nd floor of the abyss, he was greeted by over 2 trillion monsters, a literal ocean of death stretching as far as the eye could see. But our boy just grins, thinking this endless war is absolutely fantastic. The sky of the 42nd floor is filled with nothing but wyverns and the stench of death. After so long, our boy, now with flowing white hair, wonders how many years have passed. But he quickly realizes that time is no longer a valid concept in this endless abyss. The only thing that exists here is the cycle of death and killing, marked on the walls. Yet, his eyes aren't filled with despair, but with an ice-cold, unbreakable will. A new challenger steps up, a massive brute with an axe, ready to try its luck. For Jinwoo, this is just another Tuesday. There's the monster's death, and then there's him, the one doing the killing, utterly unfazed by the giant looming over him. The wall, already covered in countless tally marks, gets another fresh coat of blood, and in a flash of pure power, the brute is instantly annihilated, its head exploding into gore. The force of his last kill sends a shockwave through the desolate wasteland. Our boy stands over yet another mangled corpse, barely even registering the new coat of blood. Has been at this for so long, has completely lost track of how many he's killed. It doesn't matter. Hell, just walk over to the wall and carve another tally mark. But he's not just marking a kill this time, he's searching for a specific spot among the endless scratches. He raises his arms, believing it's finally time to find the key he's been looking for. As if summoned by his words, the entire ground begins to shake and explode upwards. A colossal, insectoid beast of pure nightmare erupts from beneath the ruins. It makes a flashy entrance, but Jinwoo just stands there, completely unimpressed by its size. With his eye glowing a menacing purple, he stares down the monster, wondering if this is the key he's been waiting for. The colossal beast brings its massive claw down, aiming to crush our boy in a single strike. But Jinwoo effortlessly dodges the attack, not even breaking a sweat. He reflects that no matter how strong his opponents seem, the outcome is always the same. These monsters that think they're his equal are just deluding themselves. In a flash, a whole swarm of them lies dead on the ground, all taken out with a single hit. Yet, this overwhelming victory brings him no joy. This isn't what he's looking for. He's become so powerful that just getting stronger has become completely meaningless. Clenching his fist in frustration, he desperately wonders where it is. He screams into the sky, demanding the key to the 42nd floor to finally reveal itself. As another endless horde of monsters fills the sky, he realizes he's just so sick of this cycle. The story rewinds to the beginning, when 20 mysterious towers suddenly appeared across the globe. Humanity was completely unprepared for what was about to happen. From these towers, hordes of monsters swarmed out, devastating the world's cities. This cataclysmic event would forever be known as Judgment Day. But some of the survivors awakened to a mysterious system, gaining incredible combat power. These newly awakened were humanity's last hope against the endless tide of monsters. They formed guilds, fought back, and slowly began to rebuild a shattered world. And then were snapped back to our boy, Jinwoo, desperately fleeing from a vicious horned beast. Turns out, it's not just monsters on his tail. Other awakened are hunting him down, demanding he reveal his stats. But they're left dumbfounded as Jinwoo stops, revealing he was using an advanced scroll to summon something truly terrifying. Suddenly, our boy hears something and wonders if that was actually human speech. In the distance, a massive pillar of light erupts, and he can't believe his eyes. Is that an exit? A spark of hope ignites within him. A way out of this hell might actually exist. He stares intently, his mind racing as he confirms that this is his one chance to escape. But this is no simple portal. It's a colossal summoning circle tearing through the fabric of reality. A system warning flashes, stating the abyssal summon can only transfer 2 beings at most. Realizing the catch, his hope instantly turns to cold, hard resolve, his eye glowing a menacing red. A strange pattern appears on his face as he decides he's not asking for permission to leave. He roars with defiance, vowing that absolutely no one is going to get in his way. Meanwhile, back on Earth, a dark and twisted landscape reveals the other side of this terrifying ritual. A pink-haired woman named Yu Sonozaki is running for her life, completely out of breath. She pushes on through the twisted forest, her high heel snapping as she stumbles. She knows she can't let them keep chasing her, but at only level 19, her options are slim. Suddenly, a gnarled vine shoots out and wraps around her ankle, tripping her up. She's sent flying through the air, crashing hard into the dirt and tangled branches. It's bad. She's completely caught and can barely move, realizing her escape has failed. The vines tighten around her, controlled by an unseen enemy who calls her a hassle. Two figures emerge, a druid named Aika and a swordsman, demanding she hand over an advanced transfer scroll. The swordsman, Chuji Shido, sneers that a level 60 scroll is wasted on a newbie, but Aika calmly tells him not to kill her. Dumbfounded, Yu shouts that attacking other hunters is forbidden. It's a direct violation of the rules. A third hunter, a level 38 barbarian named Shaoxi Toshida, just scoffs at her pathetic talk of rules. He slams his massive blade down next to her head, sneering that out here, he is the rules. With his eyes glowing red, he gives her an ultimatum. Hand over the scroll, or he'll break every bone in her body. But Yu isn't about to give up, warning him that he really doesn't want to push her any further. Aika sees the scroll glowing in Yu's hand and panics, shouting that she's about to use a force summon. Shaoxi is furious, his eyes flaring with power as he realizes she's not bluffing. He lunges forward in a blur of motion, determined to rip the scroll from her hands, but his blade just clangs against the ground as Yu dodges. The scroll already activated. Shaoxi stares in disbelief as a brilliant light erupts from the ground. It's a teleportation circle. With a look of pure defiance, Yu declares that if she's going to die, she's taking them all with her. Aika screams in terror, realizing a force summon of this level is uncontrollable. This is the end for all of them. Shaoxi desperately yells for someone to stop her, but he's too late as the ground erupts in a storm of blue lightning. With a furious scream, Yu unleashes all her power, ready to drag everyone down with her. A massive vortex of energy rips open the sky, and a bolt of pure power slams into the ground between them. Even the arrogant Chuji is sweating bullets, muttering to Aika that this energy feels seriously bad news. Ethereal chains, crackling with lightning, descend from the vortex, signaling the arrival of something truly terrifying. A colossal leg slams down from the portal, and the entire group can only stare, dumbfounded at the scale of the summon. But as the smoke clears, the creature is revealed. A system window pops up, identifying it as a measly level 3 Cerberus. The bullies, who were just bracing for death, burst out laughing, mocking the cutie she summoned. Yu is in complete disbelief, wondering why this pathetic creature is what she risked her life to protect, as the others call her a joke. But before the laughter can even die down, the so-called cutie gets its arm ripped clean off, stunning Yu into silence. Turns out, the pathetic mutt wasn't the summon, it was the sacrifice, as our boy Jinwoo emerges from the portal, tearing the beast apart with his bare hands. The bullies are completely dumbfounded, their minds struggling to process that a humanoid monster just appeared. Yu stares in utter disbelief and terror, recognizing the scarred figure standing before her. With glowing eyes and a body covered in scars, Jinwoo takes his first breath of air, muttering that he's finally free. He lets out a primal scream of pure ecstasy, roaring that he's finally escaped that hellhole. A shockwave of pure energy erupts from him, blasting the entire party of arrogant bullies off their feet like they're nothing. Shaoxi is completely paralyzed, realizing the sheer pressure from this guy's laugh is enough to pin him to the ground. Aika is just as terrified, her mind racing as she tries to figure out who in the hell this monster is. Jinwoo now stands before the druid, his presence alone silencing the entire battlefield as he looks down at her. Aika is completely paralyzed by fear, staring up at the scarred giant who just appeared from thin air. His crimson eyes scan the area, a flicker of confusion crossing his face as he tries to get his bearings. He suddenly grabs the druid, his voice raw as he desperately asks if this is Earth, and she can only stammer out a yes. A wave of pure, unadulterated relief washes over him as he lets out a laugh, realizing he's finally back home. But the trash-tier bullies are already getting back up, with Shaoxi demanding to know what kind of cosplay stunt this is. Thinking this is all a show, he and Chuji charge in, screaming at our boy for daring to mock their precious guild. It's utterly pathetic. Jinwoo doesn't even flinch, casually deflecting their full power strikes like he's swatting flies. His eye flashes a dangerous purple, a clear sign that his patience for these insects has just run out. Shaoxi is left completely dumbfounded, his bravado tattered as he stammers out the only word he can think of, monster. And that word echoes in our boy's mind, the barbarian's terrified face reflected in his own monstrous gaze. That single word, monster, flips a switch in our boy's head, unleashing a terrifying purple aura. He grabs the barbarian by the throat, who can only let out a choked scream as he's lifted off the ground. With a chillingly calm voice, Jinwoo demands to see his number. a concept from the world he just escaped. Xiaoxi is completely baffled, sputtering that he has no idea what he's talking about. Our boy's patience is gone, his eyes glowing with cold fury as the dark energy intensifies. His very hand begins to transform, his nails sharpening into deadly claws. He slams the so-called barbarian into the ground with enough force to crack the earth. The tough guy act shatters completely as Xiaoxi is so scared he literally wets himself on the spot. Jinwoo stands over them, annoyed that even with this weak body, he's still leagues above these clowns. He looks down on the terrified party, his message simple and absolute: get lost. The party scrambles away in pure terror, with Xiaoxi screaming that our boy will regret this. As Jinwoo stands there, you can't help but stare, dumbfounded by his immense strength and the horrifying scars covering his back. Her mind races, wondering if this man is even human, or perhaps some demon summoned from the abyss. But Jinwoo just turns to her, his voice cold as he asks how many years have passed since the tower first appeared. Shaking, she stammers out the shocking truth. It's been 5 years. He's completely lost, questioning if this is even Earth and what happened to the world for everyone to be dressed like this. To explain, Yu pulls up a system window, revealing that after the tower's arrival, a strange power awakened in humanity. The news gets worse as she shows him a report. 1/3 of the cities have fallen, and S City just barely survived its 7th invasion. A jolt of pure shock runs through Jinwoo. S City is his home. He grabs her, desperately demanding to know what happened to Mi City, only for her to tell him it's already in ruins. Yu tries to rationalize the city's fall, saying strong fighters should have been able to handle the monsters. But our boy cuts her off, his eyes blazing with desperation as he demands to know the way to S City. She points him in the right direction, and he's gone in a literal flash. Yu is left utterly dumbfounded, unable to process that he's actually going to travel there alone. Realizing she's encountered something beyond comprehension, she decides she must report this to a Lady Wani-sama. Meanwhile, the trash-tier party that fled earlier is limping through the city ruins, cursing Jinwoo's name. Xiaoxi Toshida and his crew look completely beaten down after their cowardly escape. Suddenly, a sinister dark energy erupts from the ground, and Toshida screams into the ruins, demanding to know who's there. A new hooded figure emerges from the shadows, his glowing eyes locked onto the group as he says he can sense Jinwoo's presence on them. He grabs Toshida by the face, lifting him effortlessly and giving the party a 3-second ultimatum to reveal where Jinwoo went. The party is paralyzed with fear, realizing they've cornered a beast far beyond their league. But Toshida, ever the loudmouth, musters up one last pathetic bout of defiance, screaming that the hunter is full of crap. The hooded hunter simply states that time is up, unleashing a devastating slash of dark energy that wipes the entire party off the map. We cut to the gleaming headquarters of the Tower Frontline Guild, Tiger's Roar. Inside, a secretary reports with a grim face that all 4 life signals from Toshida's party have vanished, along with Sonozaki and the scroll. A hand holding a wine glass trembles with rage as a voice calls the fallen party useless trash. The man is revealed to be a high-ranking guild member, who scoffs at his secretary for recommending a team that couldn't even handle a level 10 summoner. This is Mukai Licht, a level 118 storm priest, who correctly deduces that they must have been taken out in a single, overwhelming blow. He coldly orders his subordinate to find out exactly who was responsible for this mess. His final command is to capture Sonozaki at all costs and force him to explain this failure to a mysterious higher-up. Mukai Licht stares out the window, vowing that anyone who lays a hand on his subordinates will pay with their life. But his train of thought shatters when he sees a reflection of a white-haired man, our boy Jinwoo, leaping past his skyscraper window. The guild leader is hit by an overwhelming stench of blood, wondering just who this absolute monster of a man is. He realizes the figure is heading towards the Fallen Zone, a part of the city now swarming with bat-like creatures. It all clicks into place. This is a full-blown invasion, as the tower finally awakens after 5 years of dormancy, unleashing its major forces. Realizing his men are walking into a slaughterhouse, Mukai immediately orders all search squads to fall back. Meanwhile, Jinwoo is a blur of motion, a one-man crisis carving a path through the ruined city. He moves with inhuman grace, effortlessly weaving through the concrete canyons and the swarms of monsters that call them home. Our boy finally lands on a rooftop, taking in the grim sight of the S-City Fallen Zone. He thinks back on the 5 years he was trapped in the abyss, only to return and find his world has turned into a living hell. He remembers that in the abyss, he was forced to become stronger. Back then, he was just a terrified coward, barely able to hold his own against a single trash-tier goblin. But now, he's a completely different beast, shattering monsters with overwhelming force. The endless cycle of killing dulled his senses, leaving him exhausted and surrounded by the bones of his enemies. He was so close to losing himself, forced to eat raw monster flesh just to survive, on the verge of becoming a mindless beast. But the memory of his family, his mom, his dad, his brother, was the one thing that kept him grounded in his humanity. Looking out at the swarm, he recalls how monsters like these once filled him with absolute terror. Now, they're nothing more than pathetic weaklings, easily swatted out of the sky. With his family's safety as his only goal, he unleashes his power and dives into the fray. His destination, S City, once a bustling metropolis, now a desolate ruin he must tear through. Our boy makes his way through the ruins, noting that while the buildings are wrecked, there are no signs of a massacre here. He realizes this is his old neighborhood, abandoned since the evacuation, and he's heading for a specific place. With a heavy heart, he stands before the shattered doorway of his old apartment, whispering that he's finally home. He steps inside, a lonely silhouette against the light, entering the shell of a place that once meant everything. He knew no one would be here, but he had to come back anyway, because this room holds all of his happiest memories. His eyes then fall upon a piece of paper left on a desk, and he cautiously approaches, wondering what it could be. He picks up the letter and reads it, his world stopping as he learns his family refuses to believe he's dead and set up his room for his return. Overwhelmed, he realizes they risked their lives coming back to this hellscape, all because they never lost faith in him. The letter explains they even left him clothes in every size from when he was a kid to now, ready for the day he came back. Inside a drawer, he finds a map to the 6th shelter and a family photo, the letter begging him to come find them. He stares at the old family photo, his parents' promise to wait for him echoing in his mind. Clutching the picture to his chest, our boy finally breaks down, tears streaming down his face. But his sorrow quickly hardens into resolve as he wonders just how strong he's truly become. He questions if his power is now enough to end this entire post-apocalyptic nightmare for good. If it is, then maybe, just maybe, he can get back everything that was stolen from him. With a new fire in his eyes, he sets his sights on a single destination, the 6th shelter. He steps out into the ruined city, realizing the map is useless when every road has been annihilated. A smirk crosses his face as he decides that taking the roads is for the weak. Straight ahead is faster. Without a second thought, he launches himself into the air, leaping across the shattered skyscrapers. But his direct path is immediately blocked by a monstrous winged beast, ready for a fight. Without missing a beat, our boy tears through the monster, a crimson blur of absolute destruction. Turns out it wasn't just one beast. He carves a path of annihilation straight through the entire swarm. Meanwhile, a couple of guards on duty are bored out of their minds. One joking, the other is hearing things from drinking. Suddenly, an impossible streak of light rips across the sky, leaving them completely dumbfounded. They can't believe their eyes. One of the guards stammers that he couldn't even track the object's movement. Another man rushes over, frantically asking if they managed to capture the phenomenon on camera. The footage reveals the impossible truth. The source of all that chaos is a single man, flying through the ruins. Down below, a terrified woman sees the figure blot out the sun and screams for it to stay away, fearing the worst. But she has far more immediate problems, as 3 trash-tier scavengers corner her in the rubble. Their leader licks his lips with a disgusting grin, telling her not to worry because they're good guys. The scavengers close in, their leader promising to take good care of her as she desperately screams no. He grabs her by the chin, telling the terrified woman not to be scared, which only makes things worse. The creep leans in with a disgusting, drooling grin, promising that he and his boys will be gentle. He continues his disgusting spiel, saying it would be a waste not to use her, but she glares back with pure hatred. Suddenly, a foot slams into the ground with enough force to shatter it, as a cold voice declares them to be the same old trash. It's our boy, Jinwoo, his purple eyes burning with contempt as he looks down on the lowlifes and calls them scum. The scavenger leader whips around, demanding to know who's there and threatening to make them regret getting in his way. Realizing this newcomer isn't just some random survivor, he orders his 2 goons to take him down. The 2 lackeys charge forward like idiots, screaming that the little shit is about to die. But in a blink and you'll miss it moment, both of them are sent flying, completely obliterated by an unseen attack. The scavenger leader is left completely dumbfounded, face down in the dirt from the sheer force. He looks up to see Jinwoo standing over him, an absolute reaper whose face is cloaked in shadow. As the dust settles, our boy's hair is now stark white, his purple eyes glowing with cold fury. In a desperate last stand, the thug grabs Jinwoo's leg, screaming that he won't go down easy. But Jinwoo just stomps down without a word, shattering the man's arm into 100 pieces. The pain triggers a memory of a time when he was the one standing tall, threatening a victim by boasting about his guild. Jinwoo snaps him out of it by coldly calling him by his full name, Eiji Kagawa. He grabs his own hair, taunting the thug and asking if he's already forgotten the face of the man he killed. Kagawa's eyes widen in pure terror as he stammers out a name from his past. Mukujima. He scrambles back, screaming that it's impossible for a dead man to be standing right in front of him. Jinwoo stands over him, an absolute demon radiating an aura of pure death. Kagawa can only scramble backward, his mind completely breaking as he screams about how a dead man can be alive. But our boy just lets out a cold, chilling smirk. In a flash, he lunges forward, his hand a blur. He snatches Kagawa by the throat, lifting the trash-tier thug off his feet with ease. Jinwoo explains that he literally clawed his way back from the depths of hell, and it's all thanks to him. Now, he promises, it's Kagawa's turn to take a little trip down there himself. His grip tightens, the sound of bones creaking as he promises to make him suffer. He's going to strip away every last shred of his dignity, showing him what true power feels like. A sinister red aura erupts around Jinwoo, filled with voices whispering for him to kill, promising that he's the strongest. Jinwoo's mind flashes back to the past, remembering the constant pain and bullying he suffered at Kagawa's hands. He recalls the sheer humiliation and powerlessness he felt, getting beaten down by this trash-tier thug. But now, with Kagawa in his grasp, he swears he'll pay back every last bit of suffering. He remembers Kagawa's twisted logic. Bullying him was just fun because it felt good to crush his dignity. Snapping back to the present, Jinwoo's cold eyes burn with an unholy light. He suddenly lets go, dropping the pathetic bully to the ground. Kagawa collapses, coughing and gasping for air, completely at our boy's mercy. But Jinwoo hesitates, looking at his own hand and realizing with a grimace that he's becoming just like him. Then, another memory surfaces. Kagawa wasn't just his bully. He preyed on other helpless survivors too. Jinwoo's resolve hardens, his eyes glowing purple, as he concludes that if he lets scum like this live, there will only be more victims. With a chilling calm, our boy calls out the name of the man who made his life a living hell, Kagawa. He explains that while Kagawa failed to kill him, he won't stoop to that level, but he's not just letting him walk away either, leaving the bully dumbfounded. Jinwoo begins to list his crimes, declaring one punch is for the 2 years of torment he endured back in school. Another punch is for all the other weaklings Kagawa preyed on when the world fell apart. And 2 more punches are for the time he tried to push Jinwoo off that evac truck to save his own skin. He lays out the deal. If Kagawa can somehow take 4 of his punches, they'll call it even, but the bully is already groveling, admitting it was all his fault. Kagawa pleads for his life, crying that with Jinwoo's current power, even a single punch would be a death sentence. But our boy just grabs him by the collar, telling him not to worry with a look that promises anything but safety. In the reflection of Kagawa's terrified eye, he sees the glowing, monstrous form of the man he once bullied. Jinwoo promises to go easy on him before unleashing a devastating blow that sends blood and spit flying. Without a moment's hesitation, Jinwoo winds up for the second punch, as Kagawa's cronies watch in stunned silence. The impact leaves nothing but a grisly splatter of blood on the cold, hard ground. For the third strike, Jinwoo's power fully awakens, his hair flashing white as he drives his fist into the bully's gut. He looms over Kagawa's broken form, his eyes glowing with purple malice, as he orders him to get up. But the man can only beg for it to stop. Kagawa's spirit is completely shattered. He looks up with a mangled face, now pleading for Jinwoo to just end his miserable life. But our boy isn't done yet, delivering the 4th and final promised punch right to his face. The blow is so monstrously powerful it shatters the very earth beneath them, sending debris flying everywhere. Kagawa is left a mangled heap on the ground, his limbs twisted and his eyes destroyed. Jinwoo calmly observes his handiwork, deciding that severing his limbs and blinding him is a perfectly fair punishment for his past sins. He then turns to the terrified thugs and coldly orders them to take their former leader to the hospital, and they can only stammer out a "yes sir." With his vengeance served, Jinwoo gives Kagawa one last warning: never show his face again. He then launches himself into the air with explosive force, leaving the thugs staring in utter disbelief. Our boy considers the trash officially taken care of, and decides it's time to move on. His singular focus now is getting home as he rockets across the desolate, ruined cityscape. The scene shifts to the dangerous outskirts of civilization, a place known as the city's buffer zone. A squad of soldiers patrols the rubble, with one complaining that he'd much rather have the safe wall patrol duty. His squad mates just laugh, calling him a coward and joking about how he'd freak out if a monster actually appeared. Their commander, Kajura Tanji, isn't amused and barks at them to stay alert for an ambush. But Private Matsura Shoki thinks they're being paranoid, since monsters from Area X rarely venture this far. In a brutal twist of fate, a shadowy tentacle beast erupts from the ground, instantly slaughtering the entire squad. The ground erupts, revealing a horrifying level 45 monster, a kraken spawn, as the soldiers try to maintain formation. They immediately light it up, unloading a full clip into the beast's armored face. But their bullets just bounce off its hide like pebbles, not even scratching the damn thing. One of the soldiers panics, realizing their conventional weapons are completely useless against a monster of this level. The creature looms over them, preparing to strike as the men watch in terror. Their commander screams for them to scatter, but it's far too late for that. In an instant, its massive tentacles rip through the squad, turning soldiers into red mist. A lone survivor watches in abject horror as his comrade is brutally torn apart. Standing amidst the carnage, he's filled with rage, cursing the monster that just slaughtered his entire team. With nothing left to lose, he lets out a final war cry and charges forward on a suicide run. Meanwhile, another squad is desperately firing on a similar beast, but their bullets might as well be raindrops. The monster's massive eye stares them down, completely unimpressed by their futile assault. It raises its deadly tentacles for the kill, but then, inexplicably, it just stops. A soldier who is bracing for the end is left dumbfounded when the attack doesn't land. Instead of attacking, the colossal creature begins to tremble violently, its armor rattling. The soldiers are completely baffled, unable to comprehend what is happening. One of them grits his teeth as the unbelievable truth dawns on him: the monster is scared. The behemoth is visibly shaking, its entire body seized by absolute terror. It curls into a defensive ball, trying to protect itself from something the soldiers can't see. They stand there frozen, wondering what kind of absolute demon could possibly frighten this thing. Seeing the beast frozen in fear, one of the soldiers yells that this is their one and only chance to strike. With a desperate roar, he hurls a block of C4 right at the cowering behemoth. The resulting explosion is absolutely massive, engulfing the entire street in a storm of fire and shrapnel. As the smoke billows, the soldiers anxiously peer through the haze, praying they actually manage to kill it. But their hopes are instantly crushed as the smoke clears, revealing the monster's giant eye, completely unharmed. The colossal eye swivels and locks onto them, its brief moment of terror now replaced with pure, unadulterated rage. One soldier collapses in utter despair, realizing their most powerful weapon didn't even leave a scratch. The monster's tentacle whips through the air, a razor-sharp tip aimed right at the fallen man's head. But in a flash of movement, the creature's limb is sliced clean in two, spraying blood everywhere. The soldier, now covered in gore, can only stare in stunned silence, having no idea what just saved his life. The second lieutenant wonders if the monster wasn't scared of them, but of something else entirely. His eyes land on our boy, Jinwoo, standing casually amidst the carnage as if it were nothing. He can't wrap his head around it. A monster that tanked an explosion was just one shot by this random guy. The lieutenant knows only a handful of S-class hunters have that kind of destructive power, but he's never seen this face before. Determined to uncover his identity, he activates his advanced reconnaissance skill to scan Jinwoo, but the result that pops up leaves him utterly dumbfounded, his mind refusing to process what he's seeing. Instead of a status window, a glaring red system warning flashes, telling him to show some respect. The sheer mental shock is too much, causing a violent backlash that rattles him to his core. His subordinates rush over as he collapses, screaming for a medic, thinking he's been attacked. Hearing the commotion, Jinwoo turns around, completely oblivious to the fact that he just broke a man's brain. Our boy casually walks up to one of the soldiers, asking for a bit of information. He wants to know the way to Refuge Area 6. And the soldier snaps to attention. The soldier nervously explains it's 50 kilometers north, but warns him he'll have to pass through the dreaded Area X. Jinwoo raises an eyebrow, completely unfazed by the ominous name. Turns out, Area X is a containment zone where they've corralled a massive monster rush to limit the damage. A smirk plays on Jinwoo's lips as he realizes the world is now a game with rare item drops. He pictures the battlefield in his mind. Kill monsters, get loot, level up, it's that simple. He then asks the soldier to rate the monster he just annihilated. Sweating bullets, the soldier stammers that it was a level 45, a seriously tough opponent for them. Jinwoo's eyes narrow, thinking they're pathetic for struggling with such trash-tier mobs, and asks how many stronger ones are out there. The soldier frantically explains that if monsters of that level were common, humanity would have been wiped out ages ago. Our boy just shrugs it off, thanks him for the info, and casually turns to leave, completely dumbfounded. The soldier stammers in disbelief as this monster of a man just walks away. He desperately calls out, asking Jinwoo to wait for a moment. Knowing it's a selfish request, he prepares to ask for an impossible favor. With his head bowed, he begs Jinwoo to go to the monster-infested Area X. He pleads that a powerful hunter like him could save countless lives from the slaughter. But Jinwoo's priorities are different. He just asks if Area X is the quickest route to his destination, Refuge Area G. He agrees without a second thought. Leaving the soldier stunned and filled with a glimmer of hope, Jinwoo clarifies with a cold smirk. He's going, and any monster unlucky enough to cross his path is getting annihilated. We cut to a military camp at the rear of the front line where the wounded are being treated. Inside a tent, Second Lieutenant Kajura Tanji finally stirs, groaning as he wakes up on a cot. The soldier Jinwoo saved is right there, ecstatic that his commander is finally awake. Kajura sits up, asking how long he was unconscious, and is shocked to hear it was only 10 minutes. His subordinate holds up a glowing potion, explaining a recovery item from the monster, worked instantly. The lieutenant's mind is still hazy, as he asks what happened to the person who saved them. The soldier reports that their mysterious savior simply headed north after the battle. Hearing this, Kajura freezes, a look of dawning horror spreading across his face. He violently grabs the soldier, demanding he repeat what he just said. The startled soldier clarifies that the man was heading to Refuge Area G. Kagura's blood runs cold as he processes the horrifying truth. Their savior is walking straight into Area X. The soldier adds that the man seemed completely unconcerned, leaving without a single moment of hesitation. Snapping out of his stupor, Kajura barks an order to get Central Command on the line. Now, his subordinate is completely dumbfounded, wondering why they'd ever need to contact the top brass. Kagura sits down, his mind racing against a rapidly approaching deadline. He glances at his watch. With only 10 minutes remaining, he desperately hopes their savior can make it. Just then, the soldier returns, confirming he's raised Central Command on the emergency radio. He hands over the comms device, still totally lost as to why this is all happening. Kagura explains that this mission is different, operating on highly classified intel that wasn't shared with the grunts. As the connection is established, he drops a bombshell. Area X isn't a defensive line, it's the base for the entire operation. Over the comms, Kagura reveals the horrifying truth. This entire sector is a designated bombing zone. The call routes to the high-tech Central Command, a hub of frantic military activity. A comms operator flags the incoming message as an emergency from Area B-22. The man in charge, Central Commander Kumagaya Renji, a level 58 flame magician, coolly tells her to patch it through. The operator immediately acknowledges the order, her expression all business. Her fingers fly across the keyboard, rapidly establishing the secure connection. Kagura's holographic face materializes before the commander, his identity confirmed for the official report. He urgently explains that a mysterious, unaffiliated hunter has just wandered into the kill zone, completely blind to the operation. But the commander is less than impressed, leaning back and asking if Kajura is simply calling to report his own failure. Kagura is struck dumb, sweating profusely as he tries to stammer out a denial. Kagura quickly clarifies he wanted to use the emergency broadcast to warn the man about the impending bombing. He pleads with his superior, insisting the hunter is strong and they can't just let him die out there. The mention of a hunter finally gets a flicker of interest from the command center. Commander Kumagaya leans back, bored, and asks for the guy's level, as if it's the only thing that matters. With a bead of sweat, Kagura is forced to admit the hunter's level is completely unknown. The commander lets out a dry laugh, utterly dumbfounded by his subordinate's incompetence. He mocks Kajura for wanting to issue a system-wide alert for some rule-breaking, unidentifiable trash. His aide chimes in, coldly stating the hunter will probably be dead before they could even send the message. Kumagaya just smirks, sarcastically noting that Kajura may lack brains, but he sure has a talent for comedy. He dismisses the entire report, telling his aide that Kagurua is clearly still lacking in training. Kumagaya turns to another commander, slyly remarking that he shouldn't interfere with her subordinate's business. He then threatens her, saying that if he reports Kajura for obstructing the mission, she'll be held responsible too. But this is Tonosaki Mi, the Western commander, and she's not impressed, calling him a fool for trying to sabotage his own side. Kumagaya just cackles, completely unfazed by her accusation, and thinking she's the one being foolish. Tonosaki is internally fuming. Kajura, a man she personally mentored, is risking it all for some unknown individual. Elsewhere, a high-ranking general watches the feed, wondering just how powerful this hunter must be to make Kagura defy orders. On the ground, Kajura stands resolute with his men, his decision made, and his fate sealed. Back at command, Tonosaki takes a moment, contemplating the impossible situation her subordinate has put her in. She finally opens a channel to Kajura, stating she assumes he isn't trying to sabotage the entire operation, but she lays down the law. On the receiving end of the threat, Kajura looks tense but ready to drop a bombshell explanation. Tonosaki turns to Kumagaya, asking if he finds any of this acceptable, but he just looks utterly disgusted. The central commander can barely contain his rage, furious that some grunt is derailing his grand plan. He leans into the mic, demanding Kajura provide a reason for this mutiny that they can actually accept. Kagura doesn't hesitate, reporting that the hunter single-handedly one-shotted a level 45 Kraken spawn. The entire command center goes silent as Tonosaki is left absolutely dumbfounded by the news. She realizes this means his power surpasses an A-rank hunter, wondering if he's a secret S-ranker. But Kumagaya scoffs, stating all S-ranks are on other missions, and his aide confirms no signals are detected. Tonosaki presses Kajura, asking why his scouting skill hasn't revealed the man's level yet. Kajura sweats, admitting the most terrifying part. He couldn't see the hunter's level at all. Tonosaki can't believe what she's hearing. An unreadable level is unheard of. Kajura explains that when he tried to use his scouting skill, the sheer amount of information fried his brain and knocked him unconscious. The central commander, Kumagaya, grimly concludes that this means the hunter is, at the very least, level 100. The entire command center sits in tense silence, the weight of this revelation hanging in the air. Kumagaya taps his finger, acknowledging the hunter's extraordinary strength but knowing a decision has to be made. He declares that they can't just halt the entire operation for the sake of one unknown variable, no matter how powerful. The Eastern commander, Yuasa Nobuo, chimes in, agreeing that as soldiers, they can't abandon their duty over uncertainty. Yuasa pulls up a map, reminding everyone this operation involves 4 corps and hundreds of thousands of troops. The original plan was simple. Soldiers stationed around the bombing zone would advance and mop up the scattered monsters. But he points out the fatal flaw: if they broadcast an emergency alert for our boy, the sound will just lure every monster in the region straight to him. Yuasa lays out the cold, hard truth. Broadcasting an alert would turn our boy into a monster magnet, causing the entire sector to collapse. The cost would be catastrophic, with hundreds of thousands of soldiers losing their lives in the ensuing chaos. The central commander, Kumagaya, makes the gut-wrenching decision, whispering an apology as he condemns the hunter to save his army. Back on the ground, Second Lieutenant Kajura breaks into a cold sweat, utterly dumbfounded by the command he's hearing. The hologram of his superior, Western Commander Tonosaki Mi, remains silent, her face a mask of grim determination. She finally speaks, her voice laced with ice, confirming that the decision to abandon the hunter has been made. Tonosaki flatly rejects any notion of a rescue, declaring they can't waste the efforts of an entire army for just one person. Kagura is left speechless, as his superior delivers the final, brutal verdict. The call abruptly ends, leaving him with nothing but his horrifying new orders. He turns to his men with a chilling smile, ready to relay the command to leave our boy for dead. His hand tightens, trembling with a mix of rage and disbelief at the trash-tier order he just received. One of his subordinates, Matsura, tries to reason with him, insisting they've already done everything they could. But Kajura isn't listening. He's already facing down a senior field commander who's just arrived on the scene. The old-timer just scoffs, callously reminding him that the bigger picture is all that matters in war. In that moment, something snaps in Kajura's eyes. He's not leaving a man behind, no matter the cost. Without a word, he lunges forward, his eyes locked on the jeep keys hanging from the commander's belt. He snatches the keys in a flash, leaving the senior officer utterly dumbfounded by his insubordination. The field commander can only sputter in shock as Kajura makes a break for it. He screams for Kajura to get back, warning that the bombing will start any second. But our boy just yells back that there are still 6 minutes left. Kagura slams the jeep door, his face a mask of pure determination. He knows he can still make it in time. The field commander is absolutely losing it, threatening Kajura with a court-martial as he speeds off. But it's too late. The other soldiers can only watch as the jeep disappears into the ruined city streets. One of the men asks the commander if they should try to bring him back by force. But surprisingly, the old man just adjusts his cap and tells them to stand down. He says Kajura made his own decision and is prepared to face whatever comes next. Meanwhile, Kagura floors it, his mind screaming that he's going to make it, no matter what. He grits his teeth, a man on a mission, racing against the clock for a single soldier's life. But what Kajura and his squad didn't know was that this was no ordinary rescue mission. The man they were ordered to abandon was destined to face down literal demon lords. Turns out, the trash-tier soldier they left for dead was about to become humanity's last hope. Speeding through the ruins, Kajura is getting seriously frustrated, realizing he can't find any trace of Jinwoo's path. He scans the horizon, dumbfounded, wondering where on earth the kid could have possibly disappeared to. A quick glance at the dash confirms he's on the fastest possible route, which only deepens the mystery. The horrifying thought hits him. If he can't catch up, does that mean Jinwoo is moving faster than a damn car? As he barrels forward, he knows he's about to enter the infamous Area X, a place no one goes to willingly. A desperate idea forms in his mind. If he uses the loudspeaker, Jinwoo would definitely be able to hear him, but he grits his teeth, knowing it's a suicide mission. Every monster in the area will come running too. Screw it, he decides, slamming his hand down to grab the mic. Saving his soldier is all that matters now. He takes a deep breath, steeling his resolve for the chaos he's about to unleash on himself. With that, his lone jeep plunges headfirst into the desolate, monster-infested heart of the ruined city. Clutching the mic, Kajura is crushed by the thought that he's completely unfit to be a soldier. But he shoves the doubt aside, his face twisting with grim determination. He screams into the loudspeaker, trying to jog Jinwoo's memory by reminding him he's the soldier he once saved. He then drops the real bombshell. This entire area is scheduled for a bombing run, and he needs to evacuate now. The warning echoes across the ruined city, finally reaching our boy as he stands over a field of slaughtered monsters. Jinwoo is dumbfounded, wondering why they'd resort to bombing when there are clearly no hunters in the area. From his perspective, the monsters here are a complete joke and pose zero threat. A fighter jet roaring overhead snaps him back to reality. He might be strong, but he's not sure he can survive a direct hit from a missile. He realizes that Soldier risked everything to warn him, and he can't just let the man die for his trouble. Meanwhile, Kajura waits anxiously in his jeep, wondering if his suicidal message even got through. Just as Kajura feared, his broadcast acted as a dinner bell for every monster in the area. With the bombing run just seconds away, a massive beast stomps down right behind him. He realizes in horror that he's attracted every monster around, turning his escape route into a death trap. With no time to waste, he grips the steering wheel, knowing he has to get out of there immediately. He slams his foot on the gas, pushing the jeep to its absolute limit. But even as he flees for his life, his only thought is whether Jinwoo is still out there somewhere. Suddenly, a wyvern dives from the sky, aiming to turn his jeep into a metal coffin. Just as it's about to strike, a calm knock on his window makes him jump out of his skin. It's our boy, Jinwoo, looking completely unfazed as he keeps pace with the speeding vehicle. He leans in, cutting right to the chase and asking what Kajura meant by a bombing. Kajura's blood runs cold as he sees the clock on his dashboard ticking down the last second. The moment it hits 5 p.m., he knows they're out of time. On cue, the sky fills with fighter jets unleashing a terrifying barrage of missiles. The entire city erupts in a storm of fire and explosions, with our boy right in the blast zone. The ground shatters and heaves as the shockwave tears through the streets, threatening to flip the jeep. But Jinwoo refuses to be thrown, digging his feet deep into the crumbling asphalt for a solid grip. He stomps down with inhuman force, creating his own foothold amidst the chaos. In a mind-blowing feat of strength, he rips a massive slab of concrete from the ground to shield them. Meanwhile, back at command, the tactical map confirms that the entire buffer zone has been successfully carpet-bombed. A comms operator coolly reports that the bombing is complete, having no idea 2 people just survived it. The central commander, Kumagaya Renji, orders his team to send in the drones and confirm the monster extermination. But the initial report is baffling. The drones detect no signs of life, leaving the operator wondering where the monsters went. Suddenly, another operator starts sweating bullets, realizing the horrifying truth. The monsters are still right there in the bombing zone. He screams out in pure terror that the monsters at the epicenter of the blast are completely unscathed. Kumagaya Renji shoots up from his seat, absolutely refusing to believe that their ultimate attack was a total failure. The Western commander, Tonosaki Mi, immediately demands they pull up the live drone footage to see what's going on. An operator frantically types, trying to get a visual on the impossible situation unfolding on the battlefield. The entire command center holds its breath, staring at the main screen as the live feed finally comes through. On screen, the Kraken spawn is perfectly fine, protected by a massive, shimmering red shield that tanked the entire missile barrage. But as the camera zooms in, they realize with dawning horror that the shield wasn't cast by a monster, it was cast by a single, hooded man. The hooded man, none other than our boy Jinwoo, stands there unfazed as the drone gets a perfect view. But before they can process it, an operator screams that a monster is attacking the drone. The feed glitches wildly, revealing a horrifying armored wyvern lunging right for the camera. In its final moments, the drone captures the beast, tearing it to absolute shreds. Back at command, the screen goes dead as an operator confirms they've lost all communication. The Western commander, Tonosaki Mi, is stone-faced, realizing this attack feels completely different from anything they've faced before. Then it hits her with a wave of dread. These things are smart enough to know they're being watched. The Eastern commander, Yuasa Nobuo, can only stare in grim silence, the sheer hopelessness of their situation dawning on him. Breaking the tension, he finally shouts the only order that makes sense. Evacuate every last soldier from the garrison area, now. Tonosaki Mi immediately amends the order, yelling for a full military retreat to protect the walls at all costs. But a frantic operator throws a wrench in the plan, reporting that the monsters aren't even heading for the walls. The entire command staff is left utterly dumbfounded, their retreat strategy now completely useless. If they aren't attacking the main defense, Tonosaki demands to know where the hell they're going. The operator quickly pulls up their trajectory on the main screen, confirming they're all converging on Area B-22. A cold realization washes over Tonosaki that's the exact location where that mysterious hunter disappeared. She immediately orders all remaining drones to that area. She needs to see what could possibly stop the monster's advance. Back in the ruined city, an eerie silence suddenly descends as the sounds of battle cease. A lone soldier on the ground peeks out from behind his shield, completely bewildered as to why the bombing just stopped. The soldier can't believe his luck, screaming to the heavens that he somehow managed to survive. He's laughing hysterically with relief as our boy Jinwoo calmly stands amidst the ruins. But Jinwoo cuts the celebration short, warning him that the monsters are still alive and heading straight for them. His eyes glint with a sharp focus, sensing the imminent danger that the soldier is completely oblivious to. Suddenly, Jinwoo tackles the soldier, yelling at him to get down as something hurtles towards them from above. A military drone smashes into the ground right where he was standing, leaving the soldier utterly speechless. The soldier is horrified, realizing the monsters must have attacked the drone, a level of strategy they've never encountered. Jinwoo tells him to save the surprise for later, because there's a much bigger problem. He points towards the horizon where a literal army of monsters is stampeding their way, telling him the only thing to do now is run. The soldier scrambles back, his face a mask of pure terror at the unbelievable sight before him. It's an entire army of high-level monsters, led by a colossal, cloaked figure that clocks in at a ridiculous level 90. His voice cracks as he realizes this is the strongest monster rush they've ever encountered, and its leader is off the charts. All hope drains from his face as he remembers the bombing didn't even scratch them. He's utterly convinced they're done for. While the soldier mutters about their impending doom, Jinwoo calmly points out that if bombs don't work on them, they won't work on him either. A savage grin spreads across Jinwoo's face, his eyes flaring purple as he declares, "Hell, just have to beat the leader to death himself." He yells at the dumbfounded soldier to hide in a car before launching himself straight into the heart of the enemy horde. In a blur of purple energy, our boy becomes a whirlwind of death, tearing a bloody path through the trash-tier mobs. The colossal leader finally takes notice, its single eye glowing with malevolent light as it prepares to crush this insect. With terrifying speed, the monster brings its massive arm down like a hammer, aiming to obliterate Jinwoo in one devastating strike. The colossal fist descends, but Jinwoo just smirks, completely unfazed by the incoming doom. The monster leader is dumbfounded, unable to believe this tiny insect isn't even flinching. In a flash, our boy sidesteps the world-ending blow like it's a gentle breeze. He uses the shockwave to propel himself high into the air, soaring right over the beast's head. The monster's single eye widens in shock, realizing it just fell for the oldest trick in the book. Jinwoo cocks back his fist mid-air, channeling an insane amount of purple energy for the finishing blow. His punch lands with a devastating impact, shattering the monster's thick skull plating. He lands on the giant's shoulder as its head crumbles away, the titan finally starting to fall. But just as he thinks it's over, he senses a new presence and looks up, his battle instinct screaming. Standing before him is a new challenger, a masked commander with flowing white hair, radiating pure menace. Our boy is stunned. This new enemy completely bypassed his senses, appearing out of thin air. But it's not the masked man who speaks, it's a new, hooded figure with glowing eyes, muttering about an abyss seed. Before anyone can react, sinister black tendrils erupt from the ground around him. The source is a pulsating orb of dark energy, which the hooded mage holds with a twisted grin. These tendrils burrow into the corpse of the giant Jinwoo just defeated, absorbing its essence as the mage declares he's finally found it. A monstrous shadow looms behind him as he glares at Jinwoo, announcing he's found his true target. The mage points accusingly at our boy, calling him a thief and demanding he return what he stole. Jinwoo is completely lost, having absolutely no idea what this lunatic is rambling on about. The mage clarifies his crime, taking advantage of another's strength, a sin he's here to punish. He unleashes hell, screaming that Jinwoo will pay with his life, as a forest of shadow spikes erupts from the ground. But the shadow spikes shatter harmlessly against our boy's body. He effortlessly catches one of the shadow spears, completely unimpressed by the attack. With a cold glare, he thinks to himself that an assault of this level is just pathetic. He leaps high into the air, declaring that this trash-tier magic could never kill him. Jinwoo hurtles towards the mage, ready to end this farce with a single strike. The mage is dumbfounded, completely caught off guard by Jinwoo's overwhelming speed and power. Suddenly, his attention snaps to the sky, spotting a small drone observing the battle from above. He realizes he's not being watched by Odin's crow, but by a cheap counterfeit made by humans. Jinwoo, mid-air, calls out to the distracted mage, demanding to know if he truly wants to kill him. He roars for the lunatic to stop messing around and come at him seriously if he's got the guts. Done with the games, Jinwoo plunges his spear straight down, aiming to obliterate the distracted mage. The spear makes contact, but instead of a solid hit, the mage's form dissolves into pure shadow. Our boy lands on his feet, dumbfounded, as his enemy has completely vanished from sight. The mage reforms a safe distance away, seething about the unpleasant feeling of being monitored by lowly humans. He glares up at the sky, disgusted by the low-level creation that dared to spy on him. The sheer audacity of it all makes him sick, and he clenches his fist in absolute rage. On his command, a wyvern streaks through the air, instantly smashing the drone into a million pieces. He then gives a chilling order to his flying minions: get rid of all the guards in the area. His monster horde immediately swarms towards a nearby high-rise building. Inside, the drone operator curses his luck as his feed cuts out, realizing he's just been discovered. The operator steels himself, knowing he has to finish his mission despite the overwhelming danger. He realizes the entire monster horde changed course because of one man, our boy, Jinwoo. He's completely dumbfounded that a single hunter would jump in alone to stop such an army. With a new sense of urgency, he knows he has to report this unbelievable variable to the commander. He tries to make a break for it, but the entire room suddenly shakes violently. Before he can even react, a monster's massive appendage smashes through the wall, and he knows he's been found. From the ground, Jinwoo watches as the swarm of monsters begins to scale the skyscraper. The hooded mage just laughs, ordering his minions to slaughter every last one of the guards. A grim look of resolve settles on Jinwoo's face. He can't just stand by and watch this happen. His mind flashes back to a soldier who once told him he looked strong enough to save a lot of people. Just then, a soldier he'd saved earlier pulls up in a jeep, yelling that the entire area is about to be bombed. He urges Jinwoo to escape with him, but his jeep immediately gets stuck in the rubble, leaving them trapped. Our boy, however, has a completely different plan in mind, a grim look of determination on his face. He decides to ignore the small fry and go straight for the big boss, leaping towards the colossal cloaked monster. He knows he has to end this quickly to save as many people as he can from the impending slaughter. The monster leader's single eye glows with rage as it prepares to swat our boy out of the sky like a fly. It swings a massive arm, and Jinwoo is forced to block the earth-shattering blow head-on. The impact sends him flying, but he realizes the monster's power skyrocketed after fusing with the mage. He lands hard, dark energy beginning to swirl around him as he braces for the next attack. The hooded mage just scoffs, clearly annoyed by how persistent this lone hunter is turning out to be. The hooded mage is suddenly dumbfounded, noticing something strange about his opponent. Jinwoo is equally shocked, realizing this mysterious enemy looks exactly like him. Shaking it off, the mage materializes a massive sword crackling with pure, dark energy. Our boy's instincts scream at him. He knows that blade is bad news. The mage declares he'll use the power of the Abyss Seed to finally kill him. He swings the sword down, yelling that this is Jinwoo's inescapable destiny. But our boy defies fate, parrying the colossal blade with a perfectly timed punch. He follows through with a brutal fist to the mage's gut, staggering him. Before the mage can recover, Jinwoo rips the dark sword right from his grasp. Now wielding the enemy's own power, he raises the blade, ready to end this fight for good. The mage is absolutely seething, his face twisted in pure rage at the humiliation of having his own power stolen. But Jinwoo doesn't give him a moment to breathe, slamming the dark sword into the ground and unleashing a wave of its abyssal energy. The mage's body begins to dissolve, and he can't believe his ultimate attack was just nullified like it was nothing. As the sword shatters into a crystal, Jinwoo feels the immense energy fluctuation and recognizes it as the raw power of the abyss. But the fight isn't over. The mage's shadowy form begins to coalesce again, reforming from the lingering darkness. He scoffs at our boy, asking if taking other people's weapons is the only trash-tier move he's got. Towering over Jinwoo, the mage makes it clear that he's far from defeated and is ready for round 2. The crystal in Jinwoo's hand disappears, and he realizes the power of the abyss is more than just a simple weapon. Knowing this fight will take a while, his priority shifts. He has to get the vulnerable soldier to safety first. He casually turns to the soldier in a nearby jeep and asks if he's good with heights, a crazy plan already brewing. The soldier is completely dumbfounded, having no idea what our boy is talking about. Before he can even react, Jinwoo just rips the entire jeep off the ground, telling him it's time to fly. The mage is absolutely livid, screaming that Jinwoo is an idiot for daring to underestimate the power of the abyss. He begins to gather a terrifying amount of dark energy, ranting that the strong don't exist to protect the weak. The sphere of destruction grows to a colossal size as he declares the only purpose of the strong is to become the strongest. With a final curse, he unleashes the attack, telling Jinwoo to die alongside the weakling he's trying to save. But our boy is calm, glancing back and noting that his opponent is surprisingly fast. He realizes running is pointless. That ball of death will catch him no matter what, so he'll have to try something else. Deciding to go on the offensive, he launches himself and the jeep skyward, vowing to destroy the mage himself. A storm of purple energy gathers around his leg as he prepares to meet the attack head-on with a devastating kick. His kick connects with a wave of dark energy, and for a split second, he wonders if he actually pulled it off. But his hope dies instantly. The real attack, that cursed sphere, is completely untouched, and he realizes he just hit a decoy. He curses his mistake, now free-falling and completely vulnerable after wasting his one big move. As he plummets, he sees the mage wasn't just targeting him. Shadowy tendrils erupt from the ground, zeroing in on the jeep. In a blind panic, our boy screams at the drone operator to get the hell out of the car. But the operator is paralyzed with fear as the shadows creep in, the mage's voice echoing that he's just a poor little lamb. Seeing this, something inside Jinwoo snaps, and his eyes begin to glow with a cold, murderous fury. The mage sneers that he'll send the operator home as massive shadow spikes violently impale the vehicle from below. Jinwoo can only watch in helpless rage as the jeep is torn to absolute shreds mid-air. The mage lands gracefully on the wreckage, looking down at our boy and mockingly telling him not to be so hasty. But the mage's attack wasn't a killing blow. It was a trap. impaling Jinwoo with shadowy spikes as he falls. The mage casually points out that the drone operator isn't quite dead yet, his body riddled with holes. With a twisted laugh, he uses necromancy to puppet the operator's corpse, forcing a grotesque smile onto its face. He declares this is Jinwoo's destiny, to watch everyone he cares for perish because of the abyss seed inside him. Seething with a rage he hasn't felt in years, Jinwoo can only grit his teeth and glare at the monster. The mage's words trigger a flashback, asking if our boy also enjoys trampling on the dignity of others, just like his old bully. He then gathers dark energy into a menacing crystal, cackling as if he and Jinwoo are cut from the same cloth. With a shout, he unleashes his ultimate move, a devastating obsidian storm. Hundreds of razor-sharp shards shred through Jinwoo's body, and in that moment of agony, he understands something. The sheer scale of the attack is overwhelming, a maelstrom of dark power that seems utterly impossible to survive. As the dark shards rip through him, Jinwoo's mind is crystal clear. He thinks that trash like this mage makes him absolutely sick to his stomach. The obsidian storm continues its onslaught, sending a military jeep spiraling through the air. But despite the agony, a fire of pure defiance burns in our boy's eyes. The jeep finally crashes, brutally killing the soldiers inside, just as the mage predicted. With a sickening grin, one of the dead soldiers is reanimated, its eyes glowing with malice. The corpse grabs Jinwoo from behind, and all he can do is apologize for dragging them into his cursed fate. Thrown to the ground, he's taunted by the other puppet, reminding him this is all his fault. Jinwoo glares past the puppets, his eyes locking onto the true monster responsible for this nightmare. Seeing his toy isn't broken yet, the mage draws a wicked blade and lunges in for the final blow. The mage pins Jinwoo down, declaring any resistance is completely useless. He scoffs that a rookie who can't even handle the abyss power has no chance of defeating him. But before he can even finish his arrogant monologue, his eyes widen in utter disbelief. An unbelievable shockwave erupts from below, sending the mage hurtling through the air. He smashes into the ruined street, completely blindsided by this sudden turn of events. Our boy rises from the crater he just made, coldly stating that the mage isn't even a worthy opponent. The mage staggers to his feet, his mind reeling, how could this possibly be happening? He touches his own cheek, dumbfounded that a mere human actually managed to damage him. Jinwoo blitzes forward, letting him know that unlike monsters, humans have the capacity to grow. The mage's face twists in panic, finally realizing he has made a very, very bad mistake. With a single punch to the ground, Jinwoo unleashes the exact same dark technique he just witnessed. The mage is completely stunned, questioning how our boy could control the abyss's power after seeing it just once. He tries to make a run for it, but Jinwoo's voice booms out, asking where he thinks he's going. Our boy leaps into the air, his eyes glowing with purple energy, ready to finish this fight. The mage summons a colossal shadow beast to intercept the attack, admitting Jinwoo is tougher than he thought. But Jinwoo just scoffs, telling him running is pointless, as he carves straight through the shadowy defense. His attack slices the massive construct in half, sending a shockwave that obliterates a nearby building. As the mage desperately tries to summon the same technique again, Jinwoo sees right through his plan. He instantly pinpoints the weak spot, the core inside the main body of the shadow creature. With a final, determined cry, he launches himself forward, ready to crush the core and end this once and for all. The mage can only watch in disbelief as Jinwoo plunges straight into the heart of his shadow beast. In the next instant, a blinding flash of light erupts from the core, signaling its absolute destruction. The colossal shadow construct doesn't stand a chance, disintegrating into a storm of fiery embers. Our boy emerges from the explosion without a scratch, his mission to destroy the core a roaring success. With his eyes glowing ominously, he already knows who his next target is. He lands gracefully before the dumbfounded mage, letting him know that his turn is up. Pushed to the brink, the mage screams that he'll never forget this humiliation, and unleashes a final, desperate move, Shadow Unity. Suddenly, the shadows of all his monstrous summons begin to swirl and coalesce around him. It's a trash-tier move of last resort, pulling every single one of his monsters into himself. The ground cracks and shatters as he becomes a vortex of pure, chaotic energy, ready to self-destruct. Jinwoo braces himself as the chaotic shadow energy slams into him from all sides. But with his glowing eyes fixed forward, he weathers the storm, refusing to be consumed. Suddenly, the entire vortex just vanishes, leaving nothing but an eerie silence over the ruined city. Our boy is dumbfounded for a second, realizing that trash-tier mage used such a massive technique just to escape. He kicks the empty cloak left on the ground, annoyed that his own clothes are now in tatters. Reaching into his pocket, he pulls out a photo, relieved that the picture of his mom and dad is still safe. He then spots the body of the drone operator, thinking sadly that this soldier's family must be waiting for him. With a heavy heart, Jinwoo gently takes the dog tags from the fallen man's neck. He gives the soldier a proper burial, covering his body with earth and rubble. Clutching the tags, He makes a quiet promise to take this fallen warrior home. But Jinwoo knows that Mage isn't done. He absorbed way too much power to just flee. The creep's parting words echo in his mind, a threat to everyone he loves, and suddenly it all clicks. That abyss seed, he mentioned his real target must be the evacuation center. With a surge of adrenaline, our boy launches himself through the rubble, knowing he has to get back now. Meanwhile, a military drone cuts through the sky, scanning the devastated landscape. It zips through the ruins, clearly on a specific search pattern. We see it's under the command of Western Commander Tonosaki Mi, who orders her squads to stay sharp. Her soldiers move cautiously through the debris, securing the perimeter. One of the soldiers reports in a panic, stammering that the monsters in the area have all vanished. Standing atop the ruins, she calmly replies that she can see it too, her eyes fixed on the strange sight. Her face twists in disbelief as she realizes every single monster was wiped out. The battlefield is a graveyard of colossal beasts, a testament to an unbelievable battle. Snapping back to reality, she orders her men to find any surviving drones to get some intel. She remembers Lieutenant Kagura's report of a powerful hunter, wondering if one person did all this. Suddenly, one of her soldiers shouts, having found something important. He's located a drone with its storage device completely intact, ready to extract the footage. Tonosaki takes the device, eager to finally see what the hell happened here. The playback shows Private Matsura, and right next to him, the mysterious hunter from the report. Elsewhere, another patrol squad cautiously approaches a bizarre, crystal-like object in the ruins. As one soldier gets closer, he's hit by a wave of overwhelming purple energy, leaving him dumbfounded. Turns out, the crystal was a treasure trove, dropping a magic-enhancing potion, a royal dagger, and a mysterious, unidentifiable box. His squadmate calls down from a ridge, asking what he found, but the soldier's panicked face says it all. The squad leader rushes in, accusing him of lying as the soldier desperately tries to conceal the high-tier loot. In an instant, the soldier is on the ground, and his greedy squad leader is already eyeing the spoils. The leader smirks, realizing the monster they were hunting must have been a boss to drop such rare items. He then lays down a thinly veiled threat, reminding them it's a crime to take unit items for personal use. The soldier who found the items clutches them tightly, his face a mix of defiance and fear. But now a third soldier's greed is piqued, and he asks how they're going to split the valuable dagger and box. The squad leader tries to play it cool, telling them to calm down and that he just wants one of the items for himself. But the third soldier isn't buying it, shouting that the box could hold legendary items and he's not backing down. The squad leader grabs his subordinate by the collar, hissing that rookies like him don't get to make demands. In the blink of an eye, the other soldiers are dead, and the leader laughs maniacally, finally alone with his prize. His eyes glow red with pure avarice as he marvels at his new treasure, the golem's relic. Elsewhere, our boy Jinwoo finally reaches his destination, gazing down at the fortified walls of Shelter 6. He scans the perimeter, noting the armed guards and heavy turrets that line the top of the wall. Looking down at the entrance, he sees people moving freely and realizes there's no active raid happening. His presence, however, immediately draws the attention of the hardened survivors inside the shelter. The entire crowd parts for him, stunned into silence by the sheer aura of this scarred, shirtless warrior. Jinwoo scans the area but feels a pang of disappointment. There's no sign of his true target, the Abyss Mage. He quickly deduces there are no strong people here, which means this shelter is a prime target for destruction. Just as he's about to make a move, a mysterious figure in a conical hat appears right behind him, startling our boy. Jinwoo glances over his shoulder, noticing the man's blindfold and immediately wonders if he's blind. The stranger just smiles, commenting on the overwhelming stench of blood and asking if Jinwoo is from the outside. With a slight smirk, Jinwoo confirms that he is indeed an outsider. The blindfolded man lets out a hearty laugh, saying that's fantastic news. He then offers a thick wad of cash, explaining that he's not looking for a fight, he just wants to buy information. The man clarifies that if Jinwoo has the intel he's looking for, he'll be more than satisfied. Jinwoo takes the money, silently questioning if this is even the right currency, but agrees to talk. The stranger seems pleased with the arrangement, but tells him to wait a moment. Before they get down to business, he says there's just one thing he needs to know first. Jinwoo cuts right through the charade, asking the man why he's pretending to be a monk. The swordsman chuckles, admitting our boy saw right through him and that the outfit is just a hobby. But Jinwoo presses further, questioning if hiding his eyes is also part of the act. The man starts sweating bullets, thinking to himself that this kid is a real pain to deal with. He fumbles for an excuse, claiming he's just got a minor eye condition. Jinwoo isn't buying it for a second. He can sense an immense, terrifying power lurking behind that blindfold. He realizes this guy is a tiger in sheep's clothing, hiding his true strength from everyone in the shelter. Cutting to the chase, Jinwoo asks what information the man is so desperate to buy. The swordsman finally gets serious, demanding to know what's happening outside that has the soldiers on the walls. It seems the entire shelter is on high alert, with troops and heavy artillery lined up, preparing for war. The swordsman notes that while he heard the commotion, the rest of the civilians in the shelter are completely clueless. He leans in, demanding our boy tell him what really happened out there. Jinwoo, quick on his feet, cooks up a trash-tier excuse about being scared by the explosion while taking a leak and running off without his clothes. The swordsman sweats, forcing a laugh. Internally, he confirms his suspicion that Jinwoo is just like him, hiding his true power. Playing along with the charade, he thanks Jinwoo for the information about the blast's direction and tosses him a small pouch. Without another word, the swordsman turns and walks away, and Jinwoo knows he's heading straight for the battlefield. Our boy is left stunned, pondering just how many other monsters are hiding their strength within this very shelter. He realizes he needs to lay low, especially since these powerful individuals are letting a shady guy like him wander around. Perhaps, he thinks, their guards are down because they all share a common enemy waiting just outside the walls. The scene then cuts sharply to a modern, empty clothing store at night, a cryptic glimpse into another time or place. Turns out that cryptic clothing store wasn't just a random cutscene. Jinwoo used the swordsman's money to get some fresh gear. Now that he's not half naked, he focuses on his one true goal, finding his parents in this desolate city. He pulls out an old family photo, figuring he'll try the normal, straightforward approach first. Spotting a woman nearby, he politely taps her on the shoulder to ask for a moment of her time. He shows her the photo, asking if she's seen the couple pictured anywhere around here. But instead of an answer, the woman's face contorts in pure, unadulterated terror. She frantically denies knowing them and immediately sprints away like her life depends on it. Our boy is left completely dumbfounded, wondering why she reacted as if she'd just seen a ghost. He glances around, noticing some local thugs giving him the stink eye, and figures he has no choice but to ask them. Before he can even take a step, one of the goons calls out to him, and you just know this isn't going to be a friendly chat. Jinwoo just stares back, completely unfazed by the thug's aggressive posturing. The goon gets even angrier, insisting that the people our boy is looking for are not around here. He gets right in Jinwoo's face, mocking him for using an old-school photo to try and pick up girls. Unbothered, Jinwoo just holds out the picture again, calmly asking if he recognizes the people in it. The moment the thug sees their faces, his entire attitude flips, demanding to know where Jinwoo got that photo. He leans in close, his voice now dead serious as he asks what his relationship is to them. Jinwoo looks him dead in the eye and plainly states that he's their son. The thug is left speechless, the image of the small boy in the photo flashing through his mind. His shock quickly turns to pure rage as he accuses Jinwoo of lying and throws a wild punch. But before his fist can connect, a truck comes tearing around the corner at full speed. The truck screeches to a halt, its bumper just inches from the thug's face. Yet our boy Jinwoo doesn't even blink. It smashes through some crates, sending debris flying as the thug is knocked to the ground in sheer shock. Completely dumbfounded, the thug can only stare at the massive vehicle that nearly flattened him. Turns out the driver is one of his buddies, who leans out and menacingly asks Jinwoo to repeat what he said about being their son. But the thug on the ground is a stammering wreck, his tough guy act completely shattered by the near-death experience. Suddenly, his fear turns into a flash of manic recognition as he realizes just who this white-haired stranger is. His entire demeanor flips as he points down the street, eagerly telling Jinwoo that his parents live just up ahead. With a simple word of thanks, Jinwoo turns and walks away, leaving the bewildered thug behind. The thug watches him go with a strange, almost relieved smile, waving him off. But the second Jinwoo is gone, the panic sets in again, and the thug sprints off, yelling that they're in big trouble and need to warn everyone. As Jinwoo walks, he finds it strange that some low-life thug would know where his parents live. He flashes back, remembering his dad was always a kind man, a pillar of the community. His mom was cut from the same cloth, a gentle soul who would be considered a loser in this new, brutal world. But our boy clenches his fist, filled with a new resolve. Now that he's back, they'll be safe. He finally arrives at the address, a quiet street that feels strangely familiar. The place is a traditional style house, and he's a bit dumbfounded that his parents would live here. He figures that with the population decimated, there are probably plenty of empty houses for the taking. Just as he raises his hand to knock, he freezes, a smile creeping onto his face as he recognizes his dad's voice inside. The door slides open, and his father is standing right there, welcoming him back with open arms. But Jinwoo's smile instantly vanishes as he realizes his dad wasn't talking to him at all. The man's face contorts in anger and confusion, demanding to know who this stranger is in his house. Our boy grabs him, not to fight, but to desperately get a single word out. Sora. He looks the man dead in the eye and reveals the shocking truth: he is Sora. The revelation hits the man like a truck, leaving him completely speechless and dumbfounded. The two now sit in a tense silence, the air thick with unspoken questions. A woman, his mother, enters with tea, apologizing for the wait and breaking the awkward standoff. She asks why they're so quiet, and Sora's dad admits it's hard to accept this stranger as his son who looks and feels like a totally different person. Suddenly, his dad's expression shifts to a sly grin, declaring he knows exactly what Sora needs right now. Sora eyes him suspiciously, wondering what kind of trick he's trying to pull. His dad leans in close, whispering that it's a secret test. If Sora can't answer, hell no, he's an imposter. Turns out, the dad is secretly ordering his subordinate to arrest Sora at the first sign of suspicion. The hooded subordinate lurking in the shadows confirms the order, ready to pounce. Sora notices the guard but isn't worried. In fact, he thinks the tight security is reassuring. He turns back to his dad, ready for this so-called test to begin. With a sly grin, Sora warns the subordinate that he's about to hear some top-secret intel he shouldn't. He then reveals his dad used to attend the housewives' support group for cooking lessons every week. Sora's dad is completely dumbfounded, wondering how in the world he could know that secret. The subordinate is just as confused, picturing his tough-as-nails boss learning to cook. But Sora's not done, adding that his dad also secretly took ballet classes behind everyone's back. The poor subordinate's mind shatters, envisioning his commander gracefully leaping in a tutu. Sora's dad is absolutely floored, his mind racing to figure out how his son knows his deepest, darkest secrets. The subordinate is having a full-on meltdown, his entire perception of his boss utterly shattered. Completely rattled, the dad slams his hands on the table, unable to process what's happening. He tries to play it cool, sweating buckets as he claims anyone could know that stuff, but his face tells a different story. Sora just smiles, asking if he'd rather talk about the secrets kept inside the house instead. Now desperate, his dad leans in and asks if Sora knows about that, completely falling into our boy's trap. With a wicked grin, Sora confirms he knows everything, and warns his dad not to regret what comes next. The commander loses all composure, practically begging his son to just spit it out already. Sora calmly points at the swords on display, and reveals that the prized Japanese sword is just a cheap replica. The eavesdropping subordinate is stunned yet again. After all that, the big secret was about a fake sword. His dad loses it, demanding proof that his prized sword is a fake. Sora calmly reveals the proof. A bite mark on the hilt left by his brother. The subordinate's mind races, remembering the legend of the family head who killed 38 men by biting a sword. To drive the point home, Sora bites the replica himself, and the cheap metal shatters instantly. The guard is still paranoid, thinking this is all a complex plot to assassinate the commander. But then Sora reveals the real sword, its blade gleaming like it's made of liquid mercury. He explains that the true blade can extend and contract at will, leaving his parents dumbfounded. His father just calls him an idiot, the anger in his voice finally breaking. In a flash, he rushes forward and pulls Sora into a tight hug, admitting he thought his son was dead. The commander's tough exterior melts away as he weeps, shouting that Sora has finally returned. His father clutches him, admitting through tears just how worried they've all been. He explains that in his desperate search for Sora, he somehow clawed his way up to become the boss. Embarrassed by his own tears, he tells Sora to go silence the subordinate watching from above. The hooded guard is frozen in fear, his mind flashing back to the commander's bloody reputation. He remembers that his boss is a stone-cold killer who has waded through a river of blood to get here. This is the first time he's ever seen the commander show a shred of vulnerability, and he's sweating bullets. The subordinate knows he's a dead man. The boss values his pride too much to let a witness live. He decides to make a run for it, convinced he'll be killed to keep this moment a secret. But just as he's about to bolt, a hand grabs his arm, stopping him cold. Our boy Sora grins down at him, casually mentioning that his dad wants to have a talk. Later that night, the family sits down for a little talk under the moonlight. The atmosphere is dead silent as Sora, his parents, and the terrified subordinate sit around a table. Sora's dad breaks the silence, coldly stating that this guard, Ochiai, is the most loose-lipped of all his men. With a predatory grin, Sora leans in, warning him about the consequences if word gets out. His dad finishes the threat, laughing that it will be Ochiai's responsibility, and the poor guy nearly has a heart attack. Ochiai frantically bows, swearing on his life that he will never, ever speak a word of what he saw. He can't help but think that with their glowing red eyes and sadistic smiles, they are undeniably father and son. Sora's mom, however, calmly sips her tea and tells her husband and son to stop threatening him. Ochiai looks up at her with pure adoration, thinking he's just been saved by an angel. But she just smiles sweetly and adds that he absolutely must keep his mouth shut, proving she's just as terrifying. Ochiai bows deeply, promising his absolute silence after that terrifying family threat. Sora's dad tries to lighten the mood with a dumb joke, but his mom is clearly not amused. Our boy just smiles, thinking to himself that it truly feels like he's returned from the abyss. He finally feels at home, surrounded by his equally unhinged parents. But just as he's soaking it all in, his sharp senses pick up a disturbance outside. The door suddenly slides open, and a thug storms in, shouting for his boss. Behind him is a whole crew of trash-tier goons, armed with bats and knives, looking for a fight. The thugs barge in, completely oblivious to the absolute monsters they just interrupted. Sora turns with a smirk, coolly asking if the white-haired brat they're looking for is him. Before they can even react, he casually places a hand on the leader's shoulder, and the thug is dumbfounded. The thug leader's face drains of all color as he realizes his standing in front of the very person he was looking for. He tries to regain his composure, yelling that even if Sora is strong, they have the numbers advantage. He gets right in Sora's face, demanding to know if he's trying to pick a fight with the infamous Koshu Tiger Howl gang. But our boy isn't having it, casually catching the thug's pointing finger and stopping him dead in his tracks. Sora's eyes flash with a menacing purple energy, and the thug finally understands he's in way over his head. Completely ignoring the terrified goon, Sora turns to his father and asks for a proper introduction to his men. His dad proudly introduces his son, Sora, explaining to the thugs that he just returned after being missing for 5 long years. He then puffs out his chest, about to reveal Sora's impressive level to put the fear of God into them. But his cool demeanor shatters as he has an internal meltdown, realizing he has no idea what his son's level even is. Sora cuts in, calmly informing everyone that he doesn't have a system, leaving the thugs utterly speechless. The thugs are completely dumbfounded, questioning how he could have possibly survived 5 years in the Fallen Zone without a system. The main goon can't even process it, realizing that without the system, you're basically trashed here. Sora just smirks, explaining that no matter how much you train, you can't get past level 10 without one. This just confuses them more. They heard he was strong, but now he's claiming to be a systemless rookie. The thug starts sweating bullets, trying to laugh it off as some kind of mistake. But his mind flashes back to Sora effortlessly tanking his attack, something no mere rookie should ever be able to do. Our boy just lets the silence hang in the air, watching the thug's confidence completely crumble. With a sly grin, Sora then challenges the main thug to use his system to check his level. The goon is just left speechless, completely baffled by the sudden request. Sora then lays his trap, pointing out that if the thug truly didn't have a system, he wouldn't even know how to check. The thug tries to save face, explaining that a system lets you see monster levels, but he clarifies that seeing another person's level requires the rare scout skill. He then reveals that their boss, Sora's own father, just so happens to have that exact skill. With a smug grin, Sora turns to his dad and tells him to go ahead and check him out. Hez not just being cocky, Hez hoping this will finally give them a clue about the abyss. Later that night, the atmosphere is tense as his father's subordinates gather around. The whole crew watches as Sora prepares for the big reveal. He turns to his mother, asking if she wants to see his true power as well, but she just smiles warmly, saying she already knows and just wants to be near him. His father, however, stares at the glowing blue screen in absolute disbelief, utterly dumbfounded by what he sees. Sora's dad is completely baffled, admitting that no matter how many times he tries to scan him, he gets absolutely no information from the system. He reasons there are only 2 possibilities. Either our boy has no system at all, or his level is so insanely high it's out of his access range, a thought that stuns his crew. He quickly dismisses the first idea, since he can at least see Sora's name on the system. Plus, he knows Sora survived alone for 5 brutal years. A true rookie would be long dead. This leaves only one terrifying conclusion. His son's level is beyond comprehension, and he can only wonder what hell Sora went through. But his wife gently cuts in, asking if they shouldn't be glad he's so powerful. With a knowing smile, she says that Sora is a strong kid. She reaches out to touch his face, acknowledging that he must have endured so much just to come home. Her gentle touch cracks through his hardened exterior, and for the first time in years, he feels like a son again. A flood of brutal memories flashes through his mind: every fight, every near-death experience, all the blood he spilled just to survive. A single tear, glowing with the remnants of his power, finally escapes, carrying the weight of 5 years of hell. He pulls his mother into a tight embrace, trying to convince her and himself that he's fine now that he's finally home. But seeing her son like this, she breaks down completely, unable to hold back her tears of sorrow and relief. Even his stoic father, watching from the side, can't help but get choked up by the raw emotion of the reunion. Realizing this is a private moment, he quickly starts ushering his dumbfounded crew out of the room. He tells his men to clear out, deciding this is a moment for family, not for business. After sliding the door shut, his expression immediately hardens, shifting from a loving father back to a concerned commander. He turns to his men and asks about another team that went out hours ago and still hasn't reported back. After things calm down, Sora finally asks the question weighing on his mind: what happened to his big brother? A sudden dread grips him as he imagines the worst possible answer after 5 years apart. His mom, however, calmly reassures him that his brother is fine. He's just busy serving in the military. She shows him a photo of a hardened soldier, explaining he's been fighting on the front lines to avenge Sora. A flashback hits our boy of his brother protecting him, and he realizes just how much time has passed. Changing the subject, Sora asks his mom if she holds a high rank, given her confident attitude. She just smirks, cryptically confirming that she does indeed have an important position here. Turns out, she's a cleric, an ultimate healer, whose support magic is what truly earns everyone's trust. Sora is stunned, immediately asking if her cleric abilities let her peek at his status window. She denies having that kind of power, leaving Sora confused about how she seemed to understand his condition. She gently touches his face, revealing that clerics possess prophecy skills, which is how she knew. With a warm smile, she tells him she always believed he would come back to her one day, leaving Sora speechless. Later that night, a quiet sound echoes through the traditional-style building where they're staying. Sora's dad, ever vigilant, slides open a door and sternly asks who's out there. It's his vice captain, a beast of a man with a nasty scar, who has just returned from a mission. The man, Iwashima Jiru, is formally welcomed back by the entire crew, but he looks dead serious. Sora's dad notices his grim expression and immediately asks him why he looks so troubled. One of his men leans in to whisper the results of a secret investigation they were running. Turns out, the vice captain's hunch was spot on. The rival Tiger Roar Guild is in bed with the military. The report details how they were scammed, with some pencil pusher nitpicking their monster corpses and cutting their pay while reporting the full value to his superiors. And the worst part? All those skimmed points went straight into the pockets of the rival Tiger Roar Guild. Sora's dad is left dumbfounded, struggling to believe they'd pull such a blatant stunt. He realizes this is a serious power move, and if they let it slide, the whole town's future is at risk. He puts on a calm face, telling his vice captain to eat and rest first, but the anger is boiling underneath. The facade drops as he declares he's going to Tiger Roar to settle things, his energy blade materializing in his hand. With his eyes glowing, he promises to show them exactly why the Union Guild doesn't play nice. But from the shadows, our boy, his new enhanced senses connect the dots. His old bullies, Kagawa and his crew, are all part of this guild. With his mom looking on worriedly, Sora gets a sinking feeling about his dad's idea of a talk. Just as they're about to leave, Sora slides the door open, crashing the party and stunning his dad's crew. With a chilling calm, Sora announces that he's coming with them. One of his dad's crew members smirks, thinking this is the perfect chance to see what the boss kid is really made of. The vice captain and the others are just completely dumbfounded by this sudden turn of events. Sora's mom stands behind him with a quiet, knowing smile, seemingly unfazed by the whole situation. His dad proudly introduces Sora, boasting that his son survived 5 years alone in the Fallen Zone, which immediately makes the crew wonder what insane level he must be. With a confident grin, his dad prepares to drop an absolute bombshell on them. He reveals that Sora doesn't even have a system, leaving the entire room in stunned silence. The vice captain is floored, thinking that surviving even 3 days in that hellhole without a system is a miracle, let alone 5 years. He figures that even with peak physical abilities, Sora would be a total liability in a real fight without any job skills. Trying to be diplomatic, the vice captain tells his boss that, while it's great Sora is back, maybe the kid should sit this one out. His dad reluctantly agrees with the vice captain, telling Sora to just stay home with his mother for now. Mom quickly chimes in, trying to ease the tension by saying they still need to show him around the new house. But our boy knows exactly what's up. They see him as dead weight, a regular civilian wad just get in the way. He decides it's better this way, choosing to hide his true power to keep his family from getting dragged into his mess. So, to everyone's utter shock, Sora just calmly agrees, leaving the entire crew completely dumbfounded. One of his dad's men looks especially bummed out, realizing he just missed the chance to see what the kid could really do. With that settled, his dad wastes no time rallying the troops, and the whole guild gets fired up to move out. The team marches down the hall, leaving Sora standing alone as they head off to their mission. His mom puts a comforting arm around him, telling him not to worry since his dad is just being protective. She explains that after finally getting him back, the last thing his father wants is to see him face danger again. She tries to reassure him, saying his dad is strong and her prophecies have already guaranteed his safe return. Sora brushes off her mothering, grumbling that he's not a kid anymore, but he listens. In his mind, though, he's not convinced. He knows the rival Tiger Roar Guild has military backing, making future clashes inevitable. He cuts to the chase, asking his mom to explain the whole situation with the shelter and why their guild is at odds with Tiger Roar. She begins by explaining that after the apocalypse, his dad founded the Union Guild in Shelter 6 for the sole purpose of finding him. His dad's motto, "We fight to reunite families," was so powerful that it drew in countless members, making the guild a force to be reckoned with. She explains their pact. The Union handles local security while the military takes on the dangerous tower raids, a deal his dad made to protect his men. This arrangement kept the peace in their shelter for a solid 4 years. But her face darkens as she reveals that a few months ago, the massive Tiger Roar Guild from another shelter opened a branch right on their turf. And ever since those thugs showed up, it's been one problem after another, painting a grim picture of the conflict to come. Our boy cuts right to the chase, demanding to know why the military isn't stepping in to handle these Tiger Roar thugs. His mom explains that the military is stretched thin. The tower enemies are getting stronger, forcing them to rely on powerful guilds. She adds that not only are the tower rewards too good to pass up, but Tiger Roar has a secret weapon, an awakened one chosen by the tower's deity. This chosen one, a grizzled old warrior named Ezra, is Tiger Roar's ultimate trump card. Sora is completely dumbfounded, having never even heard of a tower's deity before. She clarifies that the tower's ruler is so powerful, they're basically a god, and passing their trial makes you an Ezra, blessed with their power. These chosen ones act as the god's agents in the outside world, and its guardians within the tower itself. The grim reality is that Tiger Roar has more of these god-tier warriors than anyone, which is how they absorb surrounding guilds so fast. With a heavy heart, she admits their guild is the only one without an Ezra, which is why things have been so rough. Sora can only listen, a dark expression on his face as he realizes just how bad their situation truly is. Sora cuts right to the chase, asking his mom why the supposedly beloved Union Guild acts like a bunch of gangsters. She just gives him a sly look, admitting with a smile that the Yakuza aesthetic is simply her personal taste. Our boy is left utterly speechless by her answer as she just giggles to herself. Changing the subject, she says all that really matters is that everyone is full of life and fighting spirit. She then starts pushing him along, telling him he must be exhausted and should go take a bath. She even cheekily offers to wash his back, making a flustered Sora yell that he can do it himself. As she leaves him in his room, she muses to herself that he's all grown up now. The second he's alone, Sora's playful demeanor vanishes, replaced by a cold focus as his energy begins to flare. He confirms that she's gone, seemingly using a skill to ensure his privacy is absolute. Staring out the window, he finally lets the weight of the situation sink in, realizing he's walked into something far more serious than he imagined. He decides he can't just sit on his hands while he's still worried about his dad. Without a second thought, our boy launches himself out of the high-rise window into the night. Turns out his privacy wasn't so absolute. As his mom watches him streak across the sky, she just sighs with a knowing smile, musing that she told him to rest, but kids are just a handful. Meanwhile, his dad is already on the move, leading his crew to confront the Tiger Roar Guild head-on. Sora lands on a rooftop, realizing the pitch-black city actually works in his favor, making it easier to spot his target. His eyes narrow as he instantly locks onto a familiar energy signature in the distance. At that exact moment, the hooded Abyss Mage stumbles, suddenly hit by a dizzy spell out of nowhere. Hess completely baffled, thinking that ever since being enhanced by an Abyss fragment, he hasn't even caught a cold. Then it clicks, the Abyss seed inside him is reacting, and he's not about to let whatever is calling to it get away. Suddenly, a voice echoes in Sora's mind, and he immediately recognizes who it belongs to. Hess confused though, because he can't sense the mage's physical presence anywhere nearby, but the voice confirms that his target is definitely holed up in Shelter 6. Just as he figures it out, another wave of intense dizziness washes over our boy. The sinister voice tells the Abyss seed inside him that it's not getting away this time. It continues, explaining that his very soul is the target. The voice then declares his soul has been marked, and a ghostly illusion of the mage appears right next to him. Without a second thought, Sora throws a punch right through the taunting apparition. He realizes it was just an illusion, as the mage's voice vows the Abyss seed won't escape. As the illusion fades, Sora finally understands the nature of this power. It's a soul marking. The mage's voice echoes in his mind again, its glitchy face promising the Abyss seed won't escape. Suddenly, a blinding light appears and a familiar voice shouts at him. It looks just like his dad, asking what he's doing out so late. Sora panics, thinking the loud voice drew real attention, and instinctively tells the figure to get down. But before he can react further, the figure vanishes in a flash of light. Dumbfounded, our boy leaps across the rooftops, wondering how he could have just disappeared. He lands on the empty street below, completely alone. The mage's illusion reappears, confirming his suspicion that vision of his dad was just another mind game. A thought clicks in Sora's head as he looks at a light source. He wonders if that's what's triggering these damn hallucinations. Standing on a rooftop under the moon, he decides he's had enough of being a puppet and resolves to test his theory. So he finds a lone street lamp and waits, using himself as bait to see what this soul marking will throw at him next. After some quick experiments, our boy figures he's finally got the gist of this annoying curse. He's deduced that after just 7 seconds in darkness, the soul marking activates and hits him with a nasty wave of dizziness. On top of that, he realizes that if he panics, the marking itself seems to change and react to his fear. Suddenly, the ghostly illusion of the mage appears, whispering that Sora's soul is already his property. The worst part is, only Sora can see him, making him look like a total lunatic to a random woman passing by. He finds that stepping back into the light causes a high-pitched screeching to ring in his head, but after a few moments, the illusion and the marking just fade away, leaving him completely alone again. It all clicks into place. The sunlight and the lights back at the shelter must have suppressed the curse's effects earlier. He tries to brush it off as a simple annoyance, but the illusion reappears, muttering about something called an abyss seed. Sora knows the mage can still track him, and the phantom confirms it, grabbing him and vowing he'll never get away. Sora realizes he can't let his guard down for a second, knowing that trash-tier mage could ambush him at any moment. The phantom's taunts fade, but our boy's priority is clear. He has to find his dad and the others. As the curse continues to mess with his head, he starts yelling at nothing, leaving a poor woman on the street utterly dumbfounded. Suddenly, a sleek white car screeches to a halt, and a group of men in sharp suits step out, heading right for him. Before he can react, the car's headlights pin him in place as the men silently surround him. They take him somewhere dark, and he immediately confirms his theory. The phantom doesn't show up when there's light. With a moment to think, his mom's warning echoes in his mind: if the military abandons the Union Guild, his dad is in grave danger. He recalls the fighters at the shelter and realizes the army, now allied with the Tiger Roar Guild, would never just sit back and do nothing. It all clicks into place with chilling certainty. They're trying to crush his father's guild once and for all. A dark aura explodes from him as he makes a vow. He'll protect his family, even if it means killing every last one of his enemies. Just then, one of the men stops, signaling they've arrived at their destination. Sora's mind races, wondering if the peaceful days he once knew are truly gone for good. He's led into an alley where a massive crowd of suits has gathered, clearly a tense standoff. Peeking from behind a pillar, our boy confirms they're here for the main event. He can't help but wonder how his dad plans to negotiate his way out of this mess. A memory surfaces of his father's words. Violence is always the last resort. He recalls his younger self absorbing that lesson, understanding it was a serious promise. Even now, Sora knows his dad is a man of his word and won't fight unless he's pushed to the absolute limit. But as he watches, his eyes widen. Something is about to go down. A couple of trash-tier goons turn to him, grinning, and tell him to get back because the show's about to start. The thugs whisper that it's been ages since their boss, Sora's dad, last drew his legendary sword. The last time he unsheathed it, he supposedly carved a 20-meter scar into his enemy. With eyes glowing a menacing red, Sora's dad roars out the name of his opponent. He unleashes a single, devastating slash, and the thugs realize the real show has just begun. A wave of pure energy erupts from the blade, tearing through the concrete alleyway. Sora's dad flies forward with terrifying speed, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. The enemy leader, Iwashima Jiru, can only watch as the attack closes in on him and his crew. One of the thugs is left completely speechless, his mind unable to process the sheer power on display. The entire building behind Iwashima is cleaved in two, a testament to the unbelievable force of the attack. With the demonstration over, Sora's dad calmly sheathes his blade as if he just swatted a fly. Just as Sora is about to move, one of his father's men puts a hand on his shoulder to stop him. Our boy is completely bewildered, asking if the boss has always been this quick to throw down. The subordinate just smirks, revealing that their leader is infamous for his short temper. Sora is confused, recalling his father's old lessons about violence only being a last resort. The crewman explains that was the old philosophy, back when they naively trusted the military to keep order. They eventually realized the military couldn't care less about hunter skirmishes as long as no one important died, so they adopted a new, brutal creed. If you can win by fighting, talking is a waste of time. Their strategy is simple: end the fight with a single, overwhelming blow, then negotiations can begin. Sora watches his father, realizing this isn't just a mindless rampage. There's a cold logic to it. Hes left to wonder if Hes been wrong this whole time, if having that much power means you can do whatever you want. Sora's mind races, recalling the words of a blind swordsman he once met, questioning if there's another way. Unbeknownst to him, that very same man is perched atop a skyscraper, watching over the city like a silent guardian. He surveys the chaotic buffer zone, a wasteland teeming with monsters and patrolled by military helicopters. This is Shuzenji Yukio, a level 75 Arhat, and nothing escapes his notice. Activating his clairvoyance, his eyes glow as he peers into a distant battleground. His vision lands on the corpse of the level 90 monster Sora defeated, noting it was ripped apart by pure force. He recalls a time when he was just a level 45 monk, learning that there are always bigger fish in the sea. His attention then shifts to the current chaos, the destruction caused by Sora's father and his guild. Down on the street, Sora's dad calls out his rival, a man named Mukushima, ready to settle things for good. A hulking brute in full plate armor emerges, screaming that his rival is a bastard who still thinks this is the old days. Sora's dad retorts that things have indeed changed, now that annoying trash like Mukushima has crawled out of the woodwork. With his hand on his blade, he admits his one regret is not killing this clown back when he had the chance. Mukushima just grins, daring him to try it now and asking if he's too scared to make a move. That last taunt hits a nerve, and Sora's dad's expression darkens. That's a line he simply can't ignore. Blue energy crackles to life around his katana as he prepares to draw his weapon. For the first time, Mukushima's smug facade cracks, a flicker of shock crossing his face as he senses the rising power. He starts sweating, wondering if he's provoked him enough to finally reveal his true strength. Trying to regain control, he bellows that his opponent is just a coward who can't even draw his sword. He screams that their little guild will be nothing more than nourishment for his own, the tiger roar. Finally fed up, Sora's dad simply calls him scum before exploding forward in a blur of motion, his blade finally unsheathed. Sora's dad's blade sings through the air, his raw power manifesting as a ghostly winged figure behind him. Watching from the sidelines, a mysterious white-haired man smirks, realizing he's gotten exactly what he came for. The clash echoes through the refuge as Mukushima barely blocks the furious strike, his crew just staring in disbelief. Suddenly, a new player enters the scene, a grizzled veteran who calls them out for having the guts to start a fight here. The Tiger Roar thugs are dumbfounded, recognizing the man as the infamous assassin Shirai Osamu and wondering what he's doing here. The white-haired observer narrows his eyes, trying to figure out if Shirai is Tiger Roar's secret backer or if this is just a coincidence. He glances up at the massive refuge building, sensing the presence of countless people huddled inside. Shirai, however, looks tense, realizing the observer's presence is no accident and that this situation is about to get complicated. He calmly walks towards the brawl, passing Mukushima, who is still desperately holding back the relentless assault. Even in the heat of battle, Sora's dad clocks the newcomer, his mind racing to figure out if this assassin is an enemy or an ally. Shirai steps in, laying down the law. According to the security ordinance, personal duels are forbidden. He glares down at Mukushima, asking if he'll comply, reminding him the penalty is imprisonment or death. Sora's dad instantly sees the trap. They're trying to provoke him so they can use the ordinance to take him down. He realizes Shirai isn't worried about his own shady dealings because this whole thing is a frame job. Once imprisoned, they could easily arrange for an accident to get rid of him for good. He knows that without him, his allied guild would be instantly crushed by Tiger Roar and the other factions. The real question is why the military's top brass would even want to disrupt the delicate balance of power. While he can't grasp their ultimate goal, he knows one thing for sure. He absolutely cannot admit any fault. So he just smirks, telling the old assassin he must be mistaken, claiming they never even fought. As a supporter of the allied guild, he says he can't just admit guilt without a shred of evidence. Shirai just smirks, pointing to the massive gash in the building and declaring it's all the evidence he needs. But Sora's dad just scoffs, finding the accusation absolutely ridiculous. He plays it cool, claiming the damage is just proof they were trying to renovate the building, not fight a duel. The old assassin isn't having it, telling him he clearly doesn't understand the gravity of the situation. Shirai gets right in his face, stating that it's not his call to make. If he says it's evidence, then it is. He lays down the final card, telling him he lost the moment he stepped in here and should just surrender quietly. For a split second, Sora's dad is dumbfounded, realizing the trap has been sprung perfectly. His crew, however, is ready to riot, screaming that they won't lose and are ready to fight for their boss. But he immediately orders his men to stand down, knowing that's exactly what the enemy wants. Turns out, Shirai is a level 63 assassin, and he's confident they're surrounded and won't dare to make a move. Mukushima knows a level 63 assassin is a pain to deal with, but he thinks he has a way out. His plan is simple and brutal. Take Tsuchida hostage and break through the encirclement. But before he can act, he sees Sora's dad rushing him, sword already in motion. He immediately summons his sword shield, determined not to be the weak link here. A confident smirk spreads across his face, knowing his defender class can analyze attacks with precision. At this point-blank range, he's absolutely sure he can block the strike completely. He knows his shield is a specialized tool, performing way above its level against sword attacks. He scoffs internally, thinking that if it can block a level 69 warrior, a level 65 samurai is a joke. The katana smashes into the glowing barrier, but just as he predicted, it fails to cut through. Even though the shield held, one of Sora's dad's men roars at Mukushima to just give up already. The old assassin Shirai Osamu lays out the options: surrender peacefully or get thrown into prison with the rest of his crew. But Sora's dad cuts them off, his voice ice cold as he tells the cornered man to make his choice. Iwashima, Jiru, and the others yell out for their boss. Sensing he's about to cross a line, he ignores them completely, a dangerous blue aura crackling to life around his body. With a soft click, his hand tightens on the hilt of his katana, his patience clearly at its end. He draws the blade in one smooth motion, ready to deliver the final verdict himself. Iwashima is left speechless, realizing his boss is fully prepared to execute Mukushima right here. Seeing the terror in his opponent's eyes, Shirai Osamu smirks, commenting that he finally made a wise choice. The crew starts to panic, thinking their boss is just bluffing and getting them mocked. But Iwashima knows better, recalling the secret signal. Releasing the sword means attack all at once. He smirks as he powers up, knowing their enemies have no clue about their hidden combination technique. With a subtle hand sign, Sora's dad makes his glowing blue katana vanish into thin air. Mukushima is completely dumbfounded, screaming about where the hell the sword went. Before he can even process it, Sora's dad is already on him, landing a swift kick. Mukushima braces himself, utterly confident that his shield is enchanted specifically to block swords. But Sora's dad just grins, his eyes glowing red as the phantom blade rematerializes in his hands. His opponent is still smug, absolutely certain that his level 69 shield is impenetrable. Iwashima unleashes his part of the combo, channeling raw power through his hands. The very ground shatters and levitates, drawn by an unseen force. Turns out, the rocks are pulled to Sora's dad's blade, forming a crude but powerful shell around it. He swings, and the anti-sword shield crumbles instantly against the overwhelming blunt force. Mukushima is sent reeling, his mind blown that he wasn't hit with a blade, but a makeshift hammer. Before he can even recover, another member of Dad's crew lunges in to finish the job. But out of nowhere, the old field commander appears, screaming that he knows their true objective. He declares their opposition an act of treason, punishable by immediate execution, and attacks Sora's dad. Iwashima is horrified, roaring for the commander to stop his surprise attack. But Iwashima is faster, erupting a cage of jagged rock pillars to intercept the commander's cheap shot. The field commander is stunned as his attack shatters harmlessly against the impromptu prison. Seizing the chaos, Mukushima rallies his boys, screaming for them to take down Dad's crew while they're distracted. The commander, furious at the defiance, orders his own soldiers to open fire on everyone. In response, Iwashima activates his true power, a crimson aura flaring around him. A massive wall of earth rips from the ground, effortlessly shielding the crew from the hail of bullets. Sora's dad just smirks, realizing all he needs to do is stop their leader's movements, and this whole thing is over. He moves in a flash, and Mukushima is utterly dumbfounded to see a hand right in his face again. Ignoring the gunfire and chaos, Dad blitzes straight for his target, ready to end this farce once and for all. But just as Dad is about to land the final blow, he's thrown back by an unseen force, utterly confused by what just happened. Turns out, the assassin Shirai Osamu was playing 4D chess this whole time, revealing it was all part of his grand plan. He explains that Iwashima's stone prison and Dad's attack were a coordinated setup to leave a magic mark on Mukushima. That mark fulfilled the conditions for his assassin skill, Shadow Trance, instantly trapping the brute in a cage of dark energy. In a flash, Shirai appears behind Mukushima, holding him hostage, and declaring that since the key player is captured, the game is over. With a wicked grin, he gives the order to his own hidden forces to finish off everyone left standing. Sora's dad is completely dumbfounded. He just got played like a fiddle by his own supposed ally. Even the powerhouse Iwashima can only stare in disbelief, realizing they walked right into a meticulously planned ambush. The military soldiers are just as lost, hesitating as they wonder who they're even supposed to be shooting at anymore. Shirai just smirks, taunting everyone and asking why they're so surprised by his little backstab. But suddenly, our boy Sora appears from the shadows behind him, his eyes glowing purple as he asks why the assassin seems so shocked himself. The traitor is completely floored, his mind racing as he wonders if this is some secret backup Mukushima called in. He doesn't know who this kid is, but he's an enemy, and Shirai decides he needs to use his hidden trump card immediately. He reaches into his coat to pull out a small, sinister-looking vial. Mukushima recognizes it instantly. It's his own deadly poison meant for a level 90 boss, and he can't believe Shirai managed to steal it. But before the assassin can make a move, Sora's hand clamps down on his wrist with unshakable force. A surge of dark energy erupts from Sora's grip, completely shattering the vial and its deadly contents. Watching from the sidelines, Sora's dad can only stare in utter disbelief, shouting his son's name. The deadly poison erupts outwards, and the assassin Shirai realizes with horror that he's caught in his own trap. The commander's soldiers are also engulfed by the sinister fog, their faces twisting in panic. One soldier screams for everyone to run, identifying it as poison just as his comrades begin to collapse around him. Shirai grits his teeth through the pain, grimly satisfied that at least this mysterious kid will die alongside him. But a hand suddenly slices through the toxic mist, completely unharmed by the deadly concoction. Our boy Sora emerges from the poison cloud without a single scratch and immediately snatches the assassin by the throat. Shirai is completely dumbfounded, his mind reeling at how anyone could still be moving through a poison that can stop a level 90 boss. The field commander watches from a distance, a horrifying realization dawning on him. As Sora stands over the fallen men under the pale moonlight, the commander concludes he's not looking at a human, but a monster. With his eyes glowing ominously, our boy casually holds one of the assassin's daggers in his teeth, like a predator toying with its food. He then spits the blade out, showing utter contempt for the trash-tier weapons that were meant to kill him. The daggers clatter uselessly to the ground, a perfect symbol of the assassin's complete and utter failure. Sora looks down at the paralyzed soldiers and coldly asks where they think they're going, making it clear no one is leaving. The field commander is speechless, sweat pouring down his face as he processes the absolute monster in front of him. He knows every player has 5 core stats, and poison resistance is tied directly to constitution. To withstand that toxin, this kid's constitution stat must be on par with a level 100 player, an impossible thought. Sora turns his attention to the commander and tells him to order his men to lower their weapons. The commander grits his teeth, trapped between his duty and the overwhelming power of this unknown entity. Before he can even answer, Sora shatters his arm in a single, brutal motion, showing he wasn't making a request. With his arm shattered, the commander is easily snatched up by our boy. He struggles, screaming that he won't go down without a fight, but Sora has him in a vice grip. The commander spots what he thinks is an opening, a smug grin spreading across his face. He unleashes a powerful shift strike kick, aiming to break free while Sora is off balance. But Sora's eyes just glow an ominous purple. He's completely unfazed by the trash-tier attack. In a flash, he's already behind the commander and his men, who are left staring at empty air. Suddenly, another figure blurs into the scene at impossible speed. It's Sora's own dad. He unleashes a flurry of ranged attacks, sending shockwaves through the air. The rapid-fire assault isn't aimed at Sora, but at everyone else on the field. In an instant, his dad knocks the commander and all his soldiers out cold, taking control of the situation. An old assassin suddenly teleports behind our boy, moving in for the kill. But Sora, with his glowing purple eyes, is completely unfazed by the ambush. The assassin, Shirai, smirks, thinking his shadow teleport is too fast for anyone to react to. He lunges forward, aiming to plunge his dagger deep into Sora's back. The blade makes contact but stops dead, as if it just hit a wall of solid steel. Shirai is completely dumbfounded, realizing Sora's body is as hard as iron. He desperately tries to pull his knife out, but it's hopelessly stuck. Looking utterly bored, Sora winds up for a counterattack. He throws a punch that doesn't even connect, sending the assassin flying with the shockwave alone. Shirai is bleeding, terrified that mere wind pressure could injure him and knows he needs to retreat immediately. But before the assassin can even blink, Sora appears right in his face, radiating pure killing intent. Our boy grabs him by the head and viciously smashes him into the pavement. Shirai is completely overwhelmed, his mind screaming that Sora's speed is just inhuman. With the level 63 assassin left twitching in a crater, Sora just casually walks away. Watching from the sidelines, Iwashima Jiru and his crew are absolutely dumbfounded by the raw power on display. Sora then calmly strolls over to the soldiers who were ordered to abandon him. He grabs the cowardly soldier by his vest, lifting him off the ground with one hand. The other soldiers freeze up, thinking our boy is about to tear their squad mate apart. But Sora just tosses the man to his dad, telling him to deal with the other one so they can finally go home. His dad is left completely speechless, stunned by his son's cold and decisive actions. Back at the family home, his dad's men stand guard, the tension still thick in the air. The family finally sits down together, his father asking if the chaos is truly over. Iwashima Jiru immediately wants to know if the assassin they captured spilled any intel. But Sora's dad leans in, confirming the guy was tight-lipped and refused to talk. He sighs, noting that at least they understand the Tiger Roar Guild's hostile intentions now. However, he admits there's a much bigger mystery that's been bothering him. He turns to his son, finally asking what in the world happened to him over the last 5 years. Sora smirks, saying that listening to their petty guild feuds made him reflect on his own path. He begins his story, revealing he fell into a strange dimension and did nothing but slaughter monsters. And with that, our boy lays bare the entire brutal, bloody history of his time trapped inside the tower. He finishes his story, explaining that in the end, some unknown summoner was the one who pulled him back to this world. His dad is dumbfounded, pointing out that of the 16 known towers, none of them operate like the hellscape Sora just described. Sora just nods, confirming their suspicions that he must have been trapped in a completely undiscovered tower. Iwashima's mind immediately jumps to strategy, suggesting they should prioritize capturing this new tower if it's near Shelter 6. But Sora's dad couldn't care less about conquest right now. He's just overwhelmed with relief that his son is finally alive. Iwashima just bursts out laughing, telling him Sora didn't just come back alive, he came back a monster, hundreds of millions of times stronger than them. His mother gently takes his hand, telling him his newfound power means nothing to her, as long as he's home. Looking at his parents, Sora makes a solemn vow that their family will never be torn apart again. He realizes, looking at their hands, that the past 5 years have left them just as scarred as him. A memory of his once complete family flashes in his mind, and he silently promises he will never, ever leave them again. Just as they're having a family moment, the lights flicker and die, plunging the room into darkness. Sora immediately tenses up. His senses are screaming that this is no ordinary power outage. His dad and Iwashima are confused, chalking it up to a storm that hasn't even started yet. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appears behind Sora, and our boy realizes he's in deep trouble. The apparition of Ezra cackles maniacally, vowing that this time, Sora won't be getting away. Miles away, under the full moon, the true source of this power sits patiently in a traditional estate. The chilling presence returns, but Sora notices its message is different now, more sinister. The worst part? Hez completely alone in this fight, as even his high-level parents can't perceive the threat. But then, the taunting figure of Ezra suddenly looks utterly dumbfounded, as if he's seen a ghost himself. The dark energy rips itself from Sora's body, leaving him to wonder if he repelled it, or if it fled on its own. Turns out, it wasn't Ezra's power at all. A new, ancient-looking entity appears, calling Sora Abyss Shield. Our boy is completely stunned, realizing this dark power has a will of its own. He tries to brush it off as just another hallucination, something he can deal with later. But the entity gets right in his personal space, mocking him for trying to deceive himself like a mortal. It then physically covers his eyes, asking if this feels like a hallucination now. Sora stumbles back as his vision is completely stolen, his eyes turning pitch black. The chilling reality sinks in. This wasn't an illusion. His sight is actually gone. Suddenly, the oppressive aura becomes so immense that his parents and Iwashima can finally feel it, their faces filled with shock. His mother desperately calls out his name, seeing him completely enveloped in this sinister energy. But his father is horrified by a different detail, screaming about what has happened to Sora's eyes. Seeing her son in agony, Sora's mom immediately unleashes her cleric powers, attempting to purify the foul energy. But her spell has zero effect. A system window reveals this isn't a curse, it's something far more sinister. Sora is horrified, realizing the shadowy presence has somehow gained a physical form that's clinging to him. His first thought isn't for himself, but for his family. He knows he has to get this thing away from them, now. Without a second to waste, he shoves his own parents aside with brutal force to create some distance. He bursts out of the room, leaving his family sprawled on the ground, completely dumbfounded by his actions. The entity finally reveals its true form, a smug grin on its face as it mockingly asks if our boy is scared. Back inside, his dad is in a panic, yelling about an enemy that he and his wife can't even see. Blinded but furious, Sora lunges forward and grabs the creature, demanding to know why this despicable thing is haunting him. The entity just laughs, introducing himself as Fogaru, a dark god from the noble Asa tribe, revealing he's not alone. Fogaru drops a bombshell, revealing that Sora's power comes from a black crystal he absorbed in the abyss, a crystal containing Fogarus' own dark power. He warns that by escaping, Sora has become a target for the agents of God, and his only choice is to return to the tower or face certain death. Our boy's mind races, connecting these so-called agents of God to the Asura his mother had warned him about before. Back in the living room, his dad is itching to draw his blade and cut down the unseen threat, but his mom desperately holds him back. Fogaru just scoffs, mocking Sora and questioning if he really thinks he can take on a Shinmei, one of the divine beings. He continues his taunts, sneering that a few pathetic Asura gathering together won't be able to accomplish anything against what's coming. The god then furiously explains that he's only this weak because the Asa tribe's power vanished after Ragnarok. Yet even in this state, he easily stole Sora's sight. Sora, however, is completely unfazed, coldly demanding to know why he should believe a single word from this spectral parasite. This defiance just sends Fogaru into a fit of maniacal laughter, clearly amused by our boy's stubbornness. His laughter finally subsides as he delivers a final, chilling threat. Sora will regret his disbelief when a rain of blood falls upon this land. Sora stands in silence, the dark curse clinging to his eyes as the god's words echo in his mind. Hez torn. There's no reason to trust this parasite, but if there's even a sliver of truth, he has to act. In a flash, our boy lunges forward and grabs the spectral god by the throat. Done with all the talking, a brilliant golden light erupts from his hand, a power completely opposite to the darkness infecting him. Fogaru lets out a blood-curdling scream as the holy energy incinerates his curse. The smoky tendrils vanish from Sora's face, and he realizes with a jolt that his vision is back. His dad is completely floored, watching as Sora overpowers a being they couldn't even see. With his sight restored, Sora looks down and calmly tells the entity that he believes it's warning. But his dad isn't listening to the god. Hez shouting the name Shuzenji with a massive grin. Sora whips his head around, dumbfounded that his father somehow knows the blindfolded hunter. Sora's mind clicks. He recognizes the newcomer as the mysterious monk from the town entrance. His dad asks if they know each other, but Sora is just as lost as he is. But the old man just grins, revealing this isn't just an acquaintance, it's the guy he started a guild with. Shuzenji ignores the family reunion and asks Sora if he can actually see the spectral god struggling in his grasp. The monk's eyes glow ominously as he cuts to the chase, telling them they need to talk because this is an emergency. He assures Sora's dad he'll explain everything later. But first, he needs a private word with our boy. As night falls, the two of them finally get a moment alone to discuss the world-ending stakes. Sitting across from each other, Sora asks him to spill the beans about this emergency. Shuzenji explains that while he isn't a divine being himself, his unique insight lets him perceive their power. He reveals he once sealed a king with a forbidden art, but says Sora's power is the same type, only infinitely stronger. Shuzenji cuts straight to the point, saying there's no time to analyze Sora's power because several divine beings have already gathered in this town. As ominous lightning flashes outside, he reveals the horrifying truth. They're all here, and they're gunning for Sora's power. He warns our boy that while the spectral god Fogaru was telling the truth, returning to the abyss is a death sentence with the monsters lurking in the tower. The monk lays out his plan. Fogaru is trying to trick Sora to steal his power, so his only option is to enlist in the army for protection. Sora is completely dumbfounded, asking if he means the same army that just tried to blow him to smithereens with a bomb. The monk just smirks, admitting the army is a mess but explains they have a cooperative relationship with the Asura, so they won't dare touch him. Our boy is still skeptical, pointing out that Fogaru is an Asura, just like his dad. But Shuzenji insists there's an unwritten rule preventing them from harming civilians. His own power begins to flare as he reveals his trump card. He is a Reikon, an existence on par with the Asura, and his presence alone will keep them at bay. Meanwhile, across town at the headquarters of the rival Tiger Roar Guild, a very different kind of meeting is underway. Inside, a level 105 powerhouse named Hiro Ryusei complains that deploying 4 Ad Asura for some nobody without a system is a pointless mission. A subordinate reports to his superior, explaining their target is just Mukushima's missing son who got lucky. The superior, a level 106 Hades Asura named Shiraya, dismisses the target as trash that Hiro can handle alone. Hiro absolutely loses his mind at being ordered to clean up some trash. But before he can start a fight, a firm hand grabs his shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. It's Duju Rim, a level 106 Athena Asura, whose cold stare is more than enough to shut him up. Just then, another powerhouse, a level 107 Hermes Asura named Iwagaya, announces he's joining the operation. The others are dumbfounded, questioning why their boss would join such a low-level mission. The boss, Mukai Licht, clarifies that this is a direct order from Zeus. Mukushima Sora must be eliminated. Shiraya adds that since Sora's parents and their alliance rejected their proposal, they're now on the hit list too. With his eyes glowing with power, Mukai Licht, the level 118 Zeus Asura, declares they will eliminate them all. Meanwhile, at the Allied Guild headquarters, a new plan is being set in motion. Shuzenji Yukio tells Sora's family to go meet Mii Tonosaki from the command center. He reassures them with a sly grin that she's an old acquaintance who will surely protect them. He also tasks them with checking on a curse practitioner whose power could neutralize even Tiger Roar. Sora's mom tells him not to worry, smirking as she says the alliance has its own reasons for staying. Our boy Sora just nods, accepting the mission without a single question. 15 minutes later, Yukio sits alone outside the guild, as if waiting for something. Suddenly, the leaves rustle as an unseen force approaches at high speed. Yukio's senses flare up behind his blindfold. He knows the enemy has arrived. In a flash, dark, sinister energy tears through the courtyard, signaling the start of the assault. A tide of pure, dark malice floods the courtyard, rushing straight for the Union Guild's entrance. But Yukio was ready, instantly throwing up his golden bell barrier to shield himself from the surprise attack. The sinister energy smashes against his defense in a chaotic explosion of light and shadow. Inside, the initial blast has already done its damage, leaving Iwashima Jiru standing over his fallen comrades. 4 imposing figures emerge from the smoke. Their eyes glowing with murderous intent, the elite of Tiger Roar have arrived. Yukio is dumbfounded. He can't believe they sent 4 of their top-tier Asura members for this raid. A 5th person calmly walks past the powerhouse squad, their footsteps echoing with absolute authority. The Asura members part ways and bow their heads in respect as their leader steps forward. It's none other than Mukai Licht, the guildmaster of Tiger Roar, here to handle things personally. Yukio breaks into a cold sweat. If the guildmaster himself has shown up, this isn't just an attack, it's an all-out war. Without wasting a second, Mukai Licht gives the order, and his subordinate, Shiraya Yuhinoju, steps up to the plate. Yuhinoju weaves a hand sign, unleashing a sinister dark energy from his fingertips. In an instant, shadowy tendrils erupt and ensnare Iwashima Jiru and his entire crew, paralyzing them on the spot. Jiru struggles against the binding shadows, completely dumbfounded by this bizarre and overwhelming power. Yukio realizes this is bad. The enemy's soul detecting ability has pinpointed everyone, even their hidden stealth units, leaving them with no escape. He activates his search eye skill, and the horrifying truth is laid bare: the enemy's levels are in a completely different league. Yukio grits his teeth, acknowledging that the level difference between their forces is an absolute joke. He steps forward to confront them, but Yuhinojo simply reports to his boss that the person they're looking for isn't here. Mukai Licht gets straight to the point, demanding to know where he is, but Yukio just plays dumb. This charade instantly pisses off Hiro Ryusei, who calls the blindfolded monk a bald-headed punk for wasting their time. Yukio just smirks, coolly telling the raging Asura that he seems to lack some proper education. That's the last straw for Hiro, who snarls that if the monk is so eager to die, he's happy to oblige. But before he can attack, another member of the alliance, Muhushima Yai, unleashes her power, activating a massive barrier. The entire Tiger Roar squad is suddenly bathed in a sickly green light, hit with a powerful curse of weakness. Hiro just scoffs, calling the move petty as he barrels forward, completely undeterred by the debuff. He boasts that even cursed by some level 68 trash, he alone can crush their entire alliance. But his punch stops dead in its tracks, caught effortlessly by Yukio's bare hand. Hiro is completely dumbfounded. His all-out attack was just blocked like it was nothing. Yukio calmly states that he clearly misunderstands the alliance, as a status window shows Hiro's level has tanked from 105 down to 71. The arrogant Asura can only stare in disbelief, realizing the curse just wiped out a whopping 30 of his levels. Yukio just smirks, telling the shocked Asura that simply lowering levels is no big deal for a level 75 Arhat like him. Before Hiro can even process that, Yukio slams a palm strike directly into his chest. The impact sends Hiro flying backwards like a ragdoll, utterly helpless against the attack. Turns out, the curse hit the entire Tiger Roar squad, dropping every single one of their elite members by dozens of levels. Iwashima Jiru steps forward, explaining that the curse field cuts 34 levels from anyone who enters and taunts them, asking if they can even fight now. But their leader, Mukai Licht, just starts cackling like a madman. With a twisted grin, he declares that things are finally getting interesting. He gives a simple command to his subordinate, Duju Rim, who immediately affirms his order. Her eyes flare with white energy as she prepares to unleash a powerful spell of her own. As the spell erupts, Mukai laughs, revealing their true plan. As long as they have Mukushima, Sora will have no choice but to come to them. Suddenly, a strange energy washes over Iwashima and Mukushima, catching them completely off guard. Mukushima grits his teeth, bracing himself for whatever fresh hell this is. The entire landscape shifts, trapping them all inside a massive coliseum dubbed Athena's Arena. And even the blindfolded Shuzenji can tell this is bad news. But Mukai Licht is absolutely thrilled, saying his heart is racing now that he has an equal opponent to play with. One of Mukushima's men demands to know what happened to their bosses, but Mukai just gives him a predatory grin. With a flick of his wrist, Mukai summons a massive glowing spear, deciding he might as well eliminate these nuisances himself. Elsewhere, in the ruined city, Sora stands with Commander Tonosaki Mi and her soldiers, surveying the chaos. Without a word, our boy launches himself into the sky, rocketing towards the disturbance at blinding speed. He lands with an earth-shattering impact, his coat billowing as he arrives right in front of the military squad. Tonosaki Mie is left utterly dumbfounded, unable to comprehend how he got there so fast. Sora glances down at a file, his expression grim as he confirms the details of the person in charge. He looks up, recognizing her instantly. This has to be the Western commander, Tonosaki Mie. With his hands up to show he's no threat, our boy calmly states he's from the Union and requires military protection. A jumpy soldier nearly opens fire, but Tonosaki immediately orders him to stand down. Her eyes widen in recognition as she asks if he's the infamous Sora from the Mukushima family. Now that they're acquainted, she cuts right to the chase, telling him she has something she needs to ask. Meanwhile, back in the pocket dimension, the colossal arena looms over its new occupants. Sora's parents and Iwashima Jiru are on edge, trying to make sense of where they've been teleported. Without warning, a massive spear slams into the ground right before them, a clear message from their opponent. All at once, the braziers lining the arena ignite, signaling the start of this twisted death game. From the enemy side, Duju Rim closes her eyes and begins to pray. She calls upon her gods, asking them to bear witness to the battle about to unfold. A brilliant light erupts from her, a divine announcement that this duel is now official. The power separates the two factions, with an angelic figure of light manifesting between them. Sora's dad and his crew draw their weapons, realizing they have no choice but to fight. Duju Rim announces the rules. A proxy war where each side presents 5 warriors. The first team to achieve 3 victories will receive the blessing of Olympus. But Hiro Ryusei chimes in with a sadistic grin, adding that the losing side will be burned to death by the gods. Sora's mom and Iwashima Jiru can only stare grimly at the overwhelming odds. Iwashima is completely baffled, pointing out that a 5-on-5 is impossible since there are only 8 of them in total. Duju Rim smirks, clarifying that the 5-on-5 rule only applies for now, leaving the door open for more chaos later. Mukai Licht points a thumb over his shoulder, telling Sora that their main player is on his way, and our boy can only stare back grimly. Sure enough, Hiro Ryusei steps into the arena with a psychotic grin, arrogantly asking who wants to be the first to die. A system notification pops up for Sora's dad, officially declaring that Hiro Ryusei has challenged him to battle. The Union Guild members stand their ground, their faces etched with worry but also a grim resolve to see this through. Shuzenji Yukio steps forward, blaming himself for this mess and telling his leader that his judgment was lacking. But Sora's dad puts a hand on his shoulder, reassuring him that his presence alone is enough and that with their curse mage, they have a chance. Iwashima Jiru chimes in, agreeing that since the older sister isn't a fighter, the rest of them just need to secure 3 wins. Sora's dad gives Shuzenji a reassuring pat, a silent promise that they'll face this impossible challenge together. Shuzenji's expression hardens as he warns his leader that their first opponent, the Ars Asura, is known to be the most ferocious of them all. He explains that after becoming an Asura, this guy single-handedly destroyed a guild that had 3 Asuras of its own. But even knowing that, Shuzenji reveals with a calm expression that he has a strategy. He steps forward, telling his comrades to leave the first match to him. With a surge of energy, he makes his way into the barren arena. Shuzenji now stands before Hiro Ryusei, the stage set for a battle of titans. With a slight bow, he politely asks if his opponent would grant him a bout. Hiro's eye flares with red light. He's clearly not here for pleasantries. A golden, ethereal figure appears in the sky, declaring that both parties should take their positions and begin the battle. Hiro just scoffs, his body already crackling with an immense, untamed power. Without a second's hesitation, he launches himself forward like a cannonball, closing the distance in an instant. Screaming that he's done with the chatter, Hiro unleashes a devastating downward strike. He follows up instantly with a brutal punch that slams right into Shuzenji's guard. Before Shuzenji can even recover, a vicious kick sends him flying across the arena. From the sidelines, Sora's dad watches the 2 warriors move like blurs within the barrier. Hiro relentlessly pursues, mocking Shuzenji and asking if running is all he can do. But our boy Shuzenji isn't just running. He calmly catches Hiro's fist mid-strike, stopping him cold. Seeing this, Sora's dad cracks a confident smirk, clearly impressed by the sudden turn of events. Absolutely livid that his attack was caught, Hiro's aura explodes with raw, untamed power. Shuzenji's eyes widen in shock. He can feel the sheer killing intent pouring off his opponent. Unfazed, he readies his own stance, his hands glowing as he prepares to get serious. The sheer force of Hiro's aura erupts, blasting Shuzenji backwards across the arena. Before the dust even settles, Hiro is already rocketing forward, closing the distance in an instant. From the stands, Shiraya notes Shuzenji's cautious retreat, but Duju knows Hiro's attacks are anything but lenient. Sora's dad watches with a grimace as Shuzenji stumbles, his hand now bleeding from blocking that last strike. But Hiro just flashes a terrifying, inhuman grin, clearly enjoying the one-sided beatdown. He unveils his trump card, his arm transforming with jagged spikes as he unleashes the Fang of Cadmos. Shuzenji's blood runs cold. He recognizes the power of Ars Pet Snake, a deadly close-range ability. With a twisted smile, Hiro declares that the real fight is just getting started. A devastating strike slams into the ground, narrowly missing Shuzenji but showing off insane destructive power. Hiro lunges again, screaming that his pet snake Cadmos isn't even at full power yet. Hiro doesn't give him a moment to breathe, unleashing a relentless barrage of strikes. The monstrous Fang of Cadmos whips forward, aiming to tear right through Shuzenji's defenses. Shuzenji barely gets his arm up in time, the sheer force of the blow making him curse his predicament. He's thrown back, completely baffled by how much faster Hiro has suddenly become. With his eyes glowing, Shuzenji hardens his body, desperately trying to withstand the crushing bite of the Dragon Fang. But the raw power is just too much, sending him skidding helplessly across the arena floor. A cold dread washes over him as he realizes the horrible truth of the situation. It wasn't that Hiro got faster, it's that he's gotten slower, his status crippled by the dragon's poison. Hiro just grins, revealing his ability absorbs blood to restore stamina and enhance his power. He scoffs, asking if that's all Shuzenji has, as a strange new energy erupts from his back. From the sidelines, Iwashima activates his search eye, realizing the power gap is only getting worse as he worries for his comrade. Back in the arena, Hiro becomes a blur, rocketing towards the poisoned monk with pure killing intent. He connects with a devastating blow, smashing his fist directly into Shuzenji's head. The brute revels in the moment, sadistically asking how it feels to have the dragon's venom coursing through his veins. He follows up with a merciless barrage of punches, determined to see just how long the monk can take this punishment. Pushed to his absolute limit, Shuzenji begins chanting a sutra, desperately trying to focus his mind and spirit. Hiro just laughs, telling him that praying to his gods at this point is completely useless. But the other high-level spectators sense something is off. A strange divine power is gathering around Shuzenji, one that isn't an Azura's aura. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light explodes from the monk's body, leaving everyone dumbfounded as to its origin. Channeling this newfound energy, Shuzenji unleashes his own technique, meeting Hiro's fist head-on with a powerful counter. Watching from the sidelines, Sora's dad and his crew are stunned, realizing Shuzenji just pulled out a dangerous, forbidden technique. The monk has entered a legendary mental state, the Diamond Realm, and for the first time, he believes they might actually win this. Hiro is left completely dumbfounded, unable to process where this sudden burst of power came from. An enormous golden Buddha materializes from thin air, its massive hand effortlessly stopping Hiro's attack in its tracks. But Hiro's shock quickly turns to a crazed grin. He couldn't care less about gods and scoffs at the idea that this can block him. The divine construct fully forms around Shuzenji, radiating an aura of pure, unadulterated power. Instead of just defending, Shuzenji rockets forward, now clad in a suit of golden divine armor, taking the fight straight to Hiro. The brute just laughs, finding it pathetic that the monk thinks he can fight him hand-to-hand with armor made of pure energy. Hiro recalls a time he killed another fool who tried a similar bold move, confident this will end the exact same way. He thinks Shuzenji is an idiot for believing condensed divine power could ever block the Fang of Cadmos, a mistake his last opponent didn't live to regret. He remembers how his Cadmos power found that divine energy to be an even more delicious feast than fresh blood. With a crazed look, Hiro vows to devour every last piece of Shuzenji, just like he did to that last idiot. Back in the present, he screams at the monk to be swallowed by the darkness of despair and die. But before he can finish his sentence, Shuzenji smashes a golden armored fist straight into his jaw. The monk follows up with a lightning-fast kick, leaving Hiro completely dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. He can't believe it. The monk somehow suppressed Cadmos poison and regained his speed. Shuzenji gives him no time to think, landing another brutal kick that sends him flying. Hiro realizes in horror that it's not just speed, the monk's power and reaction time have all been cranked to 11. A devastating downward strike from Shuzenji sends blood flying as Hiro gets absolutely pummeled. But even as he's getting rocked, he thinks that to his Cadmos, this overwhelming divine power is the ultimate feast. With a crazed grin, Hiro declares that the monk's divine power will become nourishment for his Cadmos. But as a spectral beast lunges forward, Shuzenji looks genuinely shocked for a split second. The draconic energy of Cadmos bites down hard, and Hiro feels the divine power flowing into him, Hess absolutely certain of his victory, gloating that he's successfully stolen the monk's power. Suddenly, a blinding light erupts from his back as the stolen energy goes completely haywire. Dumbfounded, Hiro wonders what just happened as the golden power starts leaking from his own body. He screams in agony, realizing he can't control the sheer volume of divine energy he just absorbed. Shuzenji just smirks, telling our boy it's a little too early to be celebrating his win. He explains that the sheer might of an Arhat's power isn't something just anyone can handle. With a final, crushing blow, he tells Hiro that his trash-tier body just can't digest a power of this magnitude. Hiro screams in denial, unable to believe his trump card, Cadmos, can't handle the monk's power. Shuzenji just scoffs, asking if he really thinks that pathetic energy he stole could be called divine. Calling him naive, the monk delivers a devastating blow that sends Hiro reeling. The tables have completely turned as Shuzenji unleashes a flurry of attacks on his overwhelmed opponent. Watching from the sidelines, Muhushimayai finally understands why he chose to become an Arhat. She explains that becoming an Arhat means abandoning the Asura path to wield a power based entirely on karma force. Shuzenji reveals the secret. Karma force is powerful, but without virtue to control it, the power consumes its wielder. He correctly guessed that a scumbag like Hiro would have zero virtue, making the stolen power a self-destruct button. Back in the stands, Iwashima Jiru is already celebrating, telling everyone he knew their boy could pull it off. But the Tiger Roar members are completely unfazed, scoffing at such a low-tier job class and dismissing the win as nothing but a cheap trick. One of the Tiger Roar elites, Shiraya Yuhinoju, smirks and warns them not to underestimate the power of an Asura. Down but not out, a desperate Hiro Ryusei slams his hand on the ground, refusing to accept defeat. He summons the shadowy head of a dragon, channeling the last of his power for one final move. Hiro mocks the monk, asking if he's already run out of divine energy to even keep his form manifested. With his eyes glowing a furious red, he decides to bet everything on a single, suicidal attack. Screaming for his opponent to face him, Hero merges with the dragon spirit, forming a grotesque living armor. The attack connects in a massive explosion of flesh and spikes, a desperate gambit to take Shuzenji down with him. But when the smoke clears, all that remains of Hero is a disgusting, melted puddle on the arena floor. Shuzenji covers his face, realizing the dragon blood from that final attack was an insanely potent poison. He stands alone in the toxic mist, the clear victor of this brutal showdown. Shuzenji stumbles forward, the deadly poison already taking its toll on his body. Miles away, Sora's dad and Iwashima are suddenly on high alert, hearing the distant, bone-chilling sound of war drums. Turns out Hero's final attack wasn't just a desperate gambit. It was a ritual sacrifice, offering the poison dragon's blood to his master. His entire existence was fuel for a chant, a prayer to place a divine spear in his lord's hands. In a separate realm, a godlike warrior named Arusu answers the call, his hand closing around a newly formed weapon of pure energy. With his eyes burning red, Arusu vows to continue the fight until his very body rots away. Duju Rim explains the terrifying power gap. Even an Asura needs to make a sacrifice to wield a true divine weapon. Shiraya just smirks, declaring that this is the absolute difference in their power levels Shuzenji has already lost. Duju Rim knows they took a massive risk, thinking that their god might forgive such a petty offering if they secure the win. But the alternative is unthinkable. If they lose this fight, the punishment from their own god will be beyond imagination. Duju Rim smugly declares that no normal player can possibly defeat an Asura wielding a divine weapon. But back on the battlefield, Arusu suddenly charges forward, winding up for a bare-knuckle punch instead. Shuzenji is completely thrown off, wondering why his opponent is closing the distance for another brawl. Hez still trying to figure out where the spear went as Arusu's fist, crackling with energy, flies toward him. The god warrior unleashes a beam of pure force, and Shuzenji, knocked to the ground, desperately hopes it won't reach. But the blast slams right into him, sending a shockwave of pain through his body. With a sadistic grin, Arusu gives a single command for the energy he just implanted to explode. Shuzenji is instantly engulfed in a massive detonation, realizing this is a seriously bad situation. He staggers but remains standing, thankful his robe absorbed the blast, but now he's worried about that dragon blood poison. A system notification delivers even worse news. Arusu's blood is corrosive, and it just permanently reduced his robe's defense by 50%. Barely recovered, Shuzenji sees the god warrior Arusu charging in for another round of pain. Arusu closes the distance in a flash, but it's a feint as he prepares a different kind of attack. Instead of a fist, a bloody spike erupts from Arusu's back, skewering Shuzenji completely off guard. The old man is dumbfounded. This monster can attack from literally any part of his body. Arusu unleashes a storm of fists, practically daring Shuzenji to even try and dodge this onslaught. But as the punches fly, they sprout vicious blood-red spikes, turning his fists into deadly projectiles. Shuzenji is utterly overwhelmed, unable to read the moves as the spikes shred through his defenses. He grits his teeth, realizing every hit destroys his gear, and his own restricted power is failing him. If it weren't for the fact Arusu was weakened by the summoning, he knows he'd already be a corpse. With a spike grazing his face, Shuzenji finally gets it. He has to keep his distance or he's dead. Arusu closes the distance in a flash, smashing Shuzenji with a brutal kick that sends shockwaves through the arena. The old man barely manages to create some space, but the monster is already charging right back at him. With a precious second to spare, Shuzenji begins a holy incantation, gathering energy for a counterattack. Arusu just laughs, thinking the old man is at his limit, and taunts him for his pathetic retreat. He then unleashes a wave of blood spikes from the ground, sneering that running away is completely useless. But Shuzenji's eyes flare with power as he completes his technique, unleashing the Silent Law Realm Curse. The godlike being is suddenly caught off guard, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. A massive, golden magic circle materializes in the sky, bathing Arusu in its holy, restrictive light. Turns out, the spell is a holy incantation specifically designed to purify and weaken the evil power coursing through him. Arusu is dumbfounded, realizing the old man's entire plan was to seal his movements and win from a distance. Arusu just scoffs, calling the old man's plan naive, as he effortlessly shatters the holy seal with a surge of bloodlust. From the sidelines, Iwashima Juru panics, realizing Shuzenji is now completely defenseless. In an instant, a flurry of blood spikes erupts from the ground, brutally skewering the old Arhat. Shuzenji grimaces through the searing pain, knowing he only just barely managed to shift his body to avoid a fatal blow. But as Iwashima prepares to intervene, a radiant, golden being descends from the heavens, stopping him dead in his tracks. The ethereal announcer declares that anyone who interferes in the sacred duel will be severely punished. Without warning, Iwashima is engulfed in divine flames, screaming in pure agony as the holy fire burns him. Luckily, his ally Muhushima Yai reacts instantly, casting a protective spell to mitigate the divine punishment. The flames recede, but a system message reveals the steep price. Iwashima's life force has been permanently reduced. Arusu smirks at the wounded Shuzenji, telling him he's only alive because the fool's interruption broke the duel's rules. With the punishment served, the duel's barrier closes in again, trapping the two fighters as Iwashima watches helplessly. Shuzenji grits his teeth, realizing this god is a monster both up close and at a distance with those damn blood arrows. He calculates his remaining energy, figuring he can only last another 3 minutes at this rate. He has no choice but to go all out. Arusu just smirks at his opponent's pathetic struggle, calling the whole display a complete waste. But Shuzenji isn't done yet, roaring that victory will be his as he surges forward in a final, desperate gambit. He knows his current power, the Wise Eye, isn't enough. To win, he must open the next level, the Dharma Eye. With a surge of spiritual energy, he forces his body past its limits and unlocks the legendary technique. A sacred symbol flares to life in his eyes, radiating an entirely new level of power. The old Arhat floats before the summoned god, his presence now overwhelming as they prepare for the final clash. Shuzenji knows this power won't last long. The Dharma Eye gives him a massive speed boost, but he needs to find an opening and end this now. With his Dharma Eye active, Shuzenji easily sees that Arusu's so-called divine spear is pathetically weak. In fact, he realizes it's even less of a threat than the blood arrow from before. A sudden clarity washes over him. He now understands the core of his opponent's trash, tier technique. As Arusu lunges, Shuzenji calmly meets the attack head-on, not with a weapon, but with a simple palm block. The summoned god is utterly dumbfounded, wondering how this old man could possibly have seen through his attack. Shuzenji just smirks, grabbing the blood spear and mocking it for being unexpectedly flimsy. With a single, contemptuous chop, he shatters the divine weapon into a cloud of red dust. Arusu can only let out a pathetic scream, his pride and his weapon completely broken. The spectators are in shock. Shiraya can't believe he blocked it, but Duju realizes his eyes can see through anything. Even the ruthless Mukushima and his crew are stunned into silence, witnessing this impossible comeback. Shuzenji reveals he knew all along there was a countermeasure for this so-called divine power. He analyzes the foul energy, realizing that such an accumulation of evil would naturally corrupt its wielder. With his hands clasped, he prepares a purification technique to cleanse the entire battlefield. But Arusu isn't finished, roaring that just seeing through his attack won't save him. The shattered spear reforms into a tide of blood, trapping Shuzenji as Arusu boasts about his absolute control. From the sidelines, Duju explains the trick. The divine power isn't uniform throughout the blood. This weakness allows it to be shaped into countless thin, razor-sharp spikes perfect for piercing defenses. The old master finds himself in a deadly prison of blood spikes rising from the ground. Arusu laughs maniacally, screaming that now there's absolutely no escape. With a final command to die, he sends the forest of spikes hurtling towards Shuzenji. But Shuzenji is far from done, unlocking his ultimate perception skill, the Dharma Eye. A wave of golden energy erupts from him, blasting Arusu back as his divine power is purified. The summoned god can only grit his teeth in frustration, unable to comprehend what's happening. With a simple gesture, Shuzenji stands untouched as the forest of blood spikes harmlessly passes him by. He calmly explains that his power is meant to cleanse the suffering caused by ignorant beings like them. Arusu is dumbfounded, screaming to his allies that the old man can somehow see the flow of divine power itself. Duju watches in horror, realizing that if he can see their power, all their attacks are completely meaningless. From the sidelines, Iwashima Jiro is just as stunned by this unbelievable turn of events. But his attention is drawn to the sky, where he realizes the duel's ethereal announcer is about to interfere. The golden figure looks down with a solemn expression, ready to pass judgment on the battle. The golden announcer descends, issuing a formal warning to the Tiger Roar Guild for their foul play. Iwashima Jiro absolutely loses it, furious at the double standard, and demanding to know why they only get a warning when his side got a penalty. But Sora's dad holds him back, telling him to chill out and just watch Shuzenji secure his victory. Back in the arena, Shuzenji begins his counterattack, casting a powerful binding spell that slams Arusu to the ground. The so-called god grits his teeth in defiance, screaming that he doesn't need any help from his guildmates. But Shuzenji is taken aback for a moment, sensing the sheer evil radiating from this being. He decides to end this now, unleashing his sacred form, the immovable Wisdom King, a colossal golden avatar of pure power. Arusu can only scream in agony as the divine energy purges the dark power coursing through him. Shuzenji calmly explains that the sutra he's chanting is a prayer to remove obstacles and grant peace to all beings. Turns out, this god-tier technique is just the first, most basic sutra that every monk learns, a truly humiliating way to go down. Shuzenji explains that while it's a basic technique, embodying the immovable king more than doubles his power. The only downside is the 3-0 second cast time, requiring absolute focus. To chant this right on top of an enemy is the ultimate form of disrespect, and Shuzenji is savoring the pure humiliation he's dishing out. But Arusu refuses to be beaten like this, letting out a primal scream as he tears his own arm off. Blood erupts from the wound as he violently breaks free from the divine restraint. His guildmates can only watch in disbelief, with Duju muttering about what a complete idiot he is. Shuzenji is stunned. He can't believe Arusu managed to break the seal and interrupt the sutra. Now, completely unhinged, the so-called god is consumed by pure rage, screaming for death. Shuzenji realizes the horrifying truth. That spell was suppressing the evil dragon's blood, and Arusu just unleashed it all. Arusu unleashes a storm of blood spikes, but Shuzenji just scoffs, thinking a surprise attack is meaningless when he can see it coming. The enraged god screams, bleeding from his eyes as he realizes he only has 15 seconds left to win this. Shuzenji sees the blood, and knows his opponent is already at his absolute limit, burning his own life force away. Despite the relentless assault, Arusu is dumbfounded that he can't even disrupt the monk's focus for a second. With his opponent's rage spent, Shuzenji finally reveals his trump card, manifesting a colossal golden guardian. Watching from the sidelines, Shiraya smirks, beginning a countdown as if the match is already over. Duju and Iwagaya look on with disdain, sighing as the countdown continues, clearly unimpressed by Arusu's performance. Esra calmly explains the profound nature of Shuzenji's power to a grim-faced Iwashima as the final seconds tick away. Our boy Shuzenji enters a state of pure tranquility, believing that like the Enlightened One, everything follows the mind. The Golden Guardian delivers a single, devastating blow, sending the so-called god flying in a shower of his own blood. Arusu's body is torn apart, the so-called god utterly broken by the overwhelming power of the strike. As the dust settles, Shuzenji stands his ground, the force of the final attack echoing around him. He breathes a sigh of relief, realizing he won just moments before his Dharma Eye technique pushed him past his limit. The golden announcer's voice booms across the arena, declaring the first victory for the allied guild. A faint, satisfied smile crosses Shuzenji's face as his guild members erupt in cheers behind him. Back on the Tiger Roar side, Duju Rim effortlessly heals Arusu's mangled body with a swirl of blue energy. Arusu looks up, dumbfounded to find all his wounds have vanished in an instant. But physically healed or not, his spirit is completely crushed, his soul practically leaking out of his body. Duju looks down on him with pure disgust, telling him that at best, he can just try to do better next time. As the announcer's feet begin to materialize once more, Arusu can only kneel in shame, his defeat absolute. Just as Arusu kneels in shame, two golden apparitions materialize before him, ready to pass judgment. The ethereal figures are clearly disgusted, complaining about the disgrace of losing in Athena's hypocrisy-filled arena. Arusu can barely choke out an apology, his spirit completely shattered. But his words are cut short by a furious roar, as one of the figures screams at him for being a loser. They then deliver the final, soul-crushing blow. A message from their father, who is deeply disappointed in him. The two apparitions then argue over who gets the honor of executing him, a truly horrifying turn of events. Without another word, one of them lashes out with a whip of pure energy, sending Arusu flying. The other joins the beatdown, and they mercilessly pummel their own comrade into a bloody mess. Watching from the sidelines, Iwashima Jiru is completely dumbfounded, unable to believe they'd do this to their own Asura. The golden executioners stand over Arusu's broken body, calling this brutal end a final mercy from their father before fading away. With their grim task complete, the two golden executioners give one last, smug look before vanishing into motes of light. On the ground, the defeated hero Ryusei can only grit his teeth in pure rage, seething with hatred for the blindfolded warrior, Shuzenji. He screams a vow that next time, hell definitely kill him. But Sora's dad just calmly helps Shuzenji up, completely unfazed by the threat. Suddenly, the Tiger Roar Guild's top dogs appear, with Shiraya Yuhinaju sneering that there won't be a next time for a loser like Hiro. A terrifying dark energy begins to swirl around Shiraya's hand as he declares that from this moment on, Hiro is his. He then summons a monstrous scythe from the shadows, proclaiming that Hiro is about to burn in the eternal flames of Hades itself. Sora's dad and Shuzenji watch this escalation, realizing the Tiger Roar Guild is about to make a huge power play right in front of them. Stepping forward with a determined look, Sora's dad tells his exhausted ally to stand back and let him handle this. Just then, the curse mage Muhushima Yai hands him a small, sealed talisman, explaining that the Hades Azura's power is tied to spirits, and this will help. Sora's dad clenches the talisman, a system notification confirming he's received the item, ready to make good use of this unexpected ace up his sleeve. His allies wish him luck, and with a grim nod, Sora's dad steps forward to face his opponent. He stands opposite the Hades Asura, Shiraya Yuhinoju, the tension in the air so thick you could cut it with a knife. Our boy runs through the strategy in his head. A samurai's sword aura is powerful but slow, making close-quarters combat the only real option. His plan is simple. First, he'll use Shumpo to close the distance in an instant. Then, he'll use the Renzon technique to parry and counter any incoming attacks, giving his opponent no room to breathe. Finally, he'll find an opening, a weak spot, and end the entire fight in a single, decisive strike. He knows it's a basic plan, but it's efficient though. He wonders what he'll do if it's not enough against this monster. Suddenly, a golden, ethereal being manifests, announcing that both parties must take their positions for combat. The announcer screams for the battle to begin, and Shiraya instantly unleashes a storm of shadow tendrils, roaring for his enemy to die. Sticking to the plan, Sora's dad bursts forward with Shunpo, aiming to slip past the attack and analyze his foe's moves. His blade cuts clean through the shadow assault, neutralizing the attack in a flash of light. Shiraya is completely dumbfounded, unable to believe his opening move was just swatted aside. He sneers, asking if being a one-trick pony is all a samurai is good for. But Sora's dad is already moving, unleashing a devastating slash with his Renzon technique. To his utter shock, his blade connects with nothing but empty air. He realizes in horror that he just sliced through a worthless shadow clone. Suddenly, the real threat emerges as a pack of shadow beasts materializes to swarm him. With the tables turned, Shiraya swings his massive scythe, unleashing a vortex of dark energy. The raw power of the attack sends Sora's dad flying backwards, completely defenseless. Before he can even hit the ground, Shiraya is already on top of him, ready to land the final blow. Shiraya just smirks, his eyes glowing with power, as he asks if that's really all he's got. He swings his massive scythe down, aiming to finish the fight in one clean strike. But Sora's dad finds himself surrounded by intangible shadow beasts, as Shiraya explains that his attacks are useless against them. Suddenly, he hears the real voice from behind, and realizes he's been completely outplayed. The real Shiraya brings his weapon down in a devastating arc, catching him totally off guard. He laughs maniacally, calling Sora's dad a useless beast who should just give up. As if to rub salt in the wound, dozens of shadow clones appear, telling him the vengeful spirits are infinite. The clones all mock him, saying a samurai who can't even find his real opponent is a complete joke. But it seems they pushed him too far. A strange, dark energy begins to form over his face. In a flash, he enters a new stance, his eyes now covered by a dark mask as his blade ignites with a terrifying aura. Shiraya's clones swarm in, thinking they can crush Sora's dad before his new sword aura even settles. But they were dead wrong. He becomes a whirlwind of purple light, effortlessly carving through the shadow army. Each swing of his blade doesn't just cut the clones, it completely obliterates their dark energy. Watching from the sidelines, Duju Rim remarks that this is the vast power difference between an Asura and a normal human. Her teammate Hiro scoffs, calling it a lucky break, but she reminds him that a mere samurai becoming a guildmaster is unheard of. Suddenly, her analytical gaze shifts, and she's left completely dumbfounded by something else on the battlefield. It's Sora's mom, standing there with an unnerving calm, as if this whole high-level brawl is just a walk in the park. Duju realizes this makes no sense. The cleric should be a weak link, so her confidence means she's hiding a trump card. Back in the fight, the dad's blade purifies the last remnants of shadow magic with a brilliant flash. He lands in a solid stance, his new power fully under control, ready to face the real Shiraya. Shiraya smirks, unimpressed by the light show and wondering if this is some new, desperate move. But from the sidelines, Dujo Rim sees the truth and screams out a desperate warning for him to watch out. Shiraya barely has time to register her cry, his focus still locked on the empty space where his opponent was. In a flash, Sora's dad uses leap assassination, appearing directly behind the Hades Asura like a ghost. Shiraya is completely dumbfounded, caught in a chokehold before he can even process what just happened. This whole situation brings back memories of when the 6th refuge was first established by the military and players. Back then, they found a mine teeming with monsters, which they designated as their first major exploration base. At first, the mission was a cakewalk, with the teams easily mowing down trash-tier goblinoid monsters near the entrance. But their confidence led them to push deeper, marching into the dark, unknown depths of the mine itself. And it was there, in the darkness, that everything changed and the true nightmare began for them all. The sheer variety, number, and rank of the monsters they encountered were completely off the charts. They had stumbled into a hidden nest, a full-blown monster ecosystem thriving in the darkness. Deep inside, the expedition ran straight into the final boss, a horrifying, level 80 spider monster. Humanity at the time stood no chance, and the team was forced into a desperate, chaotic retreat. But one man, Mukushima Shoya, made the ultimate sacrifice play, luring the beast away to let everyone escape. He charged headfirst into a suicidal battle, and for 3 long days, nobody knew what became of him. Then, a pitiful scream from the spider monster itself echoed from the deepest part of the cave. In response to the boss's death, the entire mine began to violently collapse in on itself. A much younger Mukushima Yai could only scream his name, believing he was buried alive. But just then, Mukushima Shoya burst from the crumbling entrance, having survived against all odds. Turns out, that legendary survival story gave birth to his signature skill, the 8-fold leap. It's a terrifying technique that lets him chain up to 8 dashes, getting exponentially faster with each one. Mukushima recalls using it 3 times just to escape a monster. But now, he's on the offensive. He plants his foot and explodes forward for the 4th time, shattering the ground beneath him. Shiraya Yuhinojo is completely caught off guard by the sudden burst of speed. The Hades Asura is dumbfounded, realizing his opponent is somehow getting even faster. He swings his scythe wildly, but Mukushima is already a blur, weaving past the attack like a phantom. With glowing eyes, Mukushima locks onto his target, knowing he's got him right where he wants him. He launches into his 5th jump, blade poised to cleave the Asura in 2. Shiraya can only grit his teeth and brace for an impact he knows he might not be able to block. But instead of a direct hit, Mukushima Shoya uses the momentum to pivot, twisting past his opponent's guard. Watching from the sidelines, Iwashima Jiru realizes with a jolt that the real attack is coming from above. Mukushima Shuya unleashes his 6th jump, crashing down from the sky like a thunderbolt. Shiraya is completely panicked, barely able to react to the relentless, high-speed assault. Before he can even recover, Mukushima Shoya is already behind him, launching his 7th jump without pause. The sheer force of the blow sends the Hades Asura flying, smashing him into the ground. Mukushima Shoya knows his inherited power is the perfect counter, designed to annihilate souls before they can even be generated. He slams his blade down, pinning his opponent, and leaving no room for escape. Shiraya desperately brings his scythe up, just barely parrying the devastating strike. But it's all part of the plan. Mukushima Shuya thinks that by forcing close combat, his opponent's soul-based powers are utterly useless. Pinned down but not out, Shiraya grits his teeth, absolutely convinced he can still win this fight. But Mukushima Shoya reveals his trump card, a power called Heroic Legacy that summons the spirit of an ancient warrior. From the sidelines, Duju Rim is dumbfounded, realizing this raw power is how he's led the guild for so long without being an Asura. The narrator explains the world's core theory. The tower is a physical manifestation of humanity's history and mythology. If the gods who choose the Asura represent mythology, then it's the legendary heroes of old who represent history. While becoming an Asura is a constant struggle for a god's favor, inheriting a hero's power is a fated, once-in-a-lifetime encounter. Shiraya can only curse his opponent's insane luck, as he's forced to defend against the spectral warrior's might. He gets cocky, mocking Mukushima for thinking a simple blade could ever challenge a reaper's scythe in a close-quarters brawl. Mukushima remains unfazed, acknowledging the scythe's terrifying power but seeing a clear path to victory. Shiraya unleashes a massive swing, confident that his weapon's superior reach gives him the ultimate advantage. But Shiraya quickly realizes a divine artifact isn't something a mere human can handle so easily. Mukushima's entire plan hinges on this fact. Forcing a close-range fight will create a massive opening. Just as he predicted, the scythe's wide arc leaves Shiraya completely exposed. Mukushima smirks, mocking him for having a god-tier weapon with trash-tier skills to match. The cold reality hits Shiraya like a truck. He's been completely played. With the opening he created, Mukushima drives a powerful blow straight into the Reaper's gut. He reveals this was all part of his 8th leap, a skill he was saving for the perfect moment. From the sidelines, Iwashima Jiru roars in triumph, absolutely certain that the fight is over. But his celebration dies in his throat as he sees something is terribly wrong. Mukushima Yai grits her teeth, knowing this battle is far from finished. But Mukushima's fist just phases through Shiraya, who lets out a chilling laugh. The Hades Asura grins, finding the swordsman's victory face absolutely hilarious. Mukushima is dumbfounded. His attack didn't land, and he realizes Revenant Shade has no cooldown. Shiraya taunts him, revealing he can swap with more than just a spirit body as he grabs Mukushima's arm. A surge of dark, corrupting energy flows directly from the Reaper's hand into his opponent. A wave of pure dread washes over Mukushima as he realizes he's fallen into a deadly trap. The force of the blast sends him stumbling backward, completely caught off guard. A system window pops up, informing him he's been branded with the mark of Hades. He curses himself for letting his guard down, realizing Shiraya's spirit form nullified the physical blow. Shiraya explains the terrifying curse. Get marked 4 times, and his soul becomes an eternal slave. With a wicked grin, Shiraya promises he won't give him another chance to land a clean hit. Mukushima stares at the mark on his chest, the chilling words echoing in his mind 4 marks, and he becomes a mindless wraith. He's caught in a death trap. Getting close means another mark, but staying back means getting swarmed by spirits. The pressure is immense as he realizes what a pain this opponent is. Damn it, his best skill, the eightfold step, is still on cooldown when he needs it most. Someone calls his name from the sidelines, but he can only focus on the monster in front of him. Shiraya condescendingly admits that Mukushima has some talent for a mortal, but he follows it up by saying that in the end, he's just another nobody, lunging forward for the kill. The Reaper reveals his weakness. The spirit form constantly drains mana and takes extra damage from magic. But the trade-off is insane. He's completely immune to physical attacks, phasing right through Mukushima's blade. Shiraya mocks him, unleashing a torrent of shadowy spirits to end this little game. Mukushima is forced on the defensive, desperately parrying the relentless assault of spectral minions. The Reaper is amused by his speed, but taunts that it's ultimately pointless. Mukushima leaps in for a desperate strike, but Shiraya blocks it with ease, calling his attack laughably soft. He then lands a palm strike, branding Mukushima's chest with the second mark of Hades. Shiraya cackles, telling him there's absolutely nowhere to run from this fate. The curse spreads as a second agonizing mark burns itself onto Mukushima's hand. With 2 marks now carved into his flesh, Shiraya explains how his body will soon rot away and his bones will crumble to dust. Even worse, he reveals that once the 4th mark is placed, Mukushima's very soul will be chained and turned into his puppet. But instead of breaking, Mukushima just grits his teeth, his eyes burning with pure, unyielding rage. Shiraya unleashes his dark, Reaper-like power, a skeletal visage appearing over his face. But Mukushima is seething with pure rage, refusing to back down. The Reaper lands another hit, burning the 3rd mark of Hades into him while boasting that the 4th will enslave his soul. He casually swats Mukushima away with a massive swing of his scythe, laughing at his pathetic struggle. Mukushima creates some distance, landing on the other side of the courtyard to prepare his next move. Shiraya just scoffs, figuring out his plan is to try and run out the clock on his spirit form. He's not worried in the slightest, knowing he can maintain this state for 3 more minutes while Mukushima is already at his limit. Suddenly, Mukushima roars, deciding to channel the power of the curse itself for one last, desperate attack. He kneels, pouring every last drop of his aura into his blade for a single, all-or-nothing strike. Shiraya just smirks, thinking what an absolute idiot for charging up and leaving himself completely wide open. Mukushima unleashes his final move, Revenant Shape, while Shiraya taunts him to just become a wraith already. He channels a brilliant, holy-looking energy into his katana, preparing to bet everything on this one last shot. The blade phases harmlessly through Shiraya's spirit form, and the Reaper smirks, thinking physical attacks are useless. But then the holy energy explodes from the blade, and Shiraya is dumbfounded as it actually starts to damage him. Turns out, this was all part of the plan, as Mukushima Yai had given him a special talisman for this exact purpose. He had wrapped the charm around his sword's hilt, waiting for the perfect moment to spring his trap. She explains that this wasn't just some paper. It was soaked in sacred water and infused with a cleric's divine power. Its entire purpose was to exorcise spirits, making it the perfect weapon for this fight. Shiraya gets absolutely blasted by the holy aura, his spirit form flickering as he realizes this is his hard counter. Watching from afar, Duju Rim understands they've been played. Just as they had a counter for samurai, their opponents had one for them. Mukushima Yai watches with satisfaction, knowing their countermeasure was a brilliant move. But Mukushima's follow-up attack is suddenly deflected as Shiraya unleashes his own power. The Reaper just cackles, declaring it's far too late. The 4th mark of Hades has already been carved. Vile, dark energy erupts around Mukushima, trapping him in what Shiraya calls the fires of hell. Hovering above, Shiraya commands his victim to give up and become his puppet. The curse digs deep into his very soul, and Mukushima can only scream in absolute agony. But instead of breaking, he channels the holy energy from his own blade directly into his body. Shiraya is completely dumbfounded as the dark curse begins to burn away. Mukushima grits his teeth, asking if the Reaper really thought he'd just wait to be turned into a wraith. He roars that it's too bad, because he'd rather burn his own flesh than submit to the curse. Mukushima roars that purging the curse has actually made him feel lighter, as holy energy blasts away the shadows. Shiraya completely loses his composure, screaming for his minions to stop him at all costs. He can't wrap his head around it. He was sure he'd used every countermeasure against a spirit form. But then, a horrifying realization dawns on the Reaper's face. He remembers that Mukushima's eightfold step should still be on cooldown, yet our boy is moving like a blur. Mukushima just smirks, telling him that even if Hez figured it out, it's far too late. With a final push, he detonates his holy energy, obliterating the last remnants of the curse. He closes the distance in an instant, bringing his glowing blade down on the stunned Shiraya. Mukushima unleashes a devastating spinning slash, a technique called Revenant Shade, trapping the Reaper in a vortex of light. He bellows that hell end this now, long before he's ever turned into one of Shiraya's wraiths. The vortex of light and shadow tears through the arena as Mukushima puts everything into this one final move. He dives straight for the Reaper, screaming that he's going to end him right here and now. Shiraya is completely cornered, barely managing to throw up a desperate defense against the blindingly fast strike. His pride is shattered. He can't believe Hez being pushed so hard that he can't even block a single attack. But Mukushima doesn't care about his pride, thinking that if one hit isn't enough to break him, then he'll just keep swinging until the so-called Reaper is nothing more than a bad memory. The relentless barrage is too much, and Shiraya's form begins to dissolve under the sheer force of the assault. As the holy light finally fades from his blade, Mukushima takes a breath, the intense battle finally over. The Hades Asura can only mutter that he's lost, while Mukushima grimly claims his hard-earned victory. As his spiritual form shatters, Shiraya lets out one final, agonizing scream. But from the wreckage, a new figure emerges, Mukai-licked, the Zeus Asura, crackling with power. He looks down on the defeated Shiraya with pure contempt, calling him a disgrace to all Asura. Mukai glances away impatiently, wondering when the real entertainment is going to show up. Elsewhere, our boy Sora is already rocketing through the city, sensing the disturbance. Meanwhile, Mukushima stands over his fallen foe, ready to declare his hard-fought victory. Iwashima Jiru clenches his fist in celebration, but his joy is cut short by a sudden, dreadful feeling. Suddenly, Shuzenji appears beside him, warning that a sinister dark energy is rapidly growing. The blindfolded Arhat explains that this new power is on a whole other level than the Hades Asura. Dark tendrils erupt from Shiraya's body, and Mukushima realizes with horror that this nightmare isn't over. Shiraya's mind screams for just one more chance as a monstrous reflection appears in his eye. The dark energy coalesces, forming a terrifying skeletal hand out of thin air. A colossal, skeletal god emerges from the shadows, looking down on its vessel and calling its brother pitiful. Mukushima is completely dumbfounded, unable to process the absolute monster that just appeared. On the ground, Shiraya begs for another chance as the skeletal entity's claws close in on him, but the new being just grabs his head, sneering that cheap tricks could never win a real battle. It lectures him that power is everything as it begins to crush his skull with ease. With a bloody pop, the entity declares that everyone here, friend and foe alike, will die today. Mukushima is paralyzed with fear, finally understanding that this is the true, horrifying form of the Hades Asura. Even from a distance, the other guild leaders are speechless, wondering what kind of monster they're witnessing. From the sidelines, the Zeus, Asura, Mukai-licked, just smirks, thinking the real show is finally starting. The colossal Hades entity looms over the battlefield, its sheer presence suffocating everyone below. It coldly reveals its first kill after awakening was its own brother, absorbing him to gain more power. Since that day, it's slaughtered countless victims, turning each one into a mindless puppet in its army of souls. Mukushima Shoya steels himself, knowing that the monster has now declared that his fate will be the same. He desperately raises his sword to block a torrent of shadowy spirits crashing down on him. Suddenly, Hez horrified to find Hades' mark branded on his forehead, a curse that should have vanished with Shiraya. To make matters worse, he realizes his ultimate movement skill, Eightfold Step, is still on cooldown. With his back against the wall, he grits his teeth, wondering if he's completely out of options. But just as despair sinks in, a strange and unfamiliar power begins to surge from deep within him. This new power sends him spiraling into a memory of a past battle, one where he faced this colossal spider monster. Back then, he was completely out of gas, his attack getting swatted away like nothing. The beast let out a horrifying shriek as one of his men screamed for their master, utterly terrified. He was sent flying, tumbling helplessly into the darkness below. But even as he hit the ground, defeat was the last thing on his mind. He forced himself up, swearing he wouldn't fall until every last one of his comrades had safely retreated. He looked up to see the spider bearing down on his men, who were desperately trying to hold the line. With a burst of adrenaline, he charged forward, knowing he was too far away to intercept it in time. He had to draw its aggro, but he knew a simple attack wouldn't even scratch the damn thing. Then he spotted a sword already embedded in its head and realized that had to be its weak point. With no other option, Mukushima Shuya hurls his own katana, aiming to use it to drive the other sword deeper. It's a perfect hit! The blade sinks further into the monster's skull, and the beast lets out a pained roar. For a split second, he thinks he's actually done it, a wave of relief washing over him. But that relief turns to pure dread as the spider's eyes flare with an even greater rage. The monster lunges, and he barely dodges, taunting the ugly freak to keep its focus solely on him. But the enraged beast is relentless, its attacks coming faster and harder than before. One of its massive legs smashes down, sending one of his men flying into the air like a rag doll. Before he can even process it, another blow sends him tumbling backward through the air. He crashes hard onto the ground, the impact rattling his entire body. As he struggles to look up, the colossal spider looms over him, ready to deliver the final, crushing blow. He looks up in despair, wondering if this pathetic end is all he amounted to. At the very least, he finds a sliver of peace knowing he managed to save a few of his people. His mind flashes back to another failure, another monster, consumed by the regret that he wasn't strong enough. But just as he accepts his fate, a voice rings out, telling the human not to give up. Out of nowhere, a winged, ethereal warrior dives down, intercepting the spider's fatal blow. He can't believe it. He was just saved by the legendary Crow Tengu, a martial arts master from the old myths. In that moment, he realizes it wasn't just monsters that invaded their world, the legendary heroes descended too. The spectral being stands before him, a silent guardian in the cavern's gloom. Barely catching his breath, he thanks his savior and asks who he is. The winged warrior simply replies that he can call him Crow Tengu. The spirit explains has bound by a fallen warrior's will to find an heir for the legendary spider cutter blade. The problem is, the very spider yokai that was slain by the sword has somehow returned to life. Holding a serious grudge, the monster ambushed Crow Tengu, leading to a desperate battle. He managed to land a fatal blow, but it wasn't enough. They took each other down in a stalemate. But seeing Mukushima Shoya risk his life for a stranger made him realize he was the key. He proposes they team up to kill the spider and reclaim the sword of his fallen friend. Mukushima Shoya is dumbfounded, but accepts the honor without a moment's hesitation. From then on, the legendary Crow Tengu stayed by his side, training him personally. He poured everything into mastering the heroic legacy his new master was passing down. But in the end, he admits with regret that he just didn't have the talent to see it through. He admits he couldn't inherit everything the legendary warrior had to offer. Of the 6 techniques, he only mastered 3. But he knew it would be enough if they fought together. Their battle against the spider monster was absolutely brutal. He used the Eightfold Step, one of the skills he'd mastered, to blitz the creature. With a final, decisive strike, he was able to take the monster down for good. Afterwards, Crow Tengu entrusted him with the legendary blades, including Spider Cutter. But Mukushima Shoya made a promise to pass the sword to a more worthy successor if he ever found one. Back in the present, he roars, unleashing the very power he inherited as lightning crackles around him. He becomes a whirlwind of death, cutting through the horde of armored monsters. Even as he fights, he feels he was never truly worthy of wielding such a legendary blade. He unleashes a powerful shockwave, sending the shadowy monsters flying. But the sheer number of these trash-tier mobs is just overwhelming. Even with his immense power, Mukushima Shoya starts to get pushed back, his body taking a beating. He realizes his own strength isn't going to cut it against this endless tide. With no other choice, he decides he has to borrow the true power sealed within the legendary blade. He grips the hilt, remembering the promise he made to the man who saved his life. If he dies here, that promise dies with him, and a strange mark appears on his forehead as his eyes begin to glow. With a guttural roar, he draws out the sword's latent energy, letting it surge through his entire body. The resulting blast of pure power absolutely obliterates the entire horde in an instant. But just as his crew thinks the coast is clear, a terrifying skeletal lich materializes from the lingering energy. Iwashima Jiru watches nervously, wondering if that legendary sword is truly enough to defeat a monster of this caliber. But Mukushima Shoya knows the grim truth. Even a hero is still just a human. Duju Rim scoffs from the sidelines, declaring that a hero's weapon could never hope to beat a god. The colossal skeletal lich looms over them, its presence alone enough to crush their spirits. But as it feels the pressure from the sword's aura, the lich is dumbfounded, questioning if it's actually feeling fear. Shaking it off, the lich roars and commands its shadow soldiers to charge and snuff out the warrior. A tidal wave of shadowy minions surges forward, intent on overwhelming their target with sheer numbers. Yet Mukushima stands his ground, a beacon of light as the dark horde crashes against his protective aura. He recalls the blade's history, how it was once used by a legendary warrior to slay a monstrous spider god. Turns out, this sword was forged with the divine power to suppress evil itself, and it begins to tear the shadow soldiers apart. Mukushima swings with all his might, the divine blade clashing against the wave of dark energy. He knows his sword is strong, but he's not sure how effective it will be against a true god of the underworld. His doubt costs him as a shadow arrow slips past his guard and embeds itself deep in his leg. But he grits his teeth through the pain, realizing there's only one way to win this. He decides to bet it all on a single strike, pouring every last drop of his mana into the blade. With a furious roar, he unleashes the sword's ultimate technique, the spider cut. A tempest of sacred light erupts from his position, tearing through the battlefield like a holy storm. The shadow soldiers are utterly helpless, their dark forms disintegrating the moment the light touches them. His attack carves a massive path through the horde, annihilating scores of minions in a single, brilliant flash. And now, with the trash-tier mobs cleared out, The full force of the attack barrels directly towards the dumbfounded skeletal lich. The skeletal lich smirks, thinking the attack is tough, but ultimately futile. It conjures a massive dark magic circle, a shield of pure demonic energy, to block the incoming light. The lich's defense holds strong, and it taunts the swordsman, telling him he's no match for its power. It pours more energy into the barrier, determined to snuff out this last glimmer of hope. The monster roars, questioning how a mere hero's weapon could possibly break through its absolute defense. The holy light slams into the dark magic, grinding to a halt in a blinding stalemate of power. But then, a high-pitched, grating noise fills the air, and the lich looks on in utter disbelief. Elsewhere, powerful members of the Tiger Roar Guild, like Duju Rim, suddenly clutch their heads in agony. Even top-tier fighters like Shuzenji, Yukio, and Iwashima Jiru are brought to their knees by the piercing sound. Back on the battlefield, the lich's impenetrable magic circle cracks and then completely shatters into dust. The lich is absolutely dumbfounded, as its ultimate defense crumbles into nothing. It's sent reeling back, unable to comprehend how its magic was so easily shattered. Turns out, Mukushima's blade, the Spider Cutter Howlblade, has a nasty little secret. He explains that while the slash can be blocked, the sonic waves it emits are unstoppable. With a surge of power, he unleashes the sword's true ability. A roar-like sonic wave designed to paralyze his foes. The colossal lich is caught dead in its tracks, its entire body frozen by the invisible attack. Mukushima sees his one and only chance and grits his teeth, preparing to end this now. The lich is furious, realizing its movements have been completely sealed by mere sound waves. It warns him not to get cocky, as a divine blessing cuts the paralysis effect from 20 seconds down to 10. But Mukushima charges in anyway, knowing the moment an enemy thinks they're safe is the best time to strike. He rockets forward, knowing you have to strike when your enemy is at their absolute weakest. Mukushima pushes himself to the limit, screaming internally for more speed. Every fiber of his being strains to move even faster. This is their last chance, and he's betting everything on this single, decisive blow. But just as he's about to land the hit, the lich's eye twitches. The paralysis is breaking. He realizes with dawning horror that the monster is already regaining consciousness. Cursing his luck, he puts everything he has left into this final, desperate charge. For a split second, he wonders if he's even going to make it in time. The lich lets out a defiant roar, refusing to be taken down by a mere mortal. And just like that, his all-or-nothing attack is stopped cold, caught between the monster's teeth, leaving him completely dumbfounded. Mukushima grits his teeth, realizing with absolute certainty that they're not going to make it. The colossal form of Hades looms over him, declaring that the fight is already over. A torrent of dark energy erupts from the god form, engulfing Mukushima in pure agony. He's sent flying by a massive skeletal fist, completely powerless against the overwhelming force. Lying broken in the monster's palm, all he can hear is its triumphant, echoing laughter. Hades gloats, absolutely certain that its victory is sealed. As its grip tightens, it begins applying the mark of Hades, intending to turn him into an undead puppet. But suddenly, the god form pauses, sensing an unexpected interference. Turns out, the cavalry has arrived. Shuzenji, Iwashima, and Muhushima Yai are charging in to save their ally. Muhushima Yai steals her resolve, knowing she can't just stand by and watch this happen. But just as they're about to charge, a brilliant golden figure materializes, blocking their path. The entity declares that no one is permitted to interfere in this sacred battle. A pulse of energy radiates from her as she prepares to enforce the tower's rules. Iwashima is dumbfounded, demanding to know who the hell she is, but it's clear she's not here to talk. Elsewhere, the Tiger Roar members, Duju Rim and Iwagaya Haichi, are rocked by a sudden, violent tremor. Duju Rim is in disbelief, realizing someone is attacking the barrier from the outside, a feat that should be impossible. The sky itself answers her question, boiling with dark clouds and crackling with immense power. A colossal bolt of pure energy slams down from the heavens, striking the golden announcer head-on. The system's guardian reels back, its perfect form glitching and distorting under the raw force. Its face begins to crack like glass, shattering into nothingness from an attack it was never designed to withstand. Duju Rim is completely floored, screaming that the barrier has been breached by their own boss's lightning. Her companion points to the sky, confirming her worst fears as the source of the attack becomes visible. Descending from the heavens are Sora and his father, arriving just in the nick of time with a storm of electricity. The sight of the lightning spear attack leaves Duju Rim dumbfounded. That's a move only their leader should possess. But the skeletal lich isn't phased, throwing up a Diamond Veil magic shield to block the incoming assault. On the ground, the Alliance scrambles, with one of the dad's subordinates yelling for everyone to protect their master and trust in Sora. Our boy knows a simple blast won't cut it, concentrating the raw, crackling energy into a single, overwhelming point. He unleashes the attack, a spear of pure power that shatters the lich's defenses and slams into its skull. The Lich roars in fury, taunting them that breaking through the barrier was a pointless, trash-tier move. It then reveals its ultimate trump card. Sora's own father, now trapped and controlled by dark energy, is nothing more than its puppet. Sora stands defiantly atop the crumbling pillar, staring down the monster that dares to use his family against him. But his dad, with a final act of will, roars and stomps the ground, deciding to turn himself into a launch pad. Our boy yells out his thanks, knowing this is the one shot his old man can give him. Using his father's power, he shoots forward like a human cannonball, right as the Lich swings its massive hand to intercept. The skeletal monster is left completely dumbfounded, unable to comprehend this insane father-son tag team. Before it can even process the move, Sora smashes a supercharged fist directly into its skull. The Lich reels back, screaming not just from the impact, but because it feels its very power being drained from its arm. In a blind rage, it slams its other colossal fist down on the battlefield, aiming to crush the Alliance members below. On the ground, his father's loyal crew can only watch in absolute horror at the overwhelming display of power. But the reason for the Lich's panic becomes clear. Sora has latched onto its arm, his absorption skill already tearing it apart from the inside. With his father slung over his shoulder, Sora declares that as long as he's here, he won't let a single person die on his watch. The Lich roars in absolute fury, but Sora just glares back, calling the monster a bastard for what it's done. He looks at his old man, amazed that he managed to hold out for so long against this overwhelming power. But our boy quickly realizes this skeleton is just a distraction. The real problem is someone else. His eyes lock onto the figure outside the barrier, the one casually firing off devastating lightning attacks. It's Mukai Licht, the strongest person he's met since leaving the Abyss, who remarks that Sora has finally returned. But Sora is left completely dumbfounded when the lightning strikes him and does absolutely no damage. In fact, he finds he can not only touch the energy, but wield it as his own. He wonders how it's even possible to handle this god's power so easily, as if it was always meant for him. A massive surge of lightning erupts from Sora as he vents the power he just absorbed. But he knows this isn't the time to marvel at his own strength. His allies are still protecting his injured father. His gaze locks onto the real threat floating in the sky, realizing he has to take out Mukai Licht first. Mukai just smirks, finding the whole situation incredibly amusing as a giant serpent manifests behind him. He calls out to the fighters on the ground, getting everyone's attention with a casual, "Hey, hey, hey." This gets Hiro Ryusei all fired up, who grins and points out that since the barrier is gone, the rules no longer apply. The shirtless brawler immediately calls out to the blindfolded monk, Shuzenji Yukio. With a battle cry, Hiro launches himself at the monk, screaming that it's time for another round. Watching this unfold, Duju Rim wonders why their boss isn't stopping Hiro from running wild. Then it clicks. She realizes Mukai is letting this chaos happen just to gauge our boy's true strength. Seeing the chaos, Dujo Rim decides she can't just sit back and watch this unfold. She whips around, yelling at Iwagaya and asking how long he plans on just being a spectator. Iwagaya just smirks, telling her to worry about herself since an assassin's arrival is perfectly timed. Not done yet, Duju screams at Shiraya, telling him that losing one arm is no excuse to stay out of the fight. Shiraya's monstrous true form snarls back that he doesn't need to be told what to do. The colossal skeletal being, the true form of Hades, glares with pure malice. He vows that no one can escape death as he launches himself directly at Sora. A storm of dark, shadowy energy erupts from the Hades form, hurtling towards our boy. Sora quickly turns to Iwashima, telling the old man he's leaving his dad and the others in his hands. Iwashima accepts the duty without hesitation, smashing the ground to create a protective barrier. A massive earthen wall erupts, shielding Sora's dad, mom, and even Mukushima from the blast. With his family safe, Sora turns to face the storm of death magic head-on, completely unfazed. He smirks, realizing that with everyone protected, he can finally go all out and promises to kill anyone who dares to touch them. Meanwhile, Hiro Ryusei rushes in to finish off Shuzenji, screaming for him to die, but he's left completely dumbfounded as his punches connect with nothing but air. In a flash, Sora appears out of nowhere, declaring the first one is down as he slams a knee into Hiro's gut. Hiro can't even process the insane speed as a monstrous, winged energy construct tears into his flesh. The attack shreds through him relentlessly, a whirlwind of claws and dark power. With one final, brutal kick, Sora sends the mangled body of the Asura flying across the battlefield. Dujo can only watch in absolute horror as her teammate is effortlessly obliterated. Duju is in utter disbelief, thinking that idiot Hiro couldn't even take a single hit. Seeing the other Asura's spirits swarming, Sora coolly tells Shuzenji to handle them. The blind monk acknowledges the order, immediately beginning a chant for his silent Dharma curse. A massive wave of holy energy erupts from his position, instantly neutralizing the shadow spirits. With the small fry taken care of, Sora turns his full, undivided attention to the terrified Duju. She panics, realizing Shiraya's spirit form is getting completely dominated by the monk's technique. In a desperate move, she summons her Valkyrie shield and charges forward with everything she has. But our boy just casually stops the massive shield bash with one hand, completely unimpressed. Her blood runs cold. She knows she's facing a monster she has no hope of defeating. She tries to draw her sword, but Sora is already on her, grabbing her wrist and shutting her down completely. With her defenses shattered, Sora unloads a vicious flurry of blows directly into her face. He doesn't give her a single inch, pummeling her relentlessly with pure, overwhelming force. The rest of her crew gets the same treatment, getting absolutely ragdolled by our boy. Battered and broken, she desperately wonders why her boss hasn't made a move to save them yet. Turns out, the boss, ManhwaCapped, is floating high above the battlefield, calling someone below worthless trash. He smugly reminds his real target that they forgot he's still under the curse of weakness. With a wicked grin, he declares that this next strike will be something special. He dedicates the attack to Mukushima's wife before unleashing it, carving a massive crater into the earth. From afar, the blind monk Shuzenji feels the terrifying wave of divine energy. Realizing it's aimed at the curse mage, knowing it's reckless, he decides there's no other way and begins to remove his blindfold. With his eyes now open and glowing, Shuzenji prepares to activate his ultimate technique, the Heavenly Eye. But ManhwaCapped just scoffs from the heavens, telling the monk he won't get a chance to power up like the last fool. The monk's face falls. He realizes he's been completely outmaneuvered and is way too slow. With a look of utter contempt, ManhwaCapped calls him an insect and prepares to erase him from existence. A spear of pure, divine lightning materializes from the storm clouds, aimed straight for the ground. The attack descends like a bolt from God himself, promising nothing but total annihilation for its target. Elsewhere, Iwashimajiru is splattered with blood, his face a mask of pure disbelief at what he's witnessing. Turns out, our boy Sora had blitzed in at the last second, taking the full force of the divine judgment head-on. The world explodes in a blinding flash of energy, leaving nothing but a smoldering, cratered wasteland. But as the dust settles, Sora is still standing, gritting his teeth as he absorbs the last of the devastating power. Amidst the rubble, a single, pale hand juts out from beneath the crushing weight of the rocks. It's motionless, a grim testament to the collateral damage of the divine attack. Our boy Sora stares, his mind going blank for a second before the horrifying realization hits him like a truck. He lets out a gut-wrenching scream for his mom, scrambling towards the wreckage in a desperate frenzy. But before he can get there, a golden shield flies right at his face, trying to halt his advance. Absolutely livid, Sora snarls, warning the attacker not to get in his damn way. With a roar, he smashes the shield into pieces, his raw power overwhelming the divine artifact. He glances at his fist, realizing he's just absorbed the shield's power, feeling it amplify his own. Without a second's hesitation, he launches himself at the one who dared to stop him, Duju Rim. As her curse of weakness shatters, he tells her he hopes her head is clearer now that she's back at full power. He throws a punch, but she catches it mid-air, dumbfounded by the sheer power our boy is packing. Duju Rim shoves him back with a wave of energy, ordering him to get out of her way. Suddenly, Sora finds himself completely paralyzed, unable to move an inch as her power takes hold. She leans in close, twisting the knife by telling him the only reason the curse broke is because his mother is already dead. That's the last straw. Sora roars for her to shut up and sends her flying with a vicious kick. The devastating news hits him hard, and he stumbles, which she mistakes for him losing his will to fight. Seeing her chance, she declares that a person with a weak will is the perfect prey for her. She summons a spear of holy light and hurls it forward, impaling Sora straight through the chest. The divine energy wraps around his body like chains, searing him from the inside out. Duju Rim watches with a smug look, absolutely convinced that her attack has worked. Sora cries out, but a second later, he's dumbfounded he can't feel any damage at all. Duju Rim activates her search eye to figure out what the hell is going on with this kid. Her jaw drops. Inside him is a divine power greater than a god's, absorbing her attack like a black hole. She realizes he's like an infant who can't even use his own strength properly. But what kind of monster is he? Suddenly it all clicks. This is why the boss gave the order to kill him on sight. Deciding he absolutely cannot be allowed to live, she activates her sacred aura, boosting her stats. She screams for her comrades, Shiraya and Iwagaya, to lend her their strength to finish this now. In response, the colossal form of Hades erupts from the shadows, roaring that he can finally summon his weapon. At the same time, Iwagaya blitzes in from the side, knowing they have to kill our boy before he finishes growing. The three of them launch a desperate all-out assault, terrified that if he masters this power, he'll surpass the gods themselves. Duju Rim lunges forward, roaring that his journey ends right here and now. But her face triggers a traumatic memory in Sora, and all he can see is his mother. He's thrown back to the day of the disaster, staring at a lifeless hand buried in the rubble. Suddenly, the fingers twitch, and a desperate thought flashes through his mind. She's still alive. Back in the present, the three Asura combine their power, casting Soul Chain to completely restrain him. But the vision won't stop. He sees his mother, crushed and broken, weakly calling his name. Her hand stretches out from the debris, a final, desperate plea for help. That image shatters something inside Sora, and with a primal scream for his mom, he reaches back. The Asura are completely dumbfounded as their divine chains begin to crack and shatter from his raw power. With a final, earth-shattering roar, our boy obliterates their binding spell in a shockwave of pure force. Tears stream down his face as the traumatic memory consumes him completely. He clutches his head, screaming in denial, refusing to accept what he's seeing all over again. In his mind, Hez kneeling before his mother's broken body, utterly helpless. He's completely lost, his mind racing with the horrible question of what he could have possibly done. His mother, pinned beneath the rubble, weakly tells him that it's enough, but our boy won't accept it, desperately clinging to her arm and refusing to let go. With her last breath, she tells him not to worry and to just run, to save himself. She says he must walk his own path now, promising to always watch over him as ethereal figures loom in the background. But while Sora is lost in his grief, the Hades Asura, Shiraya, sees the perfect opening. With Sora's guard completely down, Shiraya lunges in for the kill, screaming for him to die. Just as the blade is about to connect, it stops dead in its tracks. Our boy snaps back to reality, his eyes blazing with an insane purple light. Shiraya is dumbfounded, finding his wrist caught in an unbreakable grip. With a single flex of power, Sora completely shatters the divine blade. The Hades Asura can't comprehend what just happened. A knife of divine power is just gone. Seeing an opening, the Hermes Asura, Iwagaya, activates his haste skill to rush in, but the Athena Asura, Duju Rim, swoops down from above to stop him. She's in absolute shock, realizing Sora just destroyed that weapon with a bare-knuckle punch. Duju screams at her ally, warning him not to engage this monster directly. She grits her teeth and raises her shield, knowing this fight just got a whole lot harder. With a furious roar, Sora channels all his dark energy into his fist, slamming it against her shield. The divine barrier, once thought impenetrable, begins to spiderweb and crack under the sheer force. Duju can only stare in disbelief, her mind unable to process how her ultimate defense is being shattered. His eyes glowing with purple malice, Sora snarls that he's going to kill every last one of them. She has a moment of horrifying realization. He's absorbing the shield's divine power and getting even stronger. Our boy winds up for a haymaker, his body now overflowing with the power he just stole. Duju screams a desperate warning to her allies, telling them not to use any more divine power against him. But it's too late for her, as Sora lunges forward with blinding speed, his fist ready to connect. She's completely frozen, knowing deep down that there's absolutely no way she can dodge this. The punch lands with devastating force, sending the Athena Asura flying backwards through the air. But before he can celebrate, the Hades Asura, Shiraya, materializes behind him for a sneak attack, only to be dumbfounded when Sora blocks it without even looking. Our boy glances back with glowing purple eyes, a silent confirmation that Shiraya's stealth is utterly useless against him. With a flick of his wrist, Sora sends the ghostly form of the Hades Asura flying across the battlefield. Shiraya is in absolute denial, wondering how it's even possible for someone to notice his spirit form. He realizes with horror that Sora isn't just seeing him. He's absorbing his divine power and completely neutralizing his stealth. Suddenly, Shiraya's voice echoes, telling Sora he's forgetting something important as an image of his dying mother appears in the rubble. The colossal true form of Hades looms over her, taunting Sora for being a disgrace who abandoned his own mother to fight. Enraged, Sora turns to face the monstrous apparition, screaming that he won't let this twisted vision play out. But the giant skeletal beast moves with terrifying speed, bringing its massive foot down on our boy. Hades crushes Sora's leg into the ground, sneering at the pathetic weakling for daring to think he could be a savior. The vision continues, showing a past battle where Shiraya lands a clean hit on Sora, who cries out for his ally, Shuzenji. Our boy is sent flying, completely overwhelmed by the force of the attack. Shiraya smirks, thinking he's landed a decisive blow. Turns out, this was all a setup, as the colossal Hades reveals this memory is playing out exactly as it planned. The monstrous god unleashes a devastating attack from above, a torrent of purple energy called Death Flame. Pinned to the ground, Sora can only grit his teeth as the apocalyptic blast descends upon him. The sheer scale of Hades' power is immense, ready to vaporize everything in its path. But at the last second, Sora's own dark energy erupts, and he somehow manages to block the attack, leaving Shiraya dumbfounded. A sinister realization dawns on Hades' face as it confirms its suspicion. Our boy can absorb divine power. The vision ends, and Hades taunts the crushed Sora, challenging him to absorb the pain of seeing his mother's body right before him. Shiraya unleashes his death flame once more, convinced this overwhelming power will finally put our boy down. But Duju Rim is sent flying, screaming at him for being an absolute idiot and just feeding Sora free power. She's in a panic, realizing that neither divine power nor close quarters combat has any effect on him. Sora just roars back, confirming that all their flashy attacks are completely and utterly useless. He then proves his point by creating a vortex of dark energy, absorbing the entire divine flame attack. Shrugging off the residual energy, Sora prepares to launch a devastating counterattack. In a flash, he's on top of a stunned Shiraya, ready to pound him into the dirt. Seeing this, Dujo gets desperate, deciding to wrap stones in divine power to use as bullets and threatening to kill his mother. That was the last straw. Hearing his mother threatened sends Sora into a blind rage. He's forced to abandon his attack on Shiraya to block the vicious barrage of divinely charged rubble. Our boy grunts as he weathers the storm of divine rocks, taking the hits head on. Shiraya just cackles, telling him to burn out while ordering his allies to join the dogpile. He screams for Sora to die as the full, unrelenting barrage rains down from all sides. But Sora isn't just a punching bag. He spins like a whirlwind, shattering the projectiles with his own dark power. Still, the assault is endless, and even he can't help but get annoyed at their persistence. Suddenly, a vision flashes through his mind. His mother, beaten and broken on the ground. With tears in her eyes, she begs him to stop, telling him he's done enough. But her pleas fall on deaf ears as Sora roars back a defiant no. He screams that he has to take them down, because what's the point of living if he can't even protect his family? His enemies just mock his touching family love as they combine their powers for one final, overwhelming blast. Mukai Licht sneers that Sora's family drama is making him sick as he channels a storm of divine lightning. He scoffs at Sora's ability to absorb divine power, revealing he has a trump card for just this situation. With a smirk, he materializes a golden dagger, declaring this meaningless struggle is over as he summons the Blade of Atropos. He explains this isn't just any weapon, it's a divine relic that can sever the very threads of fate. Turns out, its special property is that it can cut through any divine power, making it the perfect counter to our boy. Mukai decides to turn this fate-severing blade into an arrow, charging it with an insane amount of energy. He's confident that once he fires this shot, it will be absolutely impossible for Sora to block. With his bow fully drawn, he vows to cut Sora's destiny short right here and now. The sheer pressure radiating from the attack is so immense it even sends the powerful Shuzenji Yukio flying. Dumbfounded, Shuzenji looks up at the heavens, realizing the divine power gathering above is on a whole other level of dangerous. Realizing the attack is inescapable, Shuzenji screams for our boy to get the hell out of there, but a voice cuts in from behind, as Sora's dad appears, asking if he really has time to worry about someone else. Before Shuzenji can even react, his dad grabs him and yanks him out of the blast zone at blinding speed. Sora, barely conscious on the ground, can only watch in confusion, wondering what on earth is happening. Suddenly, his mind is thrown back into a traumatic memory, seeing himself as a helpless, crying child. In the vision, his mother's voice calls out his name, her tone filled with sorrow. She presses a small red pouch into his hand, a final keepsake from a life about to be extinguished. Lying broken on the ground, she looks at him with tears in her eyes, trying to tell him something about his true nature. Her last words confess her love for him just as a cataclysmic explosion of light vaporizes everything. Back in the present, Mukai finally lets his divine arrow fly, a pillar of pure energy meant to erase Sora from existence. A system message confirms Mukai's offering to Zeus is complete. The god is pleased with the sacrifice. He turns to leave, but his companion, Dujurim, looks on with a deep sense of unease. She can't shake her doubts, wondering aloud if Sora is truly dead after an attack like that. Mukai scoffs, telling her that Zeus himself confirmed the kill so she should stop worrying. He reminds her the real problem is that their actions have just declared war on every other guild. But it turns out the divine arrow didn't vaporize Sora, it blasted him straight through the earth. Our boy's unconscious body plummets into a subterranean lake, sinking into the cold abyss. Silence falls over the deep, forgotten caverns beneath the battlefield. Just then, a mysterious blonde swordsman appears from the shadows and drags Sora from the water. Sora's eyes flutter open as he slowly regains consciousness. His first thought a disbelieving question, is he still alive? Dazed, Sora wonders where he is as the mysterious swordsman drags him through a dark cavern. His mind drifts, his first thoughts calling out for his mom and dad. Suddenly, a horrific memory flashes through his mind. His mother, beaten and broken on the ground. He snaps awake with a jolt, screaming their names in a blind panic. Grabbing his head in anguish, he accuses his rescuer, remembering a promise to protect them. But the blonde warrior is completely unfazed, coldly telling him a grown man shouldn't be crying like a child. Sora stares, dumbfounded, trying to figure out who this person is. The rescuer just looks back, his expression a mix of pity and annoyance. Scrambling to his feet, Sora desperately asks if he was saved and if his parents are still alive. The man ignores his pleas, instead questioning how someone so weak could have been chosen by that one. The man tells our boy to accept reality, his face cold and emotionless. He drops the bombshell. Sora's parents died to save him. Without another word, he grabs Sora's arm, telling him it's time to go. But Sora snaps, screaming that it's a lie and has going back for them. He struggles desperately, yelling for the man to let him go. In his panic, Sora realizes something is wrong. He can't summon any of his strength. The rescuer is completely dumbfounded, asking if our boy really dares to shout at him. Fed up, he shoves Sora away, telling him to stop wailing like a child. Sora hits the ground, clutching his arm as the man scolds him for his lack of gratitude. The rescuer's eyes turn ice cold as he warns Sora that he can kill him just as easily as he saved him. Seething on the ground, Sora can only curse the man who just threatened his life. The rescuer explains that the blade of Atropos severed his divine power, making him nothing more than an ordinary human. He slams his massive sword into the ground, a silent challenge to our boy's powerlessness. The man then offers a lifeline, saying that one can reconnect Sora to the divine power within him. Not only that, he promises they will teach Sora how to properly wield the immense strength he was fumbling with. He extends a hand, giving Sora a simple choice: stay here and be useless, or come with him. Sora hesitates, his fist clenching in the dirt as he weighs his non-existent options. With no other choice, he takes the man's hand, reluctantly agreeing to the deal. The rescuer pulls him to his feet, and our boy confirms he'll go along with the plan. But the man leans in close, warning him not to mistake this for an act of kindness, leaving Sora completely baffled. The rescuer immediately declares that from this moment on, he is Sora's enemy and tells him to watch his back. But before Sora can even process this, a voice echoes from the darkness, demanding to know who's there. A blindfolded monk emerges, vowing he won't let them take the child of his fallen friends until he knows who that one is. Our boy is stunned, recognizing the man as Shuzenji. Shuzenji looks at Sora with deep regret, apologizing for his failure to protect his parents. He explains that the backlash of divine power cast them deep underground, which is how they both barely survived. Sinking into the memory, he reaffirms the promise he made to Sora's parents, a promise he'll fulfill with his life. Back in the present, Shuzenji warns the rescuer that if he dares use Sora's power for his own selfish ends, there will be no forgiveness. The blonde warrior just scoffs, mocking the half-dead monk for acting so high and mighty. But Shuzenji is unmoved, calmly stating that he doesn't fear death, because clinging to life would be a shame he cannot bear. Shuzenji knows he can't face Sora's parents in the afterlife if he fails to keep the promise he made to them. The blonde warrior, fed up with the standoff, simply suggests they ask the kid what he wants to do. Sora calls out to Shuzenji, finally ready to make his choice known. Our boy confesses that he wants revenge more than anything, but in his current state, he's completely powerless. Fueled by desperation, he declares that he doesn't care if he's used by someone, so long as he can finally awaken. The monk is completely floored, stunned into silence by the sheer intensity of Sora's will. With a pained expression, Shuzenji accepts the grim reality of the boy's decision. He tells Sora that he understands, and if this is the path he's chosen, he will not object. Before letting him go, he hands over a katana, explaining it's the last thing his parents left for him. The moment Sora's hand touches the hilt, he feels a strange energy as a system window pops into view. Sora instantly recognizes the energy flowing from the blade. He knows this feeling all too well. It's the same power his parents wielded, but he senses something more, a history buried deep within the steel. The monk explains that the sword holds the records of generations of heroes, but warns Sora that he lacks the divine power to access them. Our boy is stunned. A weapon that carries the souls of its wielders is a heavy burden to bear. Shuzenji reveals that Sora's parents entrusted the blade to him, knowing that one day their son would be ready for it. Sora scoffs internally, realizing his parents used their precious foresight just to ensure he'd get this sword. The blonde rescuer cuts in, impatiently asking if they're finally done, and Sora quietly agrees. As they walk away, Sora's mind races, replaying the nightmare of entering the tower and losing his parents all over again. He wonders where this dark path is even taking him as a grim vision of a robed skeleton on a throne fills his mind. A single, glowing eye flares in the darkness, leaving Sora to question what terrifying fate awaits him. The trio descends into a massive, eerie cave system beneath the 6th refuge area. Shuzenji remarks on the sheer scale of the place, something he never could have imagined existed. The blonde rescuer snaps at the monk, demanding to know why a blind man is even tagging along. With a calm smile, Shuzenji explains his purpose is simple: to protect the son of the deceased. The rescuer is completely dumbfounded by this seemingly trash-tier answer. He scoffs, pointing out that Shuzenji is too weak to protect anyone, let alone Sora, from a real threat. The monk doesn't deny it, so the rescuer presses him, asking how he plans to be a shield. Shuzenji simply states that he will protect Sora with his life, a vow that silences everyone. This triggers a memory for the monk of his female subordinate, reminding him to follow their leader's instructions for the best outcome. But he can only remember the disastrous result, a painful failure that now fuels his every move. Shuzenji declares he's done with prophecies. From now on, the only thing he trusts is his own life. Sora is stunned into silence by the sheer conviction in the monk's voice. The blonde rescuer finally gives in, telling them to just follow him if they're so keen on meeting a god. Our boy simply watches, his mind racing as he processes the heavy atmosphere. The monk's words trigger a devastating flashback for Sora, remembering his father holding his dying mother. He grips his katana, wondering if his survival was truly the best outcome for his mom. Shuzenji then turns to Sora, asking if this so-called god they're walking towards is the real deal or just a liar. Their guide just scoffs, clearly unimpressed with the deep talk, and continues walking. He glances back with a smirk, telling them they're almost there and seeing its form will clear any doubts. Sora's eyes narrow with intense focus, bracing himself for what lies ahead in the darkness. As they walk, Sora decides he's had enough of the mystery. He calls out to their guide, asking just what kind of god this person they're meeting really is. The blonde rescuer glances back, warning him that it's not a name you speak so lightly. Before Sora can press further, their guide stops, announcing they've finally arrived at a massive, ancient gate. Both Sora and Shuzenji are left speechless, completely floored by the sheer size of the structure before them. Their guide ignores their shock, stepping forward and beginning to channel a brilliant blue energy into his hands. He declares that with the raging fire in his hand, he shall present himself before his god. He then thrusts the ethereal flame forward, sending it hurtling towards the gate. The energy slams into the door's central symbol, causing it to erupt in blinding light as the ancient lock disengages. As the colossal gate slowly grinds open, the rescuer simply gestures forward, telling them to enter. But just as Shuzenji moves to follow, the blonde rescuer puts a hand up, telling him he has to wait for the god's permission. Shuzenji turns to Sora with a final warning. Be careful of the cave god, because the divine power in our boy's body is so extraordinary the god might try to steal it. Sora nods in understanding as their guide simply tells him to come, leaving the blindfolded warrior behind. With no other choice, Shuzenji is left standing alone as Sora and the rescuer head into the darkness. The rescuer then reveals that the god of intrigue and flames is the one waiting for him inside. Intrigue and flames, Sora thinks to himself, steeling his resolve for whatever twisted trial is coming next. He doesn't care what kind of god it is, or whether it wants to recruit him or just use him for its own ends. Because as he steps through the threshold, Sora makes a promise to himself. He'll be the one to take control. Now completely alone, our boy enters a vast, cavernous hall, facing a seemingly endless flight of stairs. With grim determination, he begins the long, solitary walk up into the heart of the god's domain. The moment Sora steps past the threshold, a magic circle flares to life beneath his feet, marking his official entry. He whips his head around, suddenly feeling an oppressive, suffocating aura wash over him. Back at the gate, Shuzenji is left dumbfounded, realizing he's sensing an overwhelming wave of pure divine power. Inside, the sheer scale of the place is insane. Our boy is just a tiny speck in a colossal, dark throne room. He walks forward, his eyes fixed on the shadowy figure waiting for him at the very end of this grand hall. Sora confirms his suspicions. This immense presence has to be the god of intrigue and flames he was warned about. Just as predicted, he's face to face with the Norse god, Loki, slumped on a massive, imposing throne. But as he gets a closer look, he can't help but notice something is off with the god's form. The mighty deity looks ancient, completely worn out and withered by the passage of time. Suddenly, a single eye flashes open in the darkness, its gaze locking onto the mortal who dared to judge him. A voice echoes in the hall, as Loki remarks that Sora has finally arrived. The ancient god seems intrigued, questioning our boy's complete lack of fear. He notes that to remain so calm in the presence of a god is no small feat. Loki quickly concludes that Sora is clearly no ordinary, run-of-the-mill human. He then prods him, asking if he's here seeking vengeance for his fallen family. Sora doesn't miss a beat, declaring that revenge is the exact reason he came. The god reveals a critical weakness. A sacred artifact has severed Sora's divine power, and restoring it will have a cost. Without a shred of hesitation, Sora promises he'll offer anything to get that power back. Our boy then calls him out, saying this desperate plea is exactly what the god of intrigue wanted to hear. Loki falls silent, his glowing eyes just staring at the mortal who dares to play his own game against him. Sora realizes his desperate plea isn't enough to move the god before him. Loki seems amused by this, questioning if our boy has finally caught on. But Sora isn't just begging for divine power anymore. He has a much bigger goal in mind. He declares that what he truly wants is absolute, overwhelming strength to crush every single enemy. With his eyes glowing, he balls his fist and demands to know if the god will grant him that kind of power. Loki's patience finally snaps, telling the arrogant mortal to watch his tone. The god's immense pressure washes over Sora, questioning how a mere human dares to speak to him that way. In an instant, Loki snatches our boy up, effortlessly holding him in his grasp. Yet even while being choked out, Sora grins, realizing this whole encounter was a setup and that Loki wants something from him. The god confirms it, revealing his own withered body needs Sora to absorb his divine power to be revived. Loki roars in fury, tightening his grip and calling Sora an insolent wretch for his audacity. But even as he's being crushed, Sora just taunts him, asking if he finally hit a nerve. The god's desperation boils over, and he actually begs Sora to kill him and take his divine power already. Loki admits it's a bold claim for a mortal to make, but the situation is dire. Our boy just smirks, pushing further by asking if the real problem is that Loki is too weak to even give the power away. Visibly annoyed, Loki releases his grip, setting Sora down on the palm of his hand. Now, standing on somewhat equal footing, Sora finally gets a moment to properly assess the god before him. Loki then reveals that the divine power Sora already has is from the Norse gods, and it isn't fading like it should. With this new information, Sora boldly asks the trickster god if this makes them equals. It all clicks into place for him. The power he absorbed back in the tower was the power of a Norse god all along. Loki explains that as second in command of the Norse pantheon, he had no choice but to team up with a mortal. The god points a clawed finger, condescendingly acknowledging the mortal's courage for talking back to him. But our boy is cut from a different cloth, grabbing the god's finger and sarcastically asking if a simple greeting will do. Loki's eye flares with power as he warns Sora to remember the fates of those who disrespected him in the myths. Unfazed, Sora just smirks, telling the god that empty threats only tarnish his legendary reputation. The trickster god can only seethe, calling him an annoying brat. But Sora's confidence doesn't waver for a second. Suddenly, Loki breaks into a coughing fit, admitting that his weakened state won't hold for much longer. He urges them to be quick, but Sora sees right through it, realizing that without his power, the god is just an empty vessel. Seeing his opening, Sora agrees to an alliance, asking the so-called trickster god what grand scheme he has in mind. With the terms set, Loki finally reveals the plan. Sora has to go back to the tower. Sora is dumbfounded, his mind reeling as he remembers the hell he escaped. Loki wants him to return to the abyss. The god explains there are 16 towers on the planet, each one a seal containing a different god's divine power. He elaborates that while the towers of the other Norse gods have been unlocked, none have awakened yet. Loki's eyes burn with fury as he declares they cannot allow outsiders to steal what is rightfully theirs. Our boy cuts right to the chase, asking the obvious question: if they're so powerful, why haven't they awakened? With a roar of pure rage, Loki reveals the shocking truth. They were betrayed. He finally names their common enemy, the ones responsible for their downfall, the Greek gods. Seeing Sora's desire for strength, Loki switches tactics, offering him the absolute power he craves with a simple choice. The first option materializes before Sora: the legendary, blazing flame of the giant Surtur. Loki explains that this flame will purify his divine power, forging it into a primordial force that he can finally control. But there's a nasty catch. The flame demands a constant supply of divine power, otherwise it will burn our boy's body to ash. Loki then presents the second option, planting a seed of the world tree inside him. This would turn his body into the ultimate vessel, allowing him to perfectly control his own power. The downside? It's a staggeringly long and arduous path to mastery. Sora realizes he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. One path is parasitic, the other is just too slow. But just as he's weighing the options, Loki grins, revealing there's a third, hidden choice: take both. He explains they have a perfect synergy. The tree feeds on the flame's pure power, while the tree's growth protects his body from being incinerated. The price for this perfect balance, however, is absolute ruin. Ragnarok itself will come to crush him. If he loses control for even a split second, his body will be instantly turned to charcoal. With the stakes laid bare, Loki looms over him, demanding our boy make his choice. Sora just smirks, realizing this whole thing was a setup. Loki never planned on giving him a real choice. So without a shred of hesitation, our boy declares he'll take both paths, embracing the flame and the world tree. Loki absolutely loses it, letting out a booming laugh, thrilled that this mortal chose the path of total destruction. But the process is pure agony, as Sora feels his entire body being incinerated by the conflicting energies. A fiery sigil burns itself onto one hand, while the other channels the world tree's power directly into his blade. He screams as the powers violently clash, dark tendrils wrapping around his arm like a parasite. Loki watches, fascinated, as the two powers that should repel each other actually begin to fuse within Sora. He can't quite believe it, musing that the last hope of the Norse gods now rests in a fragile, short-lived mortal. Suddenly, the vision shatters, and Sora's consciousness is violently thrown back into the ruined city. He snaps back to reality mid-fall, completely dumbfounded to find himself right in the face of a giant monster. Turns out, the monster is Fogaru, the so-called dark god, and he's absolutely horrified by what's happening. He screams in agony, realizing his divine power is being siphoned away by our boy. Sora's new power manifests as grinning shadow minions, and Fogaru desperately vows to keep him out of the Norse tower. Meanwhile, across the ruined city, another storm is brewing. Two major factions square off in the streets. Mukushima Shuya's crew against the forces led by Mukai Licht. Mukai doesn't waste any time, gathering crackling blue energy into his fist. His forces watch on as their leader prepares to make his move. With a smirk, he asks if today is the 17th, hinting that their grand plan is finally in motion. He unleashes his full power, declaring that they will seize their prize, no matter the cost. And watching it all unfold from the shadows is none other than Loki, the god of mischief himself. Back with our boy Sora, he's screaming in agony, trying to tame the chaotic energies tearing him apart from the inside. The two powerful hunters who saved him can only watch on, completely powerless to intervene. The blonde rescuer is dumbfounded, realizing the kid is insane enough to try and fuse two opposing forces within his own body. Shuzenji grits his teeth, silently begging Sora to just hang in there and survive this reckless gamble. With a final, desperate roar, Sora's eyes blaze with power as a blinding light completely engulfs him. Suddenly, the pain is gone, and he finds himself floating aimlessly in a silent, white void. He looks down at his hands, utterly confused, trying to figure out where the hell he is. The world around him is a formless white expanse, and he can't shake the feeling he's been ripped from reality. His vision finally focuses on a breathtaking sight, a colossal, ethereal tree, and he wonders if he's trapped in his own mind. Hez left speechless, realizing Hez witnessing the legendary world tree's seed, freshly planted and growing before his very eyes. Our boy comes to his senses, finding himself in a desolate, unfamiliar wasteland. Before he can even process it, a colossal green entity appears, and Sora can only ask himself who this being is. The giant's glowing gaze locks onto him, and Sora realizes with a chill that he's been noticed. The being declares that through Sora's chaotic power, it can see his entire past. It tells him his mind is nothing but a scorched wasteland, burned to ash by the flames of his own rage. Claiming to be Yggdrasil's messenger, it shows him a vision of his lost family, offering to heal his broken soul. But Sora's no fool. He smirks, knowing an offer this good always comes with a steep price. The entity chuckles, calling it a win-win situation for the both of them. It then makes its demand, telling Sora to choose it as his personal overseer. Suddenly, a golden streak of energy rips through the air as a new voice screams at Sora not to be fooled. The messenger is suddenly blasted back by an immense force, completely caught off guard. Turns out, the golden streak was a massive, ornate axe spinning through the air with divine power. Wielding it is a new player in this cosmic game, a fiery warrior made of pure golden energy. She screams that the messenger is a liar, only wanting to enslave Sora and turn the mortal world into fertilizer for his tree. The messenger looks on, dumbfounded, as this new entity challenges his authority in this spiritual realm. He scoffs, claiming her demand is even more insane to follow the path of the giant Surt. But the golden warrior is resolute, declaring that her one and only purpose is to burn everything to ash. The messenger just smirks, unimpressed by her dramatic entrance and apocalyptic threats. With a roar, the two divine beings clash, their immense energies tearing the very fabric of this mental world apart. The golden warrior taunts him, asking if he can still read Sora's mind now that our boy has made his choice. She mocks the messenger, saying that besides his rotten tree, everything has already been burned away. Ignoring her, the giant green entity turns his gaze from the fiery warrior. He looks straight at Sora and tells him that the choice is now his to make. But before that, he insists our boy read something very carefully. With a flick of his wrist, he rips a glowing page from his divine book and sends it flying. The page floats directly into Sora's hand, who catches it, completely dumbfounded. He looks closer and realizes what his holding is a guide of some kind. Ezra's notebook. The notebook lays out the 3 steps to becoming an Ezra, starting with choosing a god to serve. The second step is a brutal descent into the abyss to fight a battle royale against other candidates. And the final step, be the last one standing to become a god's proxy and gain control of the tower. The notebook explains that an Ezra is always watched by their god, who can punish them or revoke their power on a whim. On top of that, they're granted a divine weapon, a tool that lets them channel their god's overwhelming strength. The Golden Warrior, Searcher's Flame, rages that she should have just burned Sora to cinders instead of dealing with this. But Yggdrasil's messenger just scoffs, telling her that's beyond her capabilities, as the two primordial forces clash. Sora, however, just smirks, thinking any normal human would have passed out from the pressure by now. The two divine beings loom over him, and the messenger finally asks him to make his choice. But our boy looks up with pure defiance and tells them they've got the whole situation twisted. He scoffs at their offer, saying they're acting like he should be grateful for the gift they're dangling before him. A monstrous shadow erupts from Sora as he realizes that no matter who he picks, he'll just be their puppet. Then he flips the script, declaring that they're wrong, he's not their puppet. They're going to be his. Sora declares their powers are already his, crushing the messenger's green essence in his fist. He does the same to the Golden Warrior's flame, who screams for him to let her go. But our boy is merciless, grabbing the fiery goddess by the face as she lets out a pained shriek. He completely absorbs their power, leaving only shimmering constructs of their former might in his hands. The once mighty messenger is left dumbfounded, staring at a tiny sapling that is all that remains of his power. With the world tree now reflected in his eye, Sora's gaze turns ice cold. He crushes the miniature tree, declaring that from this moment on, gods are nothing but prey to him. With a single punch, he shatters the entire mental world, breaking free from their illusion. He finds himself back in the throne room, facing the shadowy god Loki, who calmly asks which choice he made. But Loki just smirks, revealing that it never mattered. Sora has already fallen right into his trap. Instead of answering, Sora's body erupts with a new, terrifying power he forged himself. He smirks, telling the god to look for himself as a strange new mark glows on his hand. With a burst of speed, our boy lunges past the god, telling him he's out of this stupid game. Loki is dumbfounded, realizing the mark isn't from the fire god or the world tree, it's something completely new. He can't believe it. Sora somehow fused both divine powers, becoming the first Ezra candidate for the 17th tower. This monumental event sends a shockwave across the world, as a system alert announces Tower 17 has been unlocked for early access, stunning two powerful figures. Mukai grits his teeth in fury, realizing someone has beaten them to the punch. His companion, Duju Rim, immediately wonders if their rivals from the Tiger Roar Guild are the ones pulling the strings. Wasting no time, their entire party bolts through the ruined city, determined to break through and reach the new tower first.